After reincarnating as a goblin, using my wits, I captured a pretty human female mage. In just 1 week, I made her give birth to 7 children. Because goblins have a racial talent, ignoring reproductive isolation, whether pure and kind elf maidens, or brutal and vicious dragon mothers, or the most holy angels, all can breed offspring for me. Give me 3 years, and I'll fill this magic continent with my progeny. Just then a 5-person adventure squad attacked my cave. They beat back most of my goblins. Notably, there was a nice-looking girl in the squad. After a fierce battle, my goblin tribe was annihilated. The mage girl fell into the water avoiding the chief's attack, and was caught by me lying in ambush. I wanted to cripple the mage girl, but after communicating with her while she was unconscious, I dismissed the idea because I discovered I could absorb her magic power through this. Now only I remain of this goblin tribe, but no problem. With the mage girl I can quickly raise a new goblin tribe. From first seeing her, my blood started boiling. The mage is called Daisy. When she woke I shoved 3 to 4 purple berries into her mouth. Before Daisy could speak, I gagged her with the purple berries. To obtain Daisy, the excessive purple pulp made her go a bit crazy, and she passed out. The next day I was woken by Daisy's struggles. I removed the vines gagging her mouth. She lit up the dark cave with fire to see her surroundings. Seeing I was a goblin, cold sweat rolled down her head as her heart sank to the bottom. After cooking food, I carried Daisy and fed her mouth to mouth. The next few days, Daisy was mechanically toyed with by me. Both her mouths were stuffed with food daily. By the 4th day her belly was swollen. She finally recalled the goblin's terrifying breeding speed. In the blink of an eye it was the 7th day and Daisy started giving birth. As first-time parenthood I was a bit nervous, watching her intently. Like a human mother, Daisy birthed 6 goblin babies. Suddenly cries rose behind me. I turned to see a human baby bawling on the furs, with only slightly different pale blue eyes. I put it into Daisy's arms. She was also confused. What's going on? Can goblins and humans produce both species in one birth? Daisy now felt conflicted. In just 7 days she became a mother, with 6 goblin kids. And a human baby too. Probably due to goblin genes, the baby wanted to eat as well. Feeling Daisy nearby it started suckling intensely. I was amused and wanted some too, but Daisy stopped me. The past 2 months I must have served Daisy well. She sticks to me like glue and can't bear to part. She even often actively asks me to go all out on her. Now we live daily like a lovey-dovey couple. I come to the newborn cave and see my tribe's 3rd batch of kids. Our total population now exceeds 60. But our stored food only lasts the tribe 2 weeks. This place clearly can't satisfy me anymore. Next I plan to take out the lizardmen tribe to the west. I call all my sons for a meeting. Daisy as main mother must attend too. These lizardmen excel in aquatic combat. Their huts are in the wetlands. A frontal assault would be costly, Daisy reminds everyone. The boss chuckles sinisterly. Hasn't father been researching that potion? We can contaminate their wetlands with it, then easily conquer them afterwards. Previously when my sons were out hunting, I hid in the cave. Using the goblin berries I fed Daisy, to create a potion to arouse the primal desires of beasts. What a good idea, completely aligned with my initial aims in creating that potion, I shamelessly claim. Daisy rolls her eyes at me. But the potion quantity is limited. Though I planted some goblin berries ahead of time, it's still not enough to fully affect that wetland. Goblin berries grow quickly, fruiting in 7 days, 10 odd berries per plant when ripe, about 50 g each. In 2 weeks the yield can contaminate all the water at their base. But the potion is purple, won't they notice something's off? Filtering through charcoal powder from nearby wavy trees will do. Those lizardmen definitely won't realize anything. Daisy answered my doubts, the benefit of broad knowledge. Then let's prepare properly. 2 weeks later on a rainless day, a pale humanoid lies on a deck chair. Looking closely her skin has fine scales. After yelling, 2 green-scaled lizardmen respectfully bring a bowl of roe to her. She slowly sits up and takes the roe from her subordinate, slowly licking it with her tongue. The lizardmen don't immediately leave, but fan her with banana leaves. Most of the tribe are in the wetlands, lying enjoying the sunlight. But as the princess, how could she behave like the others? She has her own way of enjoying the sun's bath. The whole tribe immersed in the lovely sunlight, fanned by the slight breeze, she happily naps. But unbeknownst to them, a figure travels through the wetland. It's me. I sneak near the lizardman base and pour the colorless, sweet potion into the waters. After finishing I return to the main force. Besides the 40 goblins accumulated over 3 months, I consumed all the mothers, birthing over 40 newborns hidden in the bushes. The princess is very unhappy today, her monthly sunny day ruined by the noise below. Many tribesmen below seem to be doing incomprehensible exercises. The lizardman chief had protected her very well. Though an adult for some time, she remains ignorant of such matters. Still unclear of the situation, she orders them to stop. But the normally fawning tribesmen completely ignore her, working even harder instead. This infuriates her. Never had anyone dared disobey her before. She decides to tell her father to arbitrate. But finding him, she sees he's also doing that thing. Bewildered by the situation, the wetlands faintly tremble. The white lizard man feels something is wrong. Yet her father still does that incomprehensible thing. Does it have such great appeal? The little princess anxiously goes to her dad and splashes him with water, either finishing him or the water worked. The lizard man chief finally returns to normal. Reacting to the tremors, he bursts out and the princess follows. A ghastly sight appears. Many huts built over the wetland collapsed. The waters dyed blood red, floating lizard man and goblin heads and limbs, like a bloody stew. Most eye-catching on the battlefield is the boss, a giant goblin over 5 m tall. He grabs a lizard man and bites down, popping it loudly. The shocking image makes the little princess retreat 2 steps. Many lizardmen join the fight, but some still indulge in the exercise. Seeing this, the enraged lizardman chief grabs his spear and charges at the most conspicuous boss on the battlefield, smashing through goblins along the way. The usually dull boss finally smiles seeing the chief rush at him, though it looks very sinister to the lizardmen. Casually grabbing a nearby lizardman head, he flung it at the lizardman chief, instantly enraging him. The boss kept throwing more heads. Finally, the lizardman chief charged at the boss, feeling like centuries passed in those few hundred meters. Pointing her spear at the boss, she attacked based on her hunting experience. But the strange glow on the boss's right arm spiraled, and his fist instantly smashed into the lizardman chief. Her scales and body were sent flying by the punch. Seeing this, I decided not to make a move. We had surely won. The little princess saw this and her heart bled, watching her tribesmen killed one by one. She wanted to help but also feared, and recalled something learned recently when she came of age. She started preparing to cast it. A white glow emanated from her as chill spread out. Just as she readied her spell, she felt herself being licked. She couldn't focus anymore and her gathering magic was disrupted. Opening her eyes, a hideous goblin clung to her, its long tongue licking her while her guards lay fallen around. The little princess pushed at its face, but that just encouraged it more. It pounced fiercely, pinning her down and licking her face wildly. She couldn't stand this and tried erupting her inner magic, but found it somehow blocked and unsummonable. Unable to bear the humiliation, and from too many shocks that day, the little princess blacked out. Time passed quickly. This past month, the little princess had witnessed her tribe slowly conquered, then was pestered by the vile blue goblin, before passing out. Upon waking, her surroundings were pitch black, limbs all bound. She then heard approaching footsteps daily, drawing closer slowly. She could tell it was the same goblin each time. Every day the third son came and forced unknown liquids into her mouth. Then she desperately wanted to do that thing the tribesman did that day. Afterwards the third son would pull out some of her scales, take some blood, extract some teeth. Only after finishing would he feed her bit by bit until stuffed full. The first few days were painful, but she got used to it. Meanwhile she felt something large come out below twice, similar to aunties in her tribe laying lizard eggs. So she was now bearing the evil goblin's children? In the lab, Daisy and I experiment together on the white lizardman's blood. After seeing the white lizardman on the battlefield, Daisy had warned me to capture her. As a special individual among lizardmen, a frost lizardman. They have an affinity for ice magic and learn some frost spells after maturity, like how the third son knows some blood magic. But frost lizardmen are more precious than goblin shamans, with many icy components in their bodies. I planned to sell her after she birthed some young, but the third son took a liking to her, so Baijia became my daughter-in-law. After conquering the lizardman tribe, my tribe population exploded. With enough food, goblins multiply fast. By end August we had 100 goblins. With lizardman captives we now have 150. On September 1st, a good day, Baijia finally saw light again, very confused now. The goblin who always toyed with her now held 3 white baby lizardmen and brought them before her. She could feel they were her children. The third son took her to the tribe's new goblin prison. At the prison's stone bars stood a battered, burly lizardman. Looking closely she recognized her father. Seeing him she wanted to rush over, but the third son held her back easily. The lizardman chief saw his daughter and shook off his haggardness, rushing to the bars trying to break out but no longer had the strength. Daily tortured by my potions, his former power was gone. Just then I came over holding the 3 baby lizardmen. See them? Have you considered submitting? We're in-laws now. The lizardman chief looked at the babies, one a frost lizardman like Baijia. He glanced at Baijia, completely under my control. Exhaling heavily, he slowly unclenched his fists and stated his terms. I can lead my people as your subordinate tribe, but the frost lizardman must be our deputy chief. I agreed since giving the little frost lizardman to them costs nothing, and she inherited my bloodlines anyway. Moreover, I now need the lizardmen's help to fully build up and make them more docile. No harm in that. Goblins fight ferociously when told, but building is incomprehensible to them. Lizardmen are much smarter than goblins. At least they build huts over the wetlands, unlike goblins just digging caves. That's why I recruited them, and didn't exterminate lizardman males on my order. Of the 31 remaining lizardmen, the chief and 8 others are male. Goblins dislike harming females of a race, since they can birth lizardman or goblin offspring. After the lizardman chief took over, I gave her many blueprints and goblins to help build, and she started construction after seeing them. Daisy had long told me about nearby human forces. Our current location is Gillimaze, nearest are the humans, then beastmen and elves aren't far either. Daisy's previous adventure squad took a mission to explore the maze. They surveyed all the way until meeting that hothead Gonnery, and I hijacked them. According to Daisy, the nearest human town is 2 days away. There's also a nearby kobold tribe, and a minotaur tribe. These forces, including the earlier wetland route, all need clearing out or assimilating, hindrances to development that must be eliminated. The tribe population increases by 50-odd newborns each month, but offspring from my mates outpace the mothers. Like the other day, the second son birthed 4 wolf cubs. So more wolves, wolf knights and deer knights emerged in the tribe. But food is more lacking than offspring. This urgently needs farming. Only ample farmland can feed ample population. I envision the best way for goblins is going out raiding human villages, towns and adventurers, constantly pillaging and expanding. One day the whole magic continent will bow to goblins. Drafting the plan, Daisy watched frowning behind me. Your plan is very good. Those potions will be welcomed by the corrupt nobles. But they're greedier than you imagine. It won't be long before they investigate. How will you deal with it then? I'm taken aback. No hurry. Let me plan more carefully. Daisy's mouth curves slightly. I have a way. Want me to tell you? I frown. Looks like some whipping is in order. After a fight, she kicks me out of bed. Come clean and tell me if you have a solution. Finally, Daisy excitedly explains her method. Rely on her previous connections to build an adventurer town here. But small scale, some rights and benefits must be shared. Also, the blood moon in 3 months will randomly release energy to mutate some creatures. For most commoners living in towns and villages, surviving the blood moon will be a major issue. Many civilians will then seek refuge in my adventurer town. Lin Chen frowned. What exactly happens during the blood moon? During the blood moon, instead of the silver moon, the blood moon rises at night. It releases energy that randomly contaminates some creatures. Unless intentionally using the power of the blood moon, creatures above level 15 won't have any issues. The probability of contamination is not high among creatures below level 15, but contaminated creatures can devour others to quickly enhance themselves. Fortunately, the blood moon takes away those contaminated monsters when it ends. Major cities have protective barriers, so the blood moon has almost no impact on the people there. However, for ordinary people living in small towns and villages, surviving under the blood moon is a big problem. Small towns may have some means of defense, but for villages that can't afford adventurers, whether they can survive or not depends on luck. For these villagers, the real danger comes not from the contaminated villagers, but from the monsters lurking near the village. Newly contaminated individuals only have the ability to devour and don't gain much strength. The villagers can handle those contaminated individuals, but the monsters, especially the wolves that travel in packs, can become extremely dangerous once they develop. So, the villagers long for a sense of security. When the time comes, we just need to spread the news to attract them to seek refuge. After listening, Lin Chen thoughtfully stroked his chin. The events during the blood moon are very similar to raising goo worms. Indeed, there are quite a few individuals in the mage community who hold that view, but that kind of existence is too far away from us. Let's focus on how to proceed next. Based on Daisy's input, Lin Chen adjusted his previous plans. First, all the lizardmen would be used to build the tribe. Considering the situation of the blood moon, Lin Chen planned to construct a semicircular castle against the mountain as a residence, along with a surrounding wall and a larger moat behind the wall. The goblins would focus on plundering nearby resources during this time. As Daisy mentioned before, they could appropriately rob the dog-headed and half-beast tribes they encountered on the road. As for the dog-headed tribe with only 20 or so members, it no longer had a reason to exist. While finalizing the detailed plan, Lin Chen had already conveyed the location of the dog-headed tribe to Lin Qingtian and the others through the bloodline pattern. Tonight, they should be able to bring back some dog-headed laborers. After perfecting the details, it was already 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and the heavy rain arrived as scheduled. Previously, Lin Chen didn't have much concept of it, but now sitting in the room that the lizardmen had initially built, he could quietly experience the downpour. Watching the rain, Lin Chen seemed to be brewing something. After taking a few deep breaths, he said to the person behind him, "Bring some food." Several cute little rabbits were killed again. After learning a bit of magic, cooking became much more convenient. Lin Chen could accurately control the temperature by manipulating the flames. Because he found Daisy's cooking to be rubbish, Lin Chen personally took charge of the kitchen. Steaming, braising, stewing, and deep frying, he tried them all. He ate them with the water honey he had harvested, the honey from those bees before. Although the seasonings were limited and he couldn't achieve perfect braising and stewing, the Gonda's world was filled with magic, so even if it wasn't the meat of extraordinary creatures, it was still quite good. After eating and drinking his fill, Lin Chen lay quietly on the homemade recliner, holding some magical insights given by Daisy to study. Life was very pleasant, commanding his descendants and slaves to work hard, and he himself had already settled into a happy life. Daisy, why is the shape of the water arrow spell spherical with several nodes? Because there is a power node inside. After injecting magic into it, it sprays out water to provide power, so it looks like a water arrow. Is the arrowhead also round? That's the beginner level for newcomers. Once you have mastered the stable structure of the sphere, you can make improvements on your own. Alright, let me see your improved model. This is a magician's secret. It's impolite to pry into it. Lin Chen glanced playfully at Daisy, and with his right hand, he gently pinched the snowflake that Daisy was holding onto while sitting next to him on a small chair. What's yours is mine. Daisy pouted, a hint of tears shimmering in her yellow eyes, and she turned her head away. It was clear that the magician valued his magic greatly. Well, it seems that simply taking action won't be enough. We'll have to resort to some unconventional methods. Just as the heavy rain stopped, another storm was about to come. A new day began with Lin Chen being kicked out of bed, or rather, he had played so wildly that he ended up embracing Daisy on a lounge chair instead of sleeping in his bed. No harm done, since they were both awake now. Lin Chen carefully placed Daisy on the lounge chair, covered her with a slightly tattered robe, and put on his homemade shorts. He was ready to start the new day. The goblin tribe that was sent out last night to eliminate the dog-headed people returned successfully, and it seemed they had some unexpected gains. Slowly making his way downstairs, well, the construction of this building was quite casual. Lin Chen's living quarters were built directly on top of the previously constructed prison, but it didn't really matter since it blended in with the mountain. It made sense for the cave entrance and the prison area to be close to each other. The stone prison couldn't guarantee safety, so these prisoners were all fed Lin Chen's self-developed purple dragon potion. The faint sounds heard on the second floor became much clearer downstairs, where the pent-up frustrations were unleashed. After a night of torment, all the prisoners were left paralyzed on the ground. The goblins sent out last night to exterminate the dog-headed people also successfully captured a group of adventurers, most of whom were missing limbs. At first glance, there were no women, just a bunch of men. Lin Chen's interest waned considerably. He called the goblins to bring forward a skinny guy and began questioning him. Did you come here on a mission or of your own accord? The skinny guy was clearly a cowardly fellow, and trembling, he confessed everything he knew. We came here to explore on behalf of the city of Temmen. We didn't mean to offend your authority. Please forgive me, humble as I am. Obviously, he wasn't very articulate. Alright, your 4 teammates are over there, choose one to kill. The skinny man seemed stunned for a moment, then hesitantly walked towards the strongest adventurer. Captain, it's not my fault. I believe as a holy knight, you are willing to help your team members. The skinny man stared at the strong adventurer, using all his strength to try and finish him off. But Lin Chen had drugged all of them and confiscated their equipment, which meant the holy knight still had the ability to resist. As Lin Chen had anticipated, the holy knight suddenly launched an attack, intending to finish off the skinny man. The skinny man gritted his teeth, abruptly dropped to the ground, ignoring the blows from the holy knight, and bit towards the holy knight's genitals. No matter how the holy knight struck, the skinny man refused to let go, and his hands reached towards another opening. Finally, the holy knight fainted, and the skinny man took the opportunity to deliver the final blow. Seeing the skinny man covered in blood and wounds, Lin Chen smiled and slowly applauded him. The prison suddenly became eerily silent, as if everyone else was frozen, and only Lin Chen's applause echoed. Not bad, you're a good dog. Swear it. The world of Gandhas has a will of its own, and the oath made to it cannot be violated. Immediately, the skinny man wanted to make a binding oath to become Lin Chen's slave. Lin Chen glanced at the other 3 adventurers with a smile that seemed both mocking and nonchalant, making his intentions clear. After a struggle, the 3 of them made the same oath as the skinny man, and now their bodies and minds were under Lin Chen's control. He. From now on, you'll help me manage the slaves, including those goblins. Follow the plan I give you and find a way to get things done within the specified time. Sir Vincent obeys his master's command. He. Lin Chen couldn't help but let out a villainous laugh for some reason. A month had passed, and the town had started to take shape. The 11 goblins brought back from the goblin tribe were skilled in digging, which accelerated the construction of the foundation. Lin Chen felt reassured using these different races because the blue-skinned goblins who inherited the bloodline patterns and their offspring were not like the green-skinned goblins. Their offspring had the potential to inherit the mother's race, so after a few generations, they could fully assimilate. Just like these goblins that were brought back, most of them were females. They had just given birth a few days ago, so Lin Chen handed them over to the male goblins. This way, the goblin tribe would be completely assimilated. The first building to be completed was Lin Chen's mansion. Lin Chen was an easygoing person and didn't really care where he lived, but Sir Vincent insisted on building it first, so Lin Chen had no choice but to enjoy it. However, after the mansion was built, the prison area no longer flooded. The Vetum and other slimes that were kept there had to be relocated. Fortunately, a moat was dug outside the walls, although it was a simple version for raising and defending slimes. The width and depth would be gradually increased after the blood moon. The construction of the wall was also quite casual. First, 2 rows of wooden walls were erected, and then they were filled with stones and slime secretions. Fortunately, Lin Qinchuan's bloodline inheritance skill included a blood enchantment. By using blood, he could buff these walls, and the final product would be usable. The laborers worked there, while Lin Chen enjoyed his leisure time. He made some modifications to the models he was studying, such as changing the water attribute magic power of the water arrow model to blood energy. After some adjustments, he created the blood arrow technique. During this time, Lin Chen also actively explored the mysteries of the bloodline patterns, but unfortunately, he still didn't have much clue. Daisy speculated about the bloodline patterns and shared her thoughts with him. It was highly likely that they were a type of advanced natural magic pattern, one that was nurtured by the Gila maze. After listening to the explanation, Lin Chen still didn't fully understand. After all, Daisy was only level 16, and Lin Chen was about to surpass her. He was currently level 15. Their knowledge of this world and magic was limited. In addition to being the slave leader and helping Lin Chen exploit the workers, Sir Vincent also tried to please Lin Chen every day. It had to be said that humans were clever. With his intelligence, he found many interesting things to offer Lin Chen. I showed you the plan before, and the construction is progressing faster than expected. You've done well. Now, focus on attracting more people to come here. The city walls can accommodate about 1,000 refugees. You can handle the goblins as you see fit. Before the blood moon, I want to see many villagers who have migrated here outside the city walls, with their small houses already built. With subordinates, Lin Chen naturally wouldn't do everything himself. The remaining time, Lin Chen always spends it studying. Although through a series of exercises, Lin Chen can absorb magic and achieve a similar effect to dual cultivation, the increase in magic and slight improvement in mental power have limited impact on his strength. According to Lin Chen's requirements, his daily routine now consists of reading in the morning, conducting experiments in the afternoon, and meditating after exercising at night, which is very regular. Half of the castle space is used as a laboratory, with Lin Chen and Daisy having their own separate rooms. As for Lin Qingchuan, just find a place for it. The previous dungeon has been converted into a storage room and a goblin berry cultivation room, while the goblin breeding room has been moved elsewhere. After careful consideration, Lin Chen decided to place the prison in the underground cave, as it is more concealed and secure there. The original prison has been transformed into a living room, and the entrance to the cave has been adjusted to connect with the laboratory. Upon entering Lin Chen's laboratory, neatly arranged dissected specimens can be seen piled up on one side: wolves, deer, rabbits, goblins, lizardmen, dog-headed people. Lin Chen has dissected most of the creatures he could find. On the other side, there is a cabinet similar to a Chinese medicine cabinet, containing various things that can be found nearby. Thanks to Lin Chen's third daughter-in-law's scales, these things are well preserved, especially the dissected bodies, which are all frozen in ice. Lin Chen is currently studying the crops in this area. When Tae brought back two main crops, blue-striped wheat and blue beans. The wheat ears of the blue-striped wheat are similar to the wheat in the previous life. The stems of the blue-striped wheat are very short, averaging only about 1 meter. This should be an evolutionary adaptation to the daily heavy rain, so that the stems do not break during heavy rain. The husks of these wheat grains are blue, and the grains inside also have a slight blue color. Combined with many specimens in the laboratory and some characteristics of Lin Chen himself, it is not difficult for Lin Chen to conclude that many creatures in the Gila region are influenced by water attribute magic, showing a blue appearance and containing a certain amount of water attribute magic. In the Gila region, where the precipitation is excessive, water tolerance is essential. According to St. When the water submerges the blue-striped wheat, it can still survive for a month without being drowned. Blue beans are leguminous crops in this world. The stems are also very short. They can stabilize the soil and enrich the soil nutrients, making them less susceptible to being washed away by rainwater. The mainstream practice in the area is to interplant these two crops in a ratio of 2 to 1. Interestingly, the nearby Tauren tribe also cultivates in the same way. Yes, these Tauren guys also know how to cultivate. This has made Lin Chen very interested. After a detailed investigation, he found that there are more than 200 Tauren in that area. Currently, they are still beyond the reach of their tribe. But Lin Chen is not in a hurry. After the blood moon, the goblins will definitely recover much faster than the Tauren. At that time, he can directly recruit them. Returning to the experiment, Lin Chen saw that Daisy would record her experiments, and he thought this method was good, so he also made one for himself. Currently, Lin Chen's notes include preliminary ideas for the purple dragon potion, the magical structure of slimes, the relationship between blood-red inscriptions and bloodlines, the study of the special properties of blood, the analysis of goblin berry components, the study of the fire-breathing organ of dog-headed people, research on the frost lizardmen, research on mutations and evolution under magic, the concept of synthetic beasts, research on the magic model of water arrows, insights on magic nodes. Lin Chen has written nearly 50 pieces of parchment, and now he can understand why some people like to record these things. Seeing his own accumulation, he truly feels a sense of pride. As a result, every piece of parchment paper made by Lin Chen is carefully crafted, strictly following the order of wolf skin, rabbit skin, deer skin, goblin skin. Each piece of skin is different from the previous one. Picking up the blue-striped wheat, he walked to his lab bench. Now his experimental equipment was much more abundant than before, and he could make preliminary judgments about the properties of certain materials. For example, Lin Chen now ground the blue striped wheat into a solution in a container with water, and divided the solution into several test tubes. In the first test tube, Lin Chen dropped in his daughter-in-law's blood. Yes, her blood is very sensitive to water attribute magic. If it turns blue after being dropped into the test tube, it can be preliminarily determined that the contents of the test tube have water attributes. After dropping it in, the test tube showed a very faint blue color, indicating that these grains contained a trace amount of water attribute. Judging by the degree of blue, the amount is very small, but the advantage is that this thing can be mass-produced. Lin Chen picked up the second test tube and dropped in fresh slime mucus. Slimes can eat most things, and their mucus has decomposition ability, but they do not decompose inorganic substances. The approximate amount of nutrients can be determined based on the equal rate of decomposition and the final clarity. Soon, a clear test tube appeared, which was almost entirely nutrients, with negligible impurities, just as Lin Chen had expected. After trying a few more times, Lin Chen began to measure quantitatively. The final calculated data was nutrient coefficient 0.5. The nutrient coefficient was defined by Lin Chen for convenience. A coefficient of 1 corresponds to the amount of slime mucus consumed per gram. A coefficient of 100 is roughly equivalent to the amount consumed by an adult non-extraordinary human in one meal. For example, 200 grams of blue striped wheat can meet the needs of a normal person's meal. Of course, this data is estimated by St. Wen and the others, so it is not very accurate. Lin Chen also thought of a magic coefficient. A coefficient of 1 for the magic coefficient corresponds to the amount of magic power in a magic node. Unfortunately, there is currently no way to measure magic power. The nutrient coefficient is still normal, but the magic coefficient is a bit low and needs to be improved urgently. Lin Chen wrote down his current evaluation of this crop in his notebook. Next, Lin Chen tested the blue beans, and the data showed nutrient coefficient 0.6. It was slightly higher than the blue striped wheat, but the yield per acre of blue beans must be much lower than that of blue striped wheat. After repeated calculations, Lin Chen recorded them in his notebook, and then turned to the page with the preliminary concept of the purple dragon potion. Lin Chen had always attached great importance to this project, mainly because it had high economic benefits, and Lin Chen had already made some breakthroughs. According to the personal experience of St. Wen and the others, the purple dragon potion developed by Lin Chen was already more effective than many products on the market. Therefore, Lin Chen also made some preparations for mass production, such as establishing a complete set of production, collection, and processing pipelines for raw materials. In the dungeon, he opened up many spaces to grow goblin berries, and used the bloodline command to have goblin machinery collect them and throw them into a manpower grinder that connected to the next level. Of course, the grinder was also operated by goblins. After grinding, the purple juice would flow directly to the lower level. Lin Chen designed this level as a huge pool to collect the dripping purple juice, and the slimes in the pool helped clean up impurities. While the slimes ate the impurities, they also swallowed some aphrodisiac substances, so the number of slimes in the pool was strictly controlled. And in the magical and highly mutated Gandas, biological mutations were happening all the time. Lin Chen believed that slimes that were full could quickly produce ones that could spray aphrodisiac substances, or ones that just didn't consume aphrodisiac substances and could clean impurities without any consumption. The transportation afterwards was also simple. Just call the goblin for barrel transportation. They may not be very intelligent, but they can still follow mechanical instructions. Lin Chen had a great interest in plants, as they were renewable resources. In order to improve economic benefits, Lin Chen also established a plant cultivation room. As a communist successor who has studied biology, I have some understanding of breeding. When I shared with Daisy, she was surprised. The first batch of plants in this cultivation room were mutated using Lin Chen's own blood. As a child of the maze and with mutations related to blood, Lin Chen believes that his blood can definitely produce something good through mutation. Of course, goblins and lizardmen are also renewable resources that Lin Chen has studied more. Lin Chen and Daisy have thoroughly researched the bodies of goblins, deceased lizardmen, and dog-headed people. During this process, Lin Chen discovered some interesting phenomena, such as the relationship between lizardmen and water-scale flowers, and dog-headed people and fire-red grass. It should be a symbiotic relationship. When lizardmen consume water-scale flowers, it increases their affinity for water and strengthens their scales. When dog-headed people use fire-red grass, it increases their affinity for fire and has a certain chance of awakening a flamethrower organ. The growth of these two things can only occur near lizardmen and dog-headed people settlements, indicating that the substances needed for these crops are produced during the metabolic processes of lizardmen and dog-headed people. However, the relationship between goblins and goblin fruits remains to be studied. Lin Chen has cultivated several different types of goblin berries in the cave, unlike water-scale grass and fire-red grass, which all look the same. And these types of goblin berries correspond to specific plants. This suggests that the production of goblin berries is likely due to the influence of certain substances emitted by goblins on these plants. Furthermore, goblins do not gain any substantial benefits from consuming these berries. Lin Chen conducted in-depth research on this matter. The breakthrough came from the reproductive method of goblins. Through the magic of water mirror, Lin Chen carefully observed the process of fertilization in the female goblins. Lin Chen discovered that the reason goblins almost always succeed in reproduction without protection is because their reproduction is a form of asexual reproduction. Goblins inject reproductive cells into the female's body, and these cells combine or plunder the mother's cells to form new cells, which then develop into the next generation. Lin Chen speculated that the reason for the appearance of larger goblins and goblin rituals with different species is likely due to the different combinations of these reproductive cells. After understanding all this, a wonderful plan emerged in Lin Chen's mind. Lin Chen couldn't help but laugh. The reproductive cells of goblins are highly active and have a shelf life of at least 1 month. By adding a small amount of goblin reproductive cells to the purple dragon potion and changing the method of use to external application, it will produce an effect of increasing accuracy. Normal goblins directly react to a certain extent when a large amount of reproductive cells enter the nursery. In the case of a small amount, the active reproductive cells of goblins will combine with the reproductive cells of the female and male, and then combine with each other. The resulting next generation should not be goblins, right? Well, let's talk about it later. If it can really be achieved, Lin Chen's descendants will be flourishing everywhere? Well, that's not something to think about now. Lin Chen shook his head and began his research on the flamethrower organ of the dog-headed people. Because only 4 intact dog-headed corpses were brought back, Lin Chen had to dissect each one carefully. Once in work mode, time flies by quickly. When Lin Chen left his laboratory again, it was already 3 days later, and the laboratory was filled with dog-headed organs. Thanks to the accumulated experience from previous dissections, the dissection of these dog-headed corpses went smoothly. After depicting the body structure of the dog-headed people on the dog-headed skin, Lin Chen planned to take a temporary rest. As soon as he stepped out of the laboratory door, Lin Chen felt dizzy. The mental exhaustion of the past 3 days was intense, and he hadn't eaten much either. Lin Chen almost fell down. Shaking his head, Lin Chen walked towards the kitchen. Standing outside the cafeteria, Lin Chen smelled a familiar aroma. Is that bread? Pushing the door open, Lin Chen saw Daisy dressed as a kitchen maid with a dirty face. There were a few bread-like things on the table that didn't quite look like bread. You're out? Do you want to eat the bread I made? I want to eat everything. Everything? Ah. After 3 days of hunger, not only did Lin Chen eat his fill of bread, but little Lin Chen did too. Lin Chen hugged Daisy, their bodies pressed tightly together, their breathing audible. Lin Chen couldn't help but take a bite of her delicate skin. Stop it, Lin Chen Tian, how are you going to arrange things? Daisy scolded Lin Chen with a glare. What do you mean arrange? Let nature take its course. Whatever happens, happens. If he dies, he dies. We don't lack one more child anyway. Lin Chen shrugged. No way. Daisy exploded. I absolutely won't allow it. You must come up with a plan to properly nurture our little Tian. After all, he's more like a human now, with almost no difference except for his faster growth rate. You should go see him later, he can already engage in basic communication. Oh, according to what you said before, the best learning time for humans is at the age of 10, right? That's when it's the best time to choose between becoming a mage or a knight and condensing chi. The body has excellent plasticity. Although Tian develops much faster than humans, he can't reach that stage all at once. Just wait a bit longer, he can barely walk now, let alone do basic exercises. Oh, Abu is taking care of him in the laboratory, isn't he? Daisy leaned on Lin Chen's body, her hands wrapped around him. Lazily, she said, now we can do things together with him, stimulate his interests, don't let him be like the eldest and second child who like to fight outside. The third child seems to prefer fighting over research. Obviously, being a mage offers more opportunities than being a knight, and we don't have any well-prepared chi seats for him. No need to worry so much. Goblins reproduce quickly anyway, if we can't handle it, we can just create another character. You, don't say that. Ah, stop it. Daisy's voice grew softer and softer. After a moment of tenderness, Lin Chen found Lin Qinhao. Walking into the room, Lin Chen saw Lin Qinhao reading at his desk. Lin Chen quietly approached to see what he was reading. The open book on the desk was the lecture notes Daisy had given him on magic nodes. Can you absorb and use magic now? Can you understand what's written here? Lin Chen instinctively asked, startling Lin Qinhao who suddenly appeared behind him. Father, I still can't use magic, but I can understand these things. I can barely use the most basic magic hand technique written on it. Lin Chen didn't react for a moment. Seeing Lin Qinhao's puzzled expression, Lin Chen used all his strength to create a magic hand using blood. However, the note of this spell was formed by congealed blood. Quickly retract the blood. Lin Chen immediately saw through the trick. By mobilizing blood to create this basic spell, and then injecting the power accumulated in the blood inscription into the spell, blood was used to make the node, and the blood energy in the inscription replaced the magic power. It had to be said that this idea was excellent. When Lin Chen made the water arrow spell before, he only replaced the energy of the activation spell with blood energy, but didn't change the node to be congealed blood. This immediately sparked Lin Chen's thinking. The essence of a magic node was to create a conductive medium using magic power to form a spell. This medium could be blood, or even flesh. Lin Chen immediately thought of those races that were naturally skilled in magic. Besides having innate organs like the kobolds, it was also possible that their internal organs and blood formed a spell model, allowing them to naturally use magic. The more Lin Chen thought about it, the more excited he became, so he hurriedly walked towards his laboratory. Just as he was leaving, he happened to see Daisy coming over. "What's going on? Why are you running so fast?" Lin Chen didn't stop either. I suddenly got inspired. When he arrived at the laboratory, Lin Chen took out the lizardman's body and his previous notes, and looked at the blood circulation diagram and organ arrangement diagram. Lin Chen continued to experiment with the connections between various organs, and there must be some special structures hidden among them. This is a natural evolution of techniques, just like the strengthening of scales on the lizardman chief's body that day. After comparing them, Lin Chen did find some tricks. Under each scale of the lizardman, there are some special parts that are directly connected to the heart through small ducts along the bones. It is estimated that when activated, the heart directly provides blood and energy to stimulate the formation of special structures in the scales for defense. Those ducts should serve as conduits for delivering energy. This seems a bit crude. After all, lizardmen are not a powerful race. However, it might be interesting to study the frozen lizardmen who died in battle in the future. Taking out the goblin's body, he could also find a separate pathway from the heart to the flamethrower organ. However, when studying the hobgoblin, he didn't find anything special. It seems that all the hobgoblins have focused on their reproductive organs. The substantial achievements lie in the scales of the lizardmen and the flamethrower organ of the goblins. There must be natural techniques hidden within them. Rain is the theme of the Gila region. The night was dark and the wind was high, accompanied by heavy rain. Fire prevention is not easy, but killing is much easier. A peaceful day in the countryside ended like this, and they should have enjoyed falling asleep to the sound of the rain. Unfortunately, a group of heavily wrapped individuals appeared near the village. The sound they made disturbed the watchdogs kept in the village, and after barking for a while, they all fell silent. Webb, as a member of the village, was not too panicked. He had experienced similar events many times before. The reason he was here helping the landlord with farming was simply because he was captured and brought here from another place. It was likely that he would encounter similar events again. Sure enough, a group of heavily wrapped individuals rushed in. At first glance, these people were not as tall as Webb, but Webb was accustomed to being submissive. He obediently covered his head with his hands and crouched down. As he walked with these people, Webb also heard many voices of resistance. Webb could only sigh at their youthfulness. In this area, there was not much difference between the villagers and the slaves. Webb was originally a slave from the interior, directly sold by slave traders to the vicinity of Tellay City, and was then sent to Montown to cultivate and develop the land. He was well aware that they were the slaves of those nobles who were developing the land. Although they could be considered assets of those nobles had many assets to manage. In Mont City, where poisons were rampant, the disappearance of their village really didn't attract much attention. With his head lowered, Webb was escorted all the way, and the bloodstains on the ground were still clearly visible. He just didn't know where the bodies had gone, and he didn't dare to think about it. Along the way, Webb was led without knowing the destination, but the food given to him on the way was a bit more than what he usually ate. Webb thought that if he could have this food all the time, it wouldn't be bad to mix with them. After 2 days of traversing through the mountains and forests, Webb roughly knew that they were getting closer to the undeveloped area. During this period, they encountered several waves of fierce beast attacks, and the team clearly lost a lot of people. There was a group of unkempt people, over 50 masked dwarves, and 4 fully armed individuals leading them. They arrived at a vast riverbank. Those people ordered the collection of enough vines. Webb and the others naturally didn't dare to object and followed the orders directly one by one. They all grabbed onto the vines, preparing to cross the river. When Webb and the others heard the command, they were initially stunned, only coming to their senses when those people started scolding. They saw 10 dwarves dragging 5 ropes and heading towards the river. The other dwarves were driving Webb and his group. The 4 humans were the last ones holding onto the 4 ropes, while the other dwarves were scattered around the group. Their swimming skills seemed to be surprisingly good. Webb, who had limited knowledge, could only think this way. In his understanding, there were only a few types of creatures. They struggled to cross the river, fortunately without encountering any obstacles. After enduring a long journey, Webb encountered a new intelligent race, the half-orcs. They looked similar to humans, except they had animal ears and tails, and some even had animal fur. The 4 leaders were negotiating with the half-orcs, but Webb didn't know what they were saying. He only knew that some people were permanently left behind here. They then continued their journey. After about 4 days, or maybe more, he had already been drenched in rain 4 times. He saw a relatively high city wall, not as high as Monty Town's, but still unattainable for him. Perhaps tired, his eyelids kept closing, and before they shut completely, he seemed to see several figures standing on top of the city wall. Master, Shi Wen has brought back the first batch of residents. Lin Chen looked at the residents who were brought back and nodded at Shi Wen. Have you collected their protection fees? The protection fees naturally referred to their previous wealth. We have transferred all the food we brought back to Lord Lin Qingtian. I believe it won't be long before Lord Lin Qingtian brings back the next batch of residents and the protection fees. Well done, tell me about the process. Master, based on the experience of our adventure team and Lady Daisy's adventure team, we optimized the route from Monty Town to here, passing through the more friendly half-orc tribe and crossing a river. When we went to retrieve the residents, we negotiated with the half-orcs and gave them a share of the spoils in exchange for safe passage. Half-orcs. We'll deal with them next year. What about Lin Qingtian and the others? Master Lin Qingtian, according to the map I drew, went to the villages around the 4 major cities to invade and spread the news that we can help the common people survive the blood moon. The villagers in the 4 major cities are very different from those in Monty Town. The villagers in Monty Town are like serfs, while those in the 4 major cities are treated more like individuals due to the abundant resources. During the blood moon, those who meet the conditions can even go to nearby towns to seek refuge. The purpose of the raids is to prevent some people from having the means to escape, and with the help of the spread of the news, some people will come on their own. We have also agreed with the half-orcs that if these people come, the spoils will be divided equally. Well done. Lin Chen finished speaking and looked down at the new residents below. Their faces were filled with suffering. For them, staying in Lin Chen's place or their previous place didn't make much difference. They could adapt to even continuous heavy rain, so what couldn't they adapt to? When building the city wall, we left a large amount of wood for them to use on their own. We allocate some meat from the warehouse every day for them to taste. Next, you need to sell the purple dragon elixir for me, but don't attract too much attention for now. This kind of elixir is always in high demand in the Gila Empire. She went. Make sure to complete the task. She went, the hired worker, took the order and went to work. Lin Chen looked at these people and pondered how to make use of them. First of all, the people who received the purple dragon elixir plus would definitely enjoy it. On one hand, it would rapidly increase the population, and on the other hand, it would facilitate research. Secondly, agriculture and animal husbandry needed to be developed. To the east of the tribe was a lush forest, while to the west, after deforestation, the already scarce trees decreased even further. It was all grass as far as the eye could see, suitable for grazing, and to the south was a suitable farmland. The farming season is from March to July, with January and February used to prepare idle land. The rest of the time, these farmers are idle. But since they are here with Lin Chen, they cannot remain idle. They will be mobilized to cultivate and graze. However, in order to slightly improve their motivation, Lin Chen will increase their treatment. The nobles in Monty Town and even the entire Terai city area do not provide any benefits. During the harvest season, most of the grain is confiscated, and after the blood moon, they distribute a suitable amount of grain based on how many are still alive. These farmers only receive enough for 2 meals a day, or even less. The nobles, who possess extraordinary power, are invincible among the pure postnatal races like humans. It is easy to win over these oppressed serfs. For them, Lin Chen is prepared to use something similar to the field system. Lin Chen designates a piece of public land that these people must manage every year, and Lin Chen doesn't care about anything else. They can fully benefit from what they produce on their own land. This is much more lenient than the traditional field system. Based on the completion of the public land, they can keep as much as they can. Of course, Lin Chen is definitely not a kind-hearted person. After an unknown amount of time, Webb slowly regained consciousness. Before he even opened his eyes, he smelled a fragrance. He was certain that it was the smell of meat. He only ate it once or twice a year, but he would never forget this taste. He eagerly sniffed the scent, greedily trying to absorb it all by himself. His actions attracted the attention of the people around him, but no one mocked him, because they were all the same. They had all acted the same way when the meat was brought out before. After sniffing around, Webb finally discovered that the source of the smell seemed to be nearby. When he opened his eyes, he saw a person dressed like the one who had kidnapped them holding meat in front of him. Instinctively, he sat on the ground and apologized to the person. But the person just threw the food on his legs and walked away. Webb was stunned. After the person had walked away for a while, the people around him approached and told Webb, "This is our new master's mercy." Yes. After you passed out yesterday, the master told us about the new rules here. That's right. They said something about implementing the field system here, and we have obligations and something else. We don't understand, but it seems like life will be a little better. The crowd eagerly told Webb about what had just happened. Webb had the same thoughts as them. How could it be so kind-hearted? Did they bring us here just to enjoy a good life? Webb clearly didn't believe it. The master is kind. You guys now have 2 choices. The first is to survive on your own outside, and the second is to accept the master's arrangement. Every morning, you will need to help build the second wall, and the rest of the time will be up to you. You are also allowed to build your own houses between the first and second walls this year. There will be a certain amount of food assistance every day, although it won't be enough for a few days. You can consider it yourselves, and those who choose the first option can leave before the storm comes. After finishing speaking, Estee said goodbye and left the temporary shelter, leaving everyone staring at each other. Webb saw surprise, excitement, and contemplation in the eyes of the people around him. Waking up to receive so much information was a bit overwhelming for him. Sitting in the dim mansion, Lin Chen silently watched the rain. Master, all 7 of the escapees have been captured. He continued to gaze at the rain, without giving much of a response. What awaits those runaway guys? It's pretty much what it sounds like. Blood moon. A moon that's the color of blood. It shines high in the sky, emitting a bewitching blood-red light. Those who are illuminated by it feel a chilling cold or a strange warmth. According to the information collected from Daisy and the residents, the early stages of the blood moon are not very dangerous. Powerful infected monsters may only appear after a dozen days. Within a radius of 10 kilometers around Lin Chen's place, everything has been cleared, and most of the rabbits raised for breeding have been eliminated, leaving only 200 breeding rabbits. In these 2 months, Lin Chen has already gathered 271 laborers. The people who migrated here have brought their own food, so the overall food pressure is not too great. Lin Chen has entrusted all the management of these people to SC Went, while he himself focuses on improving his own strength. After all, he really doesn't know how to manage these laborers, nor does he attach much importance to them. In his eyes, it's just a choice, and it's best if things go smoothly, but it doesn't matter if they don't. Went may not be good at management, but he has come up with a plan. The first batch of residents will lead the others. Most of these others have their own ideas and sought refuge on their own, so it's unlikely that they will sincerely listen to the suffering serfs. Some conflicts were inevitable, but after those who caused the conflicts were taken away, no more conflicts occurred. It's just that from time to time, a few guys try to escape. But those runaway guys, they won't appear in front of the laborers anymore. In the world of Gandas, the upper class has absolute power, and even if conflicts accumulate below, the chances of overthrowing the situation above are extremely limited. Lin Chen stands on the half-built second city wall, overlooking everyone. The rain is getting colder, and even the rain-resistant serfs selected from generations of rain-resistant serfs have fallen ill during this time. The day the blood moon arrived was the lowest point. The first city wall is a semicircular wall with a radius of 50 meters, guarding Lin Chen's mansion. It can accommodate 500 to 600 people to take shelter from the blood moon if they squeeze in. At this time, all those people are inside the stronghold within the first city wall. The second city wall has a radius of 1 kilometer and is currently 1/3 complete, with plans to continue building later. Although the city wall is relatively shoddy, the wave of goblins exploded by rabbit meat is real. With the lizardmen and a small number of dog-headed people assigned to guard the city, the number of monsters has just reached 300, and Lin Chen intends to integrate these humanoid races with humans. He asks Went to lead a part of the human patrol, so the total force at this time has reached 400. Although the average level is less than 10, they still have some combat power. It can only be said that in this wave, the advantage is mine. Master, the guys who have shown symptoms of infection have been arrested. How should we handle them? Woo-woo, Grandpa. Little wolf, it's, woo-woo. A cute and innocent half-orc is crying to an old man. It doesn't seem quite right. On the ground is a wolf cub entangled in eerie black mist. The hunched old man shook his head and said to his beloved granddaughter, even if it's that wolf cub, let alone you, if you're covered in this black mist, you'll be put to death. Although she already knew the outcome, when Vera heard the result, tears fell from her eyes like little pearls. The old man sighed, touched Vera's beast ears, and then silently walked away with the little wolf in his arms, out of her sight. The girl sitting on the ground knew that the little wolf cub would never come back. But people's joys and sorrows are not the same as those of other creatures. Crack! The crisp sound of whips echoed within the tribe. Hurry up! Go and reinforce the defense line. Don't you know how dangerous the blood moon is? Obviously, these half-beasts are enslaving the humans who were intercepted, and their methods seem to be even more cruel than Lin Chen's. Some of the tolls collected by Shi Wentao on his way to capture people are from those villagers who were intercepted and wanted to go to Lin Chen's village. Although Harrow Island belongs to the outskirts of the maze, the magic power is the thinnest compared to other places, but it is still in contrast to those blocks in the center of the maze. There are many monster tribes and other monsters that have moved here, including the group of half-beasts, including the goblin tribe where Lin Chen was before. The strong rule the weak, and in this extraordinary world, this is the truth. In this half-beast tribe, the human slaves are obviously the weak. According to the truth, these humans are naturally meant to be enslaved. Since ancient times, in order to completely avoid being enslaved, it is necessary to possess violent weapons. In the Ganda's world, the conventional means of obtaining such things are naturally tightly controlled by the nobles. The relevant institutions only recruit children from those noble families. The lower class can only rely on the Adventurers Association for some of the lowest quality items, or become a slave to those who control resources, in order to obtain extremely limited power. However, wisdom cannot be monopolized, there will always be people who come up with unconventional methods. Just like this group of humans who are oppressed by the half-beasts. Some of them have inherited some unconventional methods. Being soaked by the pouring rain is a daily occurrence for ordinary people in the Gila region, and ordinary raincoats cannot save them from the rain. And these skinny and huddled guys sitting on the ground are suffering from the rain even more. Grady, is that thing really useful? The hollow eyes of the bone frames all turned to Grady. And Grady, who was being asked by everyone, was lying in the muddy ground at this time, letting the rain and flowing mud engulf his body. On the 15th day of the blood moon, all living beings who pray to the god of the blood moon will be bestowed with. In Grady's low murmur, black aura appeared on his skinny body. This is a sign of infection. He has successfully communicated with the blood moon. This blood moon scripture is useful. At this moment, everyone was immersed in joy, completely ignoring the discomfort brought by the infected aura. Quick, provide blood. Our good days are coming. As the blood gradually decreased, their expressions became increasingly confused. It seems they can't stop anymore. The black aura symbolizing contamination spread through everyone's body along with the blood. Blood moon. Blood moon, ha ha ha. Blood moon. Blood moon. Fantastic, I am gradually understanding everything. Let us move towards a better day together. In Grace's maniacal laughter, the black aura continuously reassembled everyone's bodies. Flesh and skin were gradually disintegrated, while the skeletal structure was constantly reassembled. The black aura directly connected everyone's hearts, forming a cluster of grapes. The most prominent grape was a book called the Blood Moon Scripture. Then came the bones, blood vessels, organs, and flesh. The scene was quite horrifying, both the assembly process and the final result. Such a commotion naturally alarmed the entire half-beast tribe. When the half-beast guards arrived, they only saw a 4-meter-tall blood and flesh giant. Bones and muscles were scattered on the surface. Murky black aura emanated from its limbs and bones. A dark sky, pouring rain, the uproar of the half-beast tribe, and the disappearance of the slaves. Kneel to the blood moon. With an eerie tone, Grady began his frenzied attack. The situation was completely one-sided. Grady ruthlessly pushed through the entire half-orc tribe. The sounds of screams and cries filled the air. The sound of a horn echoed throughout the tribe. The half-orcs no longer resisted and retreated in one direction. The bloodthirsty Grady, of course, was not willing to let them go. He relentlessly pursued them. Run towards the goblins, passing by the Tauren. The half-orcs followed the words of their elder and ran westward. The darkness and Grady swept over them, crushing anyone who was caught up, leaving a trail of ruins in their wake. Ha ha ha! This is the blood moon. Corruption, devouring, until there is nothing left. Merge with me. Join the Great Blood Moon cult and witness the end of the blood moon with me, in the presence of the Great Blood Moon deity. There was no heavy rain during the blood moon. Perhaps this was the only mercy of the blood moon? Lin Chen stood on the city wall, looking into the distance, wearing a cloak made from Vedum. Master, there are signs of activity from the Tauren tribe. It seems that the battle is about to begin. Is the evacuation route ready? Don't worry, Master, everything is prepared. Spread the word, prepare for battle. After saying that, Lin Chen continued to leisurely read his book. Not only did he send Shuwent to find an evacuation route, but he also made one himself. The blood moon, the ability to infect creatures. I wonder if there will be anything special about the offspring born during this time. I'll try it out after the battle. The Tauren tribe was only about 4 hours away from Lin Chen. If they were being driven, the time would be even shorter. During this time, Lin Chen made a series of arrangements. The human troops were fully integrated and served as logistics, as those sickly individuals had no combat power. From the arrival of the blood moon until now, there had been several small defensive battles. However, the humans had suffered significant losses, with nearly 30 deaths. Their biggest problem was not their physical weakness, but their cowardice and fear of death. Of course, one couldn't expect too much from them. If they weren't afraid of death, they wouldn't be here with Lin Chen. Lin Chen's main force consisted of 2 squads of goblins and 1 squad of lizardmen. He thought for a moment and decided not to send the kobolds into battle, as they had no combat power, and if they all died, it would reduce the supply of sustainable experimental materials for Lin Chen. They were directly assigned to logistics. The 2 squads of goblins, along with the lizardmen, had a total force of 270. All the goblins were warriors, while half of the lizardmen were warriors and the other half were archers. Of course, the tribe had a limited number of arrows, so the main long-range weapons were the slimes. Among the goblins, there were 2 big goblins. One was Lin Qingtian, and the other was an ordinary green-skinned big goblin, unfortunately without the inherited blue-skinned bloodline. Lin Chen himself was considered a warrior unit, as he had been researching things related to the blood-colored patterns recently. So far, what he had figured out from the blood-colored patterns could only enhance the manipulation of blood and were closely related to close combat. It was different from what was expected. 2 hours later, a buzzing sound came from the east. Tauren and half-orcs emerged from the forest and charged towards the wall where Lin Chen was located. At first, Lin Chen couldn't understand why these 2 races were fleeing together, until he saw the pursuers behind them. A gigantic flesh giant was crushing the surrounding trees as it advanced, accompanied by a series of minions. The black mist emanating from its body carried other contaminated creatures, forming a black barrier. The humans in the camp saw this guy and immediately showed a look of despair. It seemed like they had given up struggling. The expressions of the other humanoid creatures were mostly fearful, only the direct blue-skinned goblins under Lin Chen had no expression. Lin Chen himself was even more fascinated. Yes, he was fascinated. In his eyes, that flesh giant was a treasure. Lin Chen knew from the first glance that it was definitely hard won. Defeat him. Obtain the method of making it. Suppressing his desire for now, Lin Chen quickly reorganized his entire army and changed the plan. With the ability of the Blood Moon Contaminators to devour, Gree, who was chasing after the half-orcs and minotaurs, was definitely very powerful. The tactic of overwhelming with numbers would only strengthen its power. So, it had to be an ace against an ace. Of course, this ace was not Lin Chen. There was also a blue crystal crocodile in the south that was over level 20. With Lin Chen's coordination, he could still manipulate it a bit. If all else failed, he could just dive into the water. After all, he was the child of the labyrinth. It was easy for him to hide in the labyrinth. After instructing Daisy and the others to hide in the underground passage, Lin Chen led his troops to strategically shift south. When the fleeing half-orcs and minotaurs saw Lin Chen and his group running away, they hurriedly chased after them. They probably thought that Lin Chen still had some way out. Unfortunately, they were destined to be disappointed. As they raced forward, the rain that fell evenly made it feel like a sudden downpour. It was estimated that the side with a total population of over 500 was being chased by the side with less than 100 people. As they advanced south, everyone gradually walked into the shallow water. At this time, everyone was still desperately running forward, but they didn't notice that the speed of the goblins had already started to decrease, and the leader, Lin Chen, had disappeared. When the humanoid creatures came to their senses, they were already standing in a water area that reached their calves. In front of them was a battlefield with blood-red water. Behind them were the relentless pursuit of Gritty and its contaminated army. Obviously, they had reached a dead end. If they wanted to survive, they had to fight with their backs against the water. Everything was just as Lin Chen had expected. The contaminated creatures were not easy to reason with. Surrender was not an option. The crisis in the water area in front of them was even greater. There were even more creatures in the water. This water area was probably also filled with danger. It was a complete trap, and it was the blue-skinned goblins that Lin Chen commanded that caused this situation. They were the first to run away and act as the scapegoats. Misfortune never comes alone. There were pursuers that were difficult to overcome behind them, and there was movement in the water area ahead. Now, they couldn't even fight with their backs against the water. At this moment, Lin Chen was using the ability of blood patterns to hide in the water, observing the situation. Seeing Gritty running wildly, he couldn't help but think of the running posture of the Titans in Attack on Titan. You could say that there was a sense of déjà vu. Vera, run! We've been tricked by that goblin. I'll immediately have our people break through to the northwest. You blend in with the others and escape when you have the chance. The battle had already begun. The contaminated creatures had already pounced on those people. Struggling, giving up, wailing, crying. Flesh flying, scales scattered, fur in disarray. In an instant, the crocodile group in the swamp also joined the battlefield. Unlike the contaminated creatures, the crocodile group only felt provoked. But it was obvious that the alliance caught in the middle was the one suffering. The familiar blue crocodile appeared in front of Lin Chen. It was the one that had chased after Daisy before. Lin Chen had to thank it properly. Otherwise, he wouldn't be able to open his shop. Seeing that flesh giant, he immediately activated ice armor and charged towards it. His not-so-healthy brain seemed unable to see the difference between them. He just mindlessly tore at its flesh. The enhancement through devouring contamination required time to digest. The blue crystal crocodile was an effective means of consumption. In order to create an opportunity for the blue crystal crocodile, Lin Chen dispatched all the goblins to go and deliver. Whenever the flesh giant tried to punch the blue crystal crocodile in the head, a dozen goblins would jump onto his fist. At the same time, the blue crystal crocodile would bite back. The bitten blue crystal crocodile didn't feel good either, as it was bitten back by the dark energy. But this only further ignited its fierceness. It launched a more fierce attack towards Greedy. While they were fighting, the Tauran, half-orc goblins, lizardmen, watermarsh crocodiles, and contaminated creatures were all in chaos, just like the chaotic period of the Wei, Jin, Southern and Northern dynasties. It's like a bowl of meat porridge. Different heads and unknown flesh floated on the watermarsh. The surrounding waters were stained with blood. This scene not only benefited the polluters, but also Lin Chen. The blood inscription was hidden in the pool of blood, constantly absorbing the surrounding nutrients. In Lin Chen's mind, ancient giant lizards, muscular bulls the size of mountains, prehistoric crocodiles, the surface of the blood moon, and an experiment? The structures of those creatures gradually appeared before Lin Chen's eyes. All of this seemed like a dream. An island where millions of giant beasts were active. Friction and collisions were everywhere. Finally, everything ended together with volcanic eruptions and avalanches. Lin Chen gradually forgot that he was still on the battlefield. Accompanied by the flesh giant smashing the blue crystal crocodile skull with a punch, everything returned to normal. The blood and energy of the entire water marsh gathered on Lin Chen. Gradually, together with the water vapor, it formed a huge vortex. The blood-colored patterns on Lin Chen's body began to rotate frantically. Lin Qingtian, Lin Qingxuan, Lin Qingxuan, and all those who inherited the blood patterns. At this moment, the blood patterns on their bodies were all surging frantically towards Lin Chen. The storm was gathering. The blood was trembling. Lin Chen soared into the sky against the storm. Then he flew towards Greedy. Like a blood-colored thunderbolt, Greedy saw the fierce attack and directly mobilized the dark energy in his whole body. The book Blood Moon Scriptures in the center of his heart turned crazily. It seemed to be responding to Lin Chen. The dark energy spewed out crazily from Greedy's limbs and bones, as if his bones were leaking air. It matched the horrifying style of the flesh giant. Thunder roared, and the water marsh crazily spread out on both sides. At the moment of their clash, the water in the marsh retreated in a circular shape with them as the center. Blood and dark energy clashed fiercely. Ah! The water that retreated crazily gradually formed a huge shockwave. Although Vila had already escaped far enough, she was still knocked down by the huge waves. By chance, she turned around for the first time after running away. This time, she saw the collision between the dark energy and the blood energy. They fiercely resisted each other, merged with each other, and dissolved each other. Until the end, she saw that goblin. At this moment, he had already taken off his disguise. The blood-colored patterns on his body were constantly twisting on his muscular body. Together with his elegant blood-red cloak, the whole scene had a strange beauty. Against the backdrop of his water-blue skin, the enchanting blood-red appeared even more eerie. And his opponent, the flesh giant who had destroyed her home. At this moment, only his body was left kneeling on the ground. But in the next second, her mindset changed. Because black energy began to emanate from Lin Chen's body. And his gaze turned towards her. It seems like he's looking at me? Before she could react, Vila was directly grabbed by Lin Chen and taken to a place where no one was around. Ah! What's going on? Stop! In Gila, doing things in the rain is a sacred act. The situation goes back to the moment when Lin Chen defeated Greedy. The book Blood Moon Scriptures in Greedy's heart instantly rushed from Greedy's body into Lin Chen's blood patterns. Strangely, Lin Chen didn't show any abnormalities, just wanted to vent. Lin Chen casually grabbed poor little Vila and vented his frustrations. Lin Chen indeed entered the sage mode. Not only did his appearance return to its original state, but his divine consciousness also wandered in his own soul sea. Lin Chen's divine consciousness transformed into a blue little person, frolicking within it. That strand of black energy was very gentle, without harming Lin Chen at all. Instead, it transformed into something similar to the heavenly silk, entwining Lin Chen's divine consciousness. Is this an investment? No, doesn't feel like it. In any case, they are not enemies for now, and Lin Chen has gained the ability to control that black energy. Moreover, Lin Chen can feel that this power is suppressed by the bloodline. This means that Lin Chen can effectively utilize it. Lin Chen has long coveted the power of that stitching ability of the black energy. Lin Chen has been experimenting with various corpses before, trying various methods of stitching. Now, with the Blood Moon black energy, Lin Chen can freely create. But now, Lin Chen needs to tidy up the battlefield. After Lin Chen and Grace's punch, the surrounding corpses have been washed away by the water waves, kilometers away. Most of the guys who wanted to escape were also knocked down by the water waves. Lin Chen used the bloodline to summon the remaining combat power in the castle to come and count the slaves. No, the townspeople. After witnessing Lin Chen's strength, the survivors did not resist and followed him back to his castle. Of course, Lin Chen did not expect to become stronger. His golden finger seems to be stronger than he imagined. In addition to the previous effects, it can also extract the power of the bloodline owners. And other blood can also be absorbed to restore oneself. In other words, the more offspring, the stronger Lin Chen will become. The more population, the stronger Lin Chen will become. And the weight of being the child of the labyrinth should be considerable. That strand of black energy is likely to obey Lin Chen because of this identity. Unfortunately, Daisy is just a small mage apprentice, and most of the information she knows is common knowledge. The human classification system is also very confusing, and the estimation of actual strength only has some reference value. Lin Chen believes that there must be a more accurate classification system, but he currently does not know it. Obviously, Lin Chen needs more knowledge, but there is no rush, take it slowly. Holding the sleeping Vila in one hand, using blood energy to shield her from the rain, following behind the main force, and seeing if anyone wants to leave. If someone wants to leave, Lin Chen can only make sure they never come back. What surprised Lin Chen was that Stuart was still alive. This is good, so Lin Chen doesn't have to find new lackeys. Stuart, you will be in charge of managing the minotaurs, half-beasts, and the humans still inside the city walls. The blood moon is about to end, and all the creatures posing a huge threat in the surroundings have been eliminated. We need to prepare a large amount of uncultivated land for the rainy season. and don't waste the materials on site. Yes, my master, I will obey. If Stuart's attitude was submissive before, now it is fanatical. Including his lizardmen subordinates and the surviving humans, they all began to hold Lin Chen in awe. Even some of the half-beasts and minotaurs were obedient to Lin Chen. The desire for strength is normal, especially among tribal communities. The overall obedience of the half-beasts and minotaurs is much higher than that of humans. Until they returned inside the city walls, not a single one escaped. Of course, it could also be due to Lin Chen's dominance. The humans who were sent out initially seemed decent enough. Webb, because he looked older, escaped unscathed. After all, who would have thought that an old man on the verge of death was actually a young man in his 30s? Since Lin Chen and the others left the city, Webb spent the whole day on edge. The terrifying flesh giant had been lured away, but there were still some wandering contaminated creatures around. The town's defenses were weak at the moment, and if anything happened, they would be the first to be sent out as cannon fodder. Fortunately, there were no enemies. Unfortunately, they were eventually sent out, supposedly to assist the mayor's return. Wasn't it obvious that they were being used as cannon fodder in case something went wrong? Unfortunately, they couldn't refuse, or they would turn to ashes immediately. They filed out of the city gate and headed south. About 2 hours later, they encountered the mayor's entourage. It consisted of lizardmen, half-orcs, minotaurs, and a few humans, led by Swint. The mayor trailed behind, and from a distance, they could see a cute half-orc sleeping on him, dragged along by the mayor. At this point, Lin Chen had adjusted his appearance to the average-looking middle-aged man he had shown to those humans before. Everyone in the group looked disheveled, and there were many injured being carried. Webb looked at the surviving humans with hopeful eyes, but unfortunately, he didn't recognize any of them. Clearly, his friends had all died there. Then he saw Swint approaching and saying to them, "Go south and collect some corpses. The Goblin Lord will protect you." Hard work seemed to have been a constant in Webb's life. If being enslaved could bring hope of survival, was that good or bad? Webb didn't understand, and he didn't bother thinking about it. He just wanted to stay alive. The large team gradually brought back various corpses and skeletons to the town. The rain kept them company. Coincidentally, the day they finished moving happened to be the end of the blood moon. How many people had been killed by other creatures during the move? No one had kept count, and no one cared about these insignificant details. On the night the blood moon ended, Lin Chen lay on a recliner, staring at the moon for a long time. He wanted to see something in it, but unfortunately, besides feeling that the bloodlight was becoming softer, he couldn't sense anything else. He just kept staring until the blood moon disappeared. Blood moon sect. The dark energy can be utilized. Lying on the recliner, he leisurely stroked the sleeping Vila's foxtail, thinking about the next plan. Just then, a knock on the door reached Lin Chen's ears. "Come in." Swint didn't enter the room, but knelt at the door to report to Lin Chen. Swint pays respects to the master. "As per your request, I have conducted a census of the current population. The town now has 82 humans, 31 lizardmen, 43 half-orcs, 51 minotaurs, 36 dogheads, and I dare not inquire about the number of goblins. Because of their low numbers and not participating in the battle, the dogheads had actually given birth to a litter of newborns, which was a way of indirectly assisting Lin Chen. He had high hopes for their flamethrower organs and needed a large quantity of them in the future. The farming industry must be developed well, and we should support the doghead race a little. I have great expectations for their organs. The minotaurs seem to have good cultivation techniques, so we should also provide them with support. As for the status of the half-orcs, let's temporarily make it equal to that of humans. As for the lizardmen, just inform Lin Xinxi directly to take over. Oh, and next, I want to see a chaotic town with multiple races. You can work on planning that according to my general direction. Also, capturing people is of utmost importance, but try not to attract too much attention. This year, we'll make a fortune quietly." And just as Lin Chen and Swint were discussing future plans, Vila, who was sleeping in his arms, woke up. Swint tactfully closed the door. Where am I? It feels like I had a very long dream. Dreamed of. Probably a dream that lasted about 10 days, indeed very long. Vila looked up and found herself in Lin Chen's arms, couldn't help but let out a cry and jumped up. "You, me, ha, this." Lin Chen smiled at her and pointed to her belly. Vila followed his finger and looked at the flat abdomen, which was now swollen, and there were blood-colored and black lines on it. Just as she was about to scream, Lin Chen covered her mouth with his hand. Your tribe has sold you out. I advise you to obey. He. It seems like another eventful night. After the blood moon, Lin Chen began mobilizing the entire population for development and named his small town Muru Town. After 2 months of construction, the whole town began to thrive with vitality. Although humans are physically weak, they still have some creative abilities. Various houses were built between the first and second rings of the town walls. They learned a lot from Lin Chen's use of slime secretions to build walls. Some houses were directly made by sticking stones with slime secretions. Some people used their brains and tried to eliminate the organic matter in the slime secretions, just like when Lin Chen built the walls, so that they could directly stick rainforest wood together to make houses. Of course, there were also many other innovative approaches, such as a guy who built his residence directly on the honeybee tree to the east. On 4 honeybee trees close to each other, they eroded grooves with slime secretions and used corresponding wooden boards to create their own treehouses. He used to rely on breeding honeybees to support himself, so after building the house, he started trying to tame these wild honeybees. There were several similar cases. Compared to humans, the houses of other races were more conventional. Lizardmen still liked to build their houses on the water, so they expanded the slime moat between the first and second rings to the far west, forming a lake, where they built their own houses. Minotaurs still preferred the grass huts they had built with blue-striped wheat stalks before, and they were not interested in other houses, so they simply didn't build any and slept in the previous refugee shelter. The dog-headed people had some architectural talent and built stone houses exclusively for themselves. The half-beasts inherited the traditional style of their tribe, and their buildings had a strong tribal flavor. Slime secretions became a popular building material throughout the town. Observant townspeople may have noticed that the slime moat was being widened and enlarged. This was done at Lin Chen's request. The reason for expanding the slime population was not because slime secretions had become a necessary building material for the town, but because Lin Chen created his first masterpiece. Daisy, come, let's go see my first masterpiece. Lazily yawning in bed, Daisy said to Lin Chen, should we bring little Vila? She still needs to take good care of her pregnancy. It's strange that she hasn't given birth after almost a month. Let's go, show me what you've been tinkering with for so many days, without even thinking about taking care of us. Hee hee, don't be startled when you see it. Humph, if it's good, I'll reward you and help you with another litter. What? Do I need your permission for that? Humph, hurry up and show me. This is my first generation masterpiece, used to improve efficiency in clearing land and can also be used as a defensive weapon. I named it the Collector. Lin Chen enthusiastically introduced his creation to Daisy. However, Daisy looked a bit puzzled. Looking at this huge object in front of her, she couldn't associate it with land clearing or defense at all. If Lin Chen hadn't said anything, she would have thought it was some kind of large siege weapon. Of course, her first impression of this thing was that it looked similar to the previous flesh giant. Both were made up of bones and flesh assembled together. There is a huge wheel in front of this thing, with polished bull horns spaced apart. After Lin Chen activated it, the wheel kept rotating and could be adjusted up and down, capable of clearing land and harvesting. The treads used underneath were designed using lizard scales, corresponding to the position of the bull horns. In Lin Chen's design, the bull horns plowed the shape first and then the treads molded it. Each tread contained a slime, carefully selected by Lin Chen, with a high density that could drive the treads forward, as long as water was provided on time. The body was made up of various skeletons forming the framework, and then various types of flesh were added. Due to Lin Chen's limited skills, although he could freely assemble using dark energy, he currently couldn't create the corresponding internal circulation system for the Collector. Therefore, the task of providing power and maintaining the vitality of the flesh was entrusted to Vidam. Yes, in the last battle, Vidam also made great progress. Its current breed can be called a blood slime. Vidam's role here is to release blood energy to provide power for the harvesting wheel in front, and to maintain the overall vitality of the Collector, also serving as an accelerator for the treads below. There is a special space inside the Collector to provide Vidam with a large amount of food, which is the fuel tank of the Collector. For these reasons, Lin Chen expanded the slime moat by another circle, allowing Vidam to split properly. A rainproof shed was made of bones and skin on top of the Collector. Behind the shed was a rainwater collector, specifically containing some small slimes. It could provide water for the slimes inside the treads and also spread small slimes during land reclamation. Lin Chen felt that his design was amazing. Unfortunately, Daisy couldn't appreciate it, and probably only a few people in the town could. If you directly use their kind's parts to make things, won't they be disgusted? How could that be? The purpose of this thing is to benefit them. They should be grateful to us. Finally, at Daisy's repeated request, a series of disguises were made for the Collector. It no longer looked so strange and frightening, and the obvious features of other races could not be seen on it. Let's go! Let's give the townspeople a little technological shock. Collector, start! Instead of a cool roar, blood energy overflowed from the Collector. The treads rolled, carrying Lin Chen and Daisy towards the place where the townspeople were reclaiming land. From a distance, Lin Chen could see the fields. Unlike in his previous life, there were slimes bouncing around on the land. Why were there slimes on the plowed land? Because there was a lot of rainfall in the Gila region after the rainy season, people would cover the fields with blue vein wheat and blue beans to some extent to isolate moisture. After months of rain erosion and the action of various microorganisms, the fields could also be fertilized. However, this was not possible in the newly established Muru town. They could only use slimes to absorb water on the spot. Unlike the cheers Lin Chen imagined from the townspeople, most people were shocked when they saw the Collector. If they didn't know any better, they would have thought they were facing a flood monster. What is that? Monster! A monster is coming, run, run. Oh my god, that thing can easily knock down trees. After a commotion, someone finally noticed the mayor and his wife sitting on the Collector. The mayor is up there. What? That's the mayor's ride? No wonder it's the mayor. Under the astonished gaze of the townspeople, the collector found an undeveloped wasteland and dropped the front cow horn wheel. With a slight delay, the collector began its journey of cultivation. The progress was smooth all the way. The moisture in the soil during cultivation was partially absorbed by the slime and the caterpillar, so it was not as muddy as the land cultivated by other townspeople. Every time the collector cultivated a certain distance, Lin Chen threw a small slime in the corresponding direction. In one morning, the area cultivated by the collector was more than what the Taoren had cultivated in a month. The Taoren loved farming deeply, and Lin Chen had just gotten off the vehicle. The Taoren rushed madly to Lin Chen to inquire about the collector. They looked extremely fanatical, bowing and worshipping Lin Chen. Moo, moo, sir, you must be a god. Only a god can create such a divine artifact. Please accept the worship of the Taoren tribe. Lin Chen looked at their state and was also confused. Taoren. They are quite straightforward, indeed a rare labor force. If he accepted their worship, would it mean having a continuous supply of high quality and cheap labor in the future? After thinking for a while, Lin Chen agreed to their request. It would be foolish not to take advantage of a good opportunity that came knocking on the door. Other races also came to watch later, but they were not as fanatical as the Taoren. However, they were very curious about this terrifying farming tool. They had worked hard for almost a month and couldn't achieve half of what this thing could do in half a day. Ahem. Townspeople, this is a farming machine I recently invented. It's called the collector. With it, our town will never lack food again. The residents clapped and cheered upon hearing this. But, after the food production is sufficient or even surplus, what else can they do? I don't know either. There will always be something to do. After receiving the support of the townspeople, Lin Chen returned to the castle in a high-profile manner, driving the collector. There are still many flaws. It seems that there is a need for further improvement. Replacing the complex internal circulation system with the idea of using slime seems highly feasible. Yes. In any case, the collector is still very successful, and its destructive power is also guaranteed. Daisy looked at Lin Chen with interest. So, what do you want to say? Lin Chen didn't reply, he just picked up Daisy and ran towards the battlefield. It was bound to be a scene of constant gunfire next. After the battle, Lin Chen was still in good condition. After taking care of Daisy and putting her to sleep, he went straight to check on Vila's condition. It was a coincidence that as soon as he entered Vila's room, her belly started to react. Pain. It's starting. Vila's pregnancy had begun, and this time it was very different from Daisy's. Daisy's was almost a normal delivery, while Vila's was going to be much more difficult. The reason was simple, this child was a gift from the blood moon. The black lines on Vila's abdomen gradually emitted black energy, and then the blood lines also reacted. Vaguely, Lin Chen also sensed something. An extraordinary event. Even in past lives, a ruler would be considered great. It's just that you should come out faster, your mother is in pain. Vila screamed in pain, and the inexperienced Lin Chen could only desperately transfer his blood energy to her. Although it was impossible to ensure the safety of both mother and child, Vila's pain was real. Lin Chen didn't know how long he had waited. The child finally came out. Surprisingly, there was only one fox half-beast in this litter. His biggest feature is his black and red fox tail. His ears are exactly the same as Vila's, and his eyes are the same shade of blue as Lin Chen's. After a month of development in Vila's belly, this child was not as small as the rest of Daisy's litter when he was born. He was the same size as a half-orc baby. Lin Chen quickly put the baby aside and went straight to Vila's bedside, comforting her with his hand. He also gently stroked her fox ears. What should we name him? Let's call him Lin Chen Song Vila. You rest well and sleep peacefully. With Lin Chen's soothing, Vila quickly fell into a deep sleep. After taking care of Vila, Lin Chen observed little Lin Chen Song for a while. This little guy is not only the product of Vila and Lin Chen's union, but also has a certain connection to the blood moon god. His future is destined to be extraordinary. After putting him to sleep as well, Lin Chen slowly left Vila's room and went to his own office. The development of the town is now taking shape. While the townspeople are clearing the land, Lin Chen sent Stuart to Mont Town to sell the purple dragon potion and attract adventurers to come to the town. Stuart had spent a long time in Mont Town. He was familiar with the adventurers there. Before he left, he made a promise that he could attract a lot of adventurers there. Why was he so sure? Let's start with the origin of Mont Town. Mont Town. No, the entire area within the radiation range of Tilei City was not established 70 years ago. At that time, there were no 4 major cities, and this place belonged to the remote area of the Gila Empire before the Gila Labyrinth appeared. After the labyrinth was formed, the 4 major families of the Gila Empire built the 4 major cities outside the labyrinth, and pushed forward the development of towns and villages, laying a path towards the labyrinth. Only the 4 major families with a strong foundation could do this. How could a city in a remote and poor place like Tilei City imitate the 4 major cities? The 4 major cities directly destroyed several mountains and together laid a route to the labyrinth. Tilei City didn't have this kind of strength, but they also wanted a share of the pie. So they slowly pushed forward, hoping to have their own route to the labyrinth, while also developing industries that serve the 4 major cities. For example, the declining town of Couronne, the specialized gambling town of Monttown, and so on. The adventurers there can only do business that helps the townspeople drive away monsters. The income from those businesses is self-evident. Whenever they see adventurers from the 4 major cities coming here to spend money, they are extremely jealous. Now Lin Chen can provide them with a good working environment, and those down-and-out adventurers are likely to be fooled. While Stuart went to Monttown to expand the business, Lin Qingzhuang was also sent to the border of the 4 major cities to start a new round of population plundering. The route is the same as before, heading south for 2 days on the way to Temen Town, and arriving at the village northwest of the 4 major cities. Although Muyu Town currently does not have an accurate route and a dock to the labyrinth, although Muyu Town currently does not have an industry chain related to adventurers, although Muyu Town currently does not have accommodation and dining facilities. However, Muyu Town has enough development prospects for those adventurers to explore. Yes, as long as they come and work hard, everything will be available. The adventurers in Tilei City have a low status, and even the local brothels do not welcome them. But in the future, they will be welcomed here. The young ladies and noble ladies there are fond of outsiders from the 4 major cities. They don't even bother to look at them. But when they come here, no matter what kind of loser they were before, they will be loved by the townspeople. They will instantly transform into superior beings. Yes. First, lure those adventurers from the garbage points over here. If they don't know their place, we can just take care of them. It's only fitting for them to contribute their entire fortune to the town of Muyu. If we want to truly run an adventure town, we must arrange the location for adventurers properly. We need to establish a route from Muyu Town to the central island of the Gila Maze, and also set up a stronghold there. Lin Chen still has some understanding of the current situation in the Gila Maze. Most of these resources are provided by the half-orc tribe where Vila is from. Although the Gila Maze sounds closely related to the Gila Empire, it's not the case. They both have the word Gila because this area has been called Gila since ancient times, meaning rain. The Gila Maze is not exclusively owned by the Gila Empire. Currently, there are 3 forces in the central island of the Gila Maze. One is represented by the Gila Empire, the 4 great cities. The race is human. However, the 4 great cities are all built outside the maze because the maze itself will also develop and grow. It is a node in the world, and every time it upgrades, there will be a great commotion. If the cities were built inside the Gila Maze, they would become ruins after the upgrade. They only dispatch a large number of adventurers to establish bases and harvest resources in the southeastern part. The second force is the one sent by the Avia Elf Federation. We are not very clear about Vila's tribe, but we know that they occupy the northwest area of the Gila Maze. The last force is the Orc Kingdom. They were able to establish themselves because there is a need for a buffer zone between the Gila Empire and the Avia Elf Federation. Their natural strength is very limited, and now they are fully leaning towards the Avia Elf Federation, acting as their lackeys. Some of the orcs sent by the Orc Kingdom are working for the Avia Elf Federation, while others have established their own bases north of the maze. In addition to the official orc immigrants, there are actually a large number of immigrants, and yes, Vila's tribe is one of them. The reason why these immigrants fled the Orc Kingdom is because they couldn't survive there. There are actually 2 races within the Orc Kingdom, orcs and half-orcs. It is impossible to determine when the first orcs were born, but orcs have always lived in the border areas between the Avia Elf Federation and the Gila Empire. Whenever the 2 countries go to war, they capture these guys as cannon fodder. Over time, some orcs have flowed into the Gila Empire and the Avia Elf Federation. Most of these burly guys are used as laborers. The clever humans were the first to discover the business opportunity and captured a large number of orcs into the Gila Empire. After who knows how many years, a new race called half-orcs gradually appeared in the Gila Empire. They are similar to orcs, with some beastly features, but their skin and facial features are more human-like. They don't have the rough fur or huge fangs that most orcs have. They live among the human nobles. It is said that the half-orcs made significant contributions when the Orc Kingdom was established, but unfortunately, it became very barbaric after gaining independence, and the stronger orcs took control. The lives of the half-orcs became unbearable. So most of the immigrants are actually half-orcs. The orcs are busy pleasing the elf lords and have no interest in controlling these half-orcs. They would rather have them leave, as they are a reminder of the humiliation the orcs suffered from humans. Vila immigrated to Harrow Island with her grandfather. This place is already under human rule, but for them, there is no difference between here and the places under orc rule. They might as well take a gamble here. They made the right bet, as humans currently don't pay much attention to this place, and the orcs dare not interfere. But it seems like their bet wasn't entirely accurate. In any case, if they directly row a boat from Harrow Island to the central island of the maze, they will likely arrive at the intersection of orc and human territories. This is not a bad thing for Lin Chen, after all. The bigger the storm, the more valuable the fish. During the recruitment phase, Lin Chen began preparing tools for crossing the river. Fortunately, he had collected a lot of crocodile skins, so making the desired boat shouldn't be a problem. The next task is to establish a small base on the central island and another one near Trell City. The Gila region is strange, it rains almost every day but rarely thunders. If you hear thunder in the Gila region, then the rainy season has arrived. The next 5 months are a celebration for the entire Gila region, as almost all the animals go into heat during this time. However, this reduces the breeding efficiency. Lin Shen can't tolerate this situation. After the blood moon, the 200 rabbits he left behind were forced to breed. The dozen or so breeding rabbits were exhausted and tearfully eaten by Lin Shen. Helping the rabbits reproduce is secondary. Lin Shen's main goal is to test the stability of the purple dragon potion. Most of the selected 50 female rabbits successfully gave birth to healthy offspring with similar traits to their parents. However, there were a few exceptions. For example, one female rabbit died after giving birth, and what was born was a goblin cub. But this cub had green skin. There were also a few offspring born with blue fur and traces of blood patterns. Lin Shen used the reproductive cells of these blue-furred, blood-patterned descendants to make the purple dragon potion. From these phenomena, Lin Shen may be able to explore the genetic principles of blue fur and blood patterns. Of course, these are not the main focus. The main focus is that now the entire Maru town is truly thriving. The barren land cleared in the first 2 months is now all planted with blue-striped wheat and blue beans. Where did these seeds come from? Lin Chin village borrowed them. The temperature during the 5-month rainy season is almost the same, so the newly cleared land can be directly planted. There are no seasonal requirements. Therefore, the townspeople are crazily reclaiming land. What supports them in doing so is not only the special nature of the rainy season but also the benefits provided by Lin Chen. During this period, the seeds are supplied without limit, and the farmers with larger cultivated areas receive benefits. Lin Chen guarantees the implementation of the Jing Tian system, where the land they reclaim is theirs. This also applies to those who have just immigrated. Lin Chen sent Lin Xin village to the 4 major cities not only to plunder but also to promote the business of Muru town. The same goes for Shi Wentai. Within just 1 month of the rainy season, more than 300 people have immigrated to Lin Shen's place. Their expressions were surprisingly consistent when they first arrived in Muru town. They saw humans, half-beasts, dog-headed people, lizard people, and minotaurs working together in the fields, as well as a giant creature. Their mouths dropped open wide enough to fit 2 eggs, and those who could accept it stayed. Those who couldn't accept it left forever, greatly increasing Lin Shen's material reserves. Indeed, plundering is the fastest way to accumulate resources. Just when he was worried about the lack of materials to build ships, they were delivered directly to him. Many adventurers were attracted by Shi Wentai, and so far, there are a total of 63. Their strength is a bit hard to describe. In terms of the level system, they are mostly around level 12. Although they are much stronger than ordinary people, they immediately express their demands to Lin Chen. They want to improve their strength and status. It's a simple and realistic demand, and Lin Chen agreed to help them while also asking for their assistance in attracting more adventurers to the town. Lin Chen will support them and let them manage the soon-to-be-established Muru Town Adventurer Association, if they can survive. They already have a good status. Currently, there are no noble groups in Muru Town, so these adventurers, apart from Lin Chen's family, have the highest status. When it comes to strength, Lin Chen can only make empty promises to his mother. Lin Chen can provide a certain amount of strength to Daisy Vila through bloodlines, and some direct descendants can also transfer power to them. However, these unrelated adventurers do not have this service. Unless they come to help Lin Chen with bloodline implantation experiments, although there is a high probability of death. In addition to these common requests, there is also someone who asks him, "Can you provide me with endless adventures?" By some strange coincidence, Lin Chen nodded. The market in Monty Town is bustling. Standing on the highest restaurant in Monty Town, the eaves of the central mage tower can be faintly seen. In addition to the usual food and clothing, there are also merchants selling gold, silver, pearls, and silk fabrics. People on both sides of the street occasionally shout to attract customers into their shops to gamble, and once they are pulled in, they are unlikely to come out. Passers-by can even buy silk stockings made of silk in the clothing stores in Monty Town. When worn on a woman's legs, they shine like oil, attracting attention like a brightly colored rouge horse. However, those things are quite expensive and only wealthy merchants and noble ladies can afford them. It is said that they are imported from other places, and the high-end ones even come with some additional blessings. In the Gila Empire, imported goods are highly valued. If you have the courage to smuggle a batch of daily necessities into the Avia Elf Federation, you can make a fortune. There are also 2 different groups of people in the town. One group flirts with the ladies in the town all day long, and the other group is busy with meaningless tasks every day. Adventurer, I heard that you have defeated the elves and orcs. That's right. Everyone in the 4 major cities knows that our Pava fort has driven those foreigners to retreat. You're amazing, sir. The bustling streets are filled with continuous pedestrians. This is often a symbol of prosperity in an area. But in this prosperous place, there is one place that stands out. It is only 6 o'clock in the afternoon, and Ulsk has already closed the door of his shop. The sign on the door reads Temen Town Adventurer Association. Without the vitality and ambition of adventurers, this adventurer association seems old and tired even from its sign. As usual, Olsk walks into a dark alley and prepares to go home. After taking a few steps, he hears a voice from behind. Do you want a better life? Olsk frowns but doesn't turn around. When you brought me to Temen town, you didn't just want to live a mediocre life. His right foot, which was about to touch the ground, freezes. Olsk slowly turns his head. Why does your voice sound so hoarse? The price of becoming stronger? Stuart. You seem. Olsk's words are interrupted as Stuart hands him a map, pats his shoulder, and leaves. Adventurers. Always embarking on new journeys, exploring the unknown with ambition. You said this to me more than a decade ago. In the process of exploring the unknown, I seized an opportunity and paid a price. Are you not embarking on a new journey anymore? Well, it's not necessarily a bad thing. These words keep echoing in Olsk's mind. He repeatedly looks at the map and can't sleep. In those lines and dots, he sees the future. He has been stagnant for too long. Maybe it's time to set off and see the world? The Adventurer Association in Monty Town, which is the same age as this small town, has closed its doors. Olsk has also embarked on a new journey. Just like when he arrived in Monty Town, he only took a little money and food before leaving. Following the map given by Stuart, he arrives at the designated location. After signing some terms with the mayor of a town called Muyu, he also got what he wanted from the oral agreement. On the first day he arrived in this small town, he felt that his choice was not wrong. How could races like Tauron, orcs, lizardmen, humans, and goblins, who couldn't get along, work together in farming? And that huge monster turned out to be a farming machine? This refreshed his understanding and strengthened his determination to adventure. Under the mobilization of the mayor, a large number of people were involved in the construction of the Adventurers Association, and the construction of the Adventurers Association was very grand. Moreover, the mayor placed the Adventurers Association in the second ring, directly embedded within the city walls. It became part of the second ring defense. With his experience, he was elected as the temporary president by the people, but his ambition did not lie here. In the third month of the rainy season, May, he boarded the boat provided by the mayor of Muru Town and headed for the central island of the Gila Maze. It's just that he always felt eerie on the boat, the texture of the mast always felt like bones, and red gas occasionally emerged from the floor. It smelled a bit like blood? Oh well, never mind. Olsk, let's go. May is the busiest month for farmers in the Gila region. They have to seamlessly harvest and sow crops. In Muru Town, they also have to cultivate new wasteland for planting. After all, the rainy season is only 5 months long, so it must be well utilized. Unlike the busy scene there, Linchen Castle presented a different scene. Linchen lay on a lounge chair, stroking Vila's tail and talking to Daisy. Adventurer Town. 40%, that's a high requirement. Otherwise, only when the quantity meets the standard and after contacting the person in charge of the adventurer area can a town be certified as an adventurer town. Not every small town can receive the protection of the headquarters of the Adventurers Association. That's true. The one called Olsk before should have had a channel to contact the higher-ups. Now we just need to increase the proportion of adventurers. There are more immigrants than adventurers, so it's probably difficult to improve this ratio. Just attracting adventurers won't be enough. We should open an adventurer academy. Start with the children. Right, Shohao is almost the same age as a normal human 5-year-old now. We can't neglect his education. After the rainy season, let's start building the academy. At that time, we can invite some adventurers to be teachers and instill different values in the new generation, so that they can grow up to be useful people. By the way, how is the sales situation of the goods in St. Vincent's place? The purple dragon potion is very successful and sells well there. We controlled the export quantity without attracting attention from the original industry. St. Vincent is opening up a trade route to the 4 major city regions. According to his last report, we have earned 500 gold coins from selling the purple dragon potion. I asked him to buy a batch of ram horns. It just so happens that your collector needs sturdy horns. 1 gold coin is equal to 100 silver coins, and 1 silver coin is equal to 100 copper coins. 500 gold coins can be considered a huge sum. It's definitely enough for an ordinary person to live a comfortable life, but it's not too much when it comes to buying some extraordinary items. Oh, by the way, some human nobles have already caught wind of the purple dragon potion or immigration. It won't be long before they can sniff it out here. Are they that sensitive? When it comes to their interests, they are more proactive than anyone else. It's really annoying. Can't we just kill them directly? Kill the small ones, and the old ones will come. There are also complex connections among the small nobles. I can't handle this mess. You take care of these matters. If we can't solve them, we'll just smooth things over. The research on the boats has yielded results, and the navigators have already started working. For the indigenous people of the Gila region, it is truly a pleasure to be rained on during the rainy season. Unfortunately, it only lasts for 5 months and passes by in the blink of an eye. These 5 months are also the golden time for the development of the town, with a large number of human immigrants coming in. Vila's tribe has also established contact with some half-beast tribes, and many half-beasts have immigrated during this period. The town's food reserves have also increased significantly. Part of it comes from the harvest of public fields, part from the harvest of the minotaurs. With the enthusiasm and contribution of the gatherers and minotaurs, this part of the harvest is not much less than the total harvest of the public fields. Another part comes from the plunder during this time. Unfortunately, the descendants of those goblins are not vegetarians. For this reason, Linshan has set up a place specifically for breeding rabbits, right next to the public fields. The number of rabbits has also started to increase, and after 2 rounds of reproduction, the number has reached about 2,000, so the male rabbits can be eaten. The rainy season is over, and now it's time for construction. Last year, a castle and a first ring wall were built. This year, there are many more laborers, and the total population has exceeded 1,000. The second ring will definitely be completed this year. In the southeast of the second ring, there is an adventurer association, and Linshan plans to build a college in the southwest of the second ring. It will be directly connected to the city wall, just like the adventurer association. In Linshan's plan, the north of the college will be directly connected to the lake where the lizardmen live. Through the city wall, it can be directly connected to the adventurer association in the east, and to the west is Linshan's public fields. Because there is no shortage of food, they can now build vigorously. Those who immigrated here must contribute their own value to Muru Town. The last 5 months of each year are the months of labor. You ask why? Because this is to let you have a good time during the blood moon. Building the city wall is to resist those contaminated creatures. The construction of the college is to allow the townspeople to acquire more knowledge. It's all for their own good. They only need to work from 5 in the morning until 1 in the afternoon every day. They don't even have to get wet in the rain. Before going home, they can also receive the benefits provided by Linshan, a diluted purple dragon potion. In short, it's very good. The whole town is busy and running smoothly. After the heavy rain, it is the time for the entire town to relax and rest. The humans within the first and second rings have spontaneously set up a market. Linshan is also wandering around inside. However, he has changed his appearance using blood patterns. For now, they are using a barter system, but later on, he can cheaply acquire some resources to give them currency. What Linshan values most here is the food. Most of these people were starving before they came here, so they will eat anything that is edible, and they will try to make the inedible things edible. So, there are many strange things appearing in the market. For example, there are meat drinks with the characteristics of the Gila region. Due to the continuous heavy rain, the people here used to eat raw food. For example, the frozen meat soup that Linshan is holding now. When he takes a sip, it is full of the smell of rabbit meat, and after savoring it, it even has a hint of seasoning. To be honest, for a goblin's taste buds, it tastes pretty good, sweet, but he doesn't know how humans can eat it. What's even more amazing is that there are many people around enjoying this stuff, some even shedding tears of happiness. This is the taste. When I was a child, I only had it once a year. Once a year? 5 years. Wow. Everything is given by Lord Mayor. What those people said is true. They really let us out of misery. Linshan silently observed and then left this stall. There is also a clothing store in the town. Although it doesn't have the ones that Linshan snatched, it's still good. What surprised Linshan the most was that there was a stall selling red poison fruit. This kind of fruit, she went, has been offered before. Linshan remembers that it is a poisonous fruit planted in Monty Town, but he didn't pay much attention to it at the time. It's surprising that someone is planting this stuff in the newly established Muru Town, and no one is buying it. What is this used for? The shopkeeper has been staring at Linshan since he stopped at the stall. After all, not many people would stop at his stall. When he heard Linshan's question, he grinned at him. This thing is powerful. When squeezed into juice, it's 10 times more effective than water. You don't know that the villagers in Monty Town eat these red poisonous fruits raw. I just harvested these naturally, and I'm selling them at cost. 1.5 gold coins per gene. You can buy a few with silver coins and try them. Powerful. This adjective immediately made Linshan think of something. That thing. It's quite useful for corroding enemies, and if used on the lower class, it's not bad either. What's the yield like? Well, if the yield was high, it wouldn't be so expensive. I planted this stuff on all the fields that were cleared during the rainy season. It's really domineering. Once it's planted, you can only plant it again. The price I'm giving you is really the cost price. Linshan didn't believe the vendor's sales pitch, but he still left 50 silver coins on the stall and took all the red poisonous fruits. Linshan kept strolling until the market closed. Muru Town has finally developed a bit of a small town look. Just like Linshan's plan, within less than 4 months, the second ring city wall and the academy were completed. The blood moon is approaching, and the influx of refugees is as expected. Compared to last year, there are many more refugees this time. More than 1,000 people have come since August. The number is almost the same as the total population of Muru Town before. She divided the refugees into 3 groups. One group was managed by the tax-paying residents who owned public fields in Muru Town, one group was directly managed by him, and the other group was sent to work for non-human races. This classic division allowed Shiwin's group to directly join the guard army. It has become a tradition for refugees to join the army in Lin Shen's territory. But unlike last year, there seems to be fewer non-human race soldiers this year. Lizardmen, goblins, minotaurs, and even half-beastmen have hardly appeared. In total, there is only one mixed team of 100 people. Of course, the human townspeople didn't pay much attention to this. They were more concerned about another matter, the opening of Muru Academy. Yes, Muru Academy has opened. All children under the age of 15 from families with certified public fields can be sent directly to Muru Academy for education. Although Muru Academy currently has no teaching staff, only temporary adventurers, but this is enough to drive the townspeople crazy. An academy that allows commoners to enter. Even Daisy, who comes from a small noble family, couldn't go to the Magic Academy in Trellis City. She could only spend a lot of money to hire mediocre magic teachers to teach her. It can be imagined how strict the nobles are in terms of knowledge blockade. The word academy is not just a noun in front of those commoners, it is also a symbol of status. Knowledge is power, and this phrase holds true in the world of Gandas. So when Lin Shen told the townspeople about this, they went crazy as if possessed. Regardless of whether they had any impression of Lin Shen before, at this moment, Lin Shen was like a saint. Of course, Lin Shen didn't do this out of kindness or anything. The noble's knowledge blockade on the commoners is something Lin Shen temporarily cannot break through. So no matter how he orders his subordinates to plunder, they can only obtain what the noble gentlemen release, which is insignificant. If you really want to acquire knowledge in a meaningful way, it's better to accumulate it yourself. And Lin Shen has his own ideas in this regard. Last year, during the Blood Moon, when Lin Shen defeated Greedy, he obtained the Dark Energy and the Blood Moon scriptures that came with it. Although Lin Shen doesn't have any beliefs, he highly appreciates the production methods of some good things recorded in the Blood Moon scriptures. It was based on this method that Lin Shen created the Collector and the Navigator. The first chapter of the Blood Moon scriptures is about how to collect and utilize dark energy. Afterwards, when making things, Lin Shen couldn't do without dark energy. Lin Shen admits that dark energy is really useful. There is no rejection when stitching two different pieces of flesh together, and after stitching, it is impossible to tell that they are two different things. So Lin Shen decided to enlighten the people and uphold the principle that there is strength in numbers, in order to promote the great magic of flesh creation. One person definitely cannot go all the way, especially on the path of magic. Lin Shen has been researching the Flesh Node project and has not completely overcome it yet. Wisdom cannot be completely monopolized, and Lin Shen needs some geniuses to work for him. Even if they are not geniuses, countless fools can benefit Lin Shen if they accumulate enough. The mass production of collectors in the future will also rely on the efforts of apprentices. Only the goblin sacrifices in the goblin tribe have the ability to learn and complete this task, but the value of goblin sacrifices in Lin Shen's hands is definitely greater than that of parts on an assembly line. After Lin Shen announced that he would personally recruit a group of students, the residents of Muru Town went crazy. They all sent their children to Lin Shen. There were nearly 300 children in total. Among them, there were probably many over 15 years old, but that was not a problem. Lin Shen's only criterion for selection was the affinity with dark energy. Even if it was just a little affinity, Lin Shen could use some covert operations on the day of the Blood Moon to give them the ability to collect dark energy. Yes, to collect dark energy, not like Lin Shen. Lin Shen directly obtained some kind of recognition from the Blood Moon, which gave him the ability to produce dark energy. Lin Shen chose December 1st, the first day of the Blood Moon, as the day for recruitment. Inside Muru Academy, 287 students sat cross-legged on the ground, closing their eyes as Lin Shen instructed. Lin Shen gradually enveloped them with dark energy. After a while, several people fell down in pain, but the majority of them sat there perfectly fine, and a very few felt comfortable. Those who fell in pain indicated some affinity, but not much. These were the people infected by the Blood Moon. With Lin Shen's help, they would become excellent craftsmen. Those who felt nothing indicated that they really had no affinity. Those who felt comfortable indicated that their affinity met the standard. After the irrelevant people left, there were still 21 people present. Lin Shen looked at them with satisfaction and said, "Welcome to the Muru Academy's Flesh Creation Department. Last year's Blood Moon was a bit dangerous. This year, everything is under control." Lin Shen is not only not worried about the problem of contaminated creatures, but also intends to actively hunt those contaminated creatures for the development of the town. Afterwards, he will have his students extract dark energy and practice. The contaminated creatures in the town are also valuable resources. Lin Shen can help them avoid contamination by extracting dark energy. Those who are saved will have an affinity with the Blood Moon, and Lin Shen needs these people to reproduce better affinity offspring. These people will be secretly given some status, or more directly, they will be framed and thrown into prison to work hard. This year has been a whirlwind for Webb. He went from being a serf last year to now living a comfortable life. After reclaiming the public land, he cultivated 2 acres in January and another 3 acres during the rainy season. The amount of grain he harvested was more than he had in his entire life. He even found time to build his own house near the college. Life has truly become sweeter for him. He even managed to find a wife among the refugees. He is a completely different person now compared to a year ago. Back then, he faced the blood moon without any feelings, thinking that death was the worst that could happen since he had nothing to lose. But now, his wife is pregnant and there is hope for the future. He can't even imagine what will happen to them if Muyu Town is breached. He has something precious now, and he is afraid of losing it. During the blood moon, every household should be huddled at home, silently praying for the end of the blood moon. However, the second ring gate of Muyu Town is bustling with activity, with many people gathered there. Webb also went to see what was happening. Ahem, fellow townspeople, the blood moon has arrived. I'm sure you all know what will happen in the next month, right? The noisy crowd fell silent. Well, our Muyu Town government needs administrators, but since we don't know anything about you, we have come up with the following selection process. Muyu Town has established a special organization called the Muyu Town Guard. All immigrants who come to Muyu Town will be absorbed into this organization. As the name suggests, this organization is meant to guard the town. Only those who own public land and have paid public rain once can be considered true residents of Muyu Town, which is all of you gathered here. I am the head of this organization, and I will select some squad leaders to manage the immigrants who come here. So, if you want to sign up, just go to the registration office over there and leave your name. The future administrators of the town will also be selected from these squad leaders. After Daisy finished speaking, the only sound at the gate was the rain, and all the townspeople fell silent. Some lowered their heads, chin resting on their hands as if deep in thought, while others simply turned and walked away. After some time, finally, one person walked up to the registration office and spoke their name to the registration personnel. Why didn't they write their own name? They can't write their own name. Webb recognized the first person to go up, a guy named John who seemed to live nearby. John's registration stirred up some thoughts in others. Gradually, more people went to register. As for Webb, he didn't choose to register, nor did he choose to leave. He just stood there, watching, until the registration activity was over. Then he slowly left. The guard? It sounds like a dangerous job, but if you survive, you can soar to great heights. Webb, what more do you want? Why take risks when you can live a good life in Muyu Town? All the people who registered were eventually selected and became squad leaders. However, not many squads survived after the blood moon. Webb hasn't seen John for a long time. Did he die? Or did he start living a life of wealth and luxury? Why think about that? Just focus on living your own life. Webb, you're already lucky enough, don't desire more. Webb kept reminding himself in his heart. But, it's difficult to live a contented life. Master, the materials have been collected. 2 teams of goblins exerted all their strength to bring the collected materials to Lin Chen. According to your orders, the plan to breed contaminated creatures has been very successful. The efficiency of the guard team in Murain Town is currently not very high, but the mortality rate is quite high. The rabbits didn't go extinct, did they? According to your orders, the number of rabbits has been strictly controlled. A reserve of 1,000 has been kept. Are their relatives also preserved? Yes, and according to your orders, Lord Lin Xinchuan is currently conducting research and breeding on them. Lin Chen's breeding plan is actually quite simple. Among the over 2,000 rabbits, there are bound to be some infected ones. Once you are infected, you are fed and then killed directly. The huge rabbit that was brought over follows this production process. The contaminated rabbit that has been released now has grown to a length of nearly 2 meters. Its fur has turned completely red, and its 2 front teeth have become long and sharp. Many other teeth have also grown in its mouth. Its limbs are no longer small, and its body proportions are similar to that of a wolf. Its 2 ears have also become very large, with obvious black blood vessels in the inner ear. After roughly observing this material, Lin Chen called the 13 apprentices over. As for the 8 who didn't come, they all exploded because they failed to absorb the black energy. Lin Chen regretted it for a while. It would have been great to use those 8 to create more people, but they were wasted. I taught you how to absorb black energy into your body before, now I will teach you how to control and use it. This is the most basic and crucial thing. Lin Chen's teaching level is naturally not high, but teaching one person is enough. The rest can communicate and solve problems on their own. If they can't solve the problem, then they can only be eliminated. Why does Lin Chen need to collect black energy through those contaminated creatures when he can produce and use black energy himself? It's because the collectors and navigators, including various flesh and blood tools to be made in the future, all need flesh, blood, and black energy for maintenance. Lin Chen cannot personally maintain those things in the future. This requires mastering a mature industrial chain. Creatures with a low affinity for blood moons will be contaminated after manually injecting black energy. This can also be used during non-blood moon periods. After selecting and breeding good livestock, mass production can be achieved. The production line of black energy and the education line for related technicians are the core of Murain Town in the next few years. Stable sources of black energy and flesh are urgently needed. The role of the first batch of flesh and blood creation apprentices is beyond doubt. They can not only help build production lines but also teach the next batch of students. In addition to Lin Chen's place, there is another batch of students in Murain Academy. Those who were not selected by Lin Chen are part of this batch of students. Now the teaching quality of this broken school is basically non-existent. There is no professional teacher at all. But that doesn't stop those parents from sending their children here. After all, it's a college, and it's free. What more could they ask for? These students are the reserves of adventurers. They will be adopted directly by those adventurers. Once assigned to a group, a team of adventurers is formed. Currently, there are only about 60 active adventurers in Norain town. Each person has to be divided into 4 or 5, and there are still many adventurers who haven't chosen to take on new recruits. I don't know what those adventurers can teach M. Anyway, compared to farming in the fields, this is definitely a more promising path. The combination of the blue sea and the blue sky is beautiful, but when paired with continuous rain, the scene is not so pleasant. Fortunately, the people in the Gila region have long adapted, especially the adventurers who are always out. After 2 days of sailing, the navigator successfully brought the adventurers to the central island of the Gila Maze. How should I put it? The outskirts of the central island are different from Harrow Island. After experiencing the island, the adventurers unanimously thought of one thing: this place is much better than Harrow Island. Although Harrow Island is also considered part of the Gila Maze, it is simply a wilderness compared to here. On Harrow Island, Alsk deliberately had to search for some creatures to hunt, but on the central island of the maze, you don't need to search at all. These monsters come directly to you. This place is filled with a large amount of concentrated water elemental magic, and every time Alsk pushes towards the center of the island, he can feel the higher concentration of magic around him. Of course, the number and strength of the monsters are also much higher. Alsk had some understanding of the maze before coming here, but being there in person is a completely different experience. He read in a book that creatures born from the influence of maze magic are called monsters. Monsters are not only a part of the maze, but also its core characteristic. This is also the main purpose for adventurers to tirelessly come to the maze. The materials on these monsters correspond to the characteristics of the maze, and they are of high quality. For example, in the Gila Maze, the main characteristic is water, so a large number of water elemental monsters will be derived in the maze. Adventurers harvest these monsters, exchange the materials for wealth, and then use the wealth to improve themselves. Merchants purchase the materials and sell them elsewhere. This is the development model of the adventurer industry in the maze area. However, these monsters are not easy to deal with. There are many people who register as adventurers every year, and many of them want to have a taste and earn some money. Unfortunately, it is easy to obtain an ordinary adventurer badge, just register, but it is not so simple to fight monsters. These monsters that can survive in the maze, especially those in the maze where adventurers come to hunt, can be divided into two situations: either they are strong enough or there are enough of them. Like the Gila sea lizard that Alsk just encountered. It doesn't have much ability, but it can reproduce. It lays eggs like fish and directly produces a large number of offspring into the sea. Some of them will survive. Half of these monsters don't have much output, well, if we don't count the meat. The other situation is when they are powerful enough. The materials produced by these monsters are the most valuable, but they usually appear in the central area of the maze. Ordinary adventurers don't have the opportunity to see them. The lower-level adventurers deal with monsters that are somewhere in between, with a considerable number and moderate strength. Although Alsk loves adventure, he is not a fool. He hides the navigator and builds a temporary hidden base before leading the team out to explore. But as soon as they started exploring, an unexpected situation occurred. Alsk and his group, hiding in the dark, discovered that there were two teams fighting ahead. One side was obviously from the Gila Empire, and the other side seemed to be orcs. Alsk recalled the maze situation map that the mayor showed him before departure. It seems that Harrow Island is really not far from the border between the Gila Empire and the Orc Kingdom. Obviously, the situation is that a group of people from the Gila Empire and a group of people from the Orc Kingdom clashed over interests and started fighting. Although Alsk likes adventure, he doesn't like to die. Both sides are clearly elites, and their participation in the battle would have no effect. Without much hesitation, Alsk directly led his companions back to the previous small base. After resting for 2 days and collecting enough food from the surroundings, they immediately boarded the navigator and headed to another place. This time, he planned to go further east. After all, the east is the territory of humans, and there should always be some places with fewer people and safer, right? However, the same plot. After resting on the shore for 3 days and setting up a temporary base, when he ventured deeper, he still found that humans were in conflict with the orcs. But this time, Alsk was in the right place at the right time. He was directly kidnapped by the people of the Gila Empire and morally obligated to help fight those orcs. Alsk is not a fool, so he turned around and ran, skillfully heading to the next location. It has been more than 2 months since he started, but he still hasn't found a stable base. Alsk is very frustrated at this point. Why is his luck so bad? Why is there fighting happening everywhere he goes? There was even a time when he saw humans, orcs, and elves fighting each other. It's like the Gila Empire and the Avia Elven Federation are at war. Alsk, who was puzzled, could only return with the navigator and the others. Fortunately, it wasn't a complete waste, as they encountered many different types of monsters along the way and gained a clear understanding of the situation in the center of the Gila maze. Alsk decided to have a good talk with Lin Chen and then decide whether to venture into the maze. The commotion caused by the three countries is definitely a sign of something big about to happen. It's not that he's scared, but Alsk has no choice but to retreat in the face of these formidable creatures. Mayor, this is the current situation in the center of the maze. If we want to develop the adventure industry, we need to establish a path to the maze and a base. Leave this to me. The first batch of students from the academy has arrived, and they are all reserve adventurers. You can go and see them. Mayor, not everyone is suitable for the adventurer profession. It's not quite reasonable for you to force them into it. You must know the application requirements for the adventurer town better than me. After that, I'll trouble you to apply. You've also seen the various tools I've made. I have confidence in making the town bigger and stronger. But if we can't meet the standards of an adventurer town, then once our town grows, it will become a target for those nobles to divide. Muyu Town can save so many destitute refugees, and it's all thanks to adventurers like you. If we can't meet this standard, I can't imagine what will happen to the residents when those malicious people come. Alsk took a deep breath. He felt like he had been tricked. The headquarters of the Adventurer Association doesn't just grant protection based on the number of adventurers. They also need to receive enough benefits. Forgive me for being blunt, but in that case, Lin Chen interrupted him. In that case, we need those backup adventurers to help. Teach them combat skills, and they can help collect resources and materials. Everyone will receive the protection of the Adventurer Association headquarters. Isn't that good? Lin Chen looked coldly at Alsk in front of him. If Alsk hadn't been a certified adventurer, Lin Chen would have taken action long ago. Alsk clenched his fists and finally agreed to mobilize the adventurers to bring in new recruits. This result didn't surprise Lin Chen. When he first talked to Alsk, he learned some deeper information about the Adventurer Association. Registering as an adventurer is extremely easy. You just need to go to the relevant association and get a corresponding medal. With the medal, you can certify your level at the association, take on missions, and trade items at the Adventurer Association, and so on. The Adventurer Association, as it appears normally, gives Lin Chen the impression of being a platform. But in reality, these free adventurers have long been targeted. The Adventurer Association selects talents by the number of missions completed and then recruits them. Alsk is one of them, and the president of the Adventurer Association must also be someone who has been recruited, otherwise they are useless. Because the Adventurer Association operates in layers, the town-level association must connect with the city-level association, and so on, until it reaches the headquarters. What Daisy and Lin Chen said earlier is that the certified adventure town will not be influenced by other forces. The real reason is simple. Once you know more information, it's because the Adventurers Association is a powerful entity. At least in the area where Lin Chen is, no one dares to provoke the Adventurers Association. After sending Alsk away, Lin Chen lay on his recliner and used his bloodline to communicate with Lin Qingtian and Lin Qingchuan. With an abundance of food, the number of Lin Chen's goblin descendants has grown rapidly. Today, their numbers have exceeded 1,000, and Lin Chen can communicate with nearly 200 blue-skinned goblins through his bloodline. The goblins were not included in the Muru town by Lin Chen from the beginning. After the first blood moon ended, Lin Chen sent them all directly to the Harrow Mountains, where Lin Chen's castle is located, to develop. Now they have a new mission to help Muru Town establish a stronghold within the Gila Maze. This is a perfect match, as the blue-skinned goblins possess all the characteristics that Gila Maze monsters should have. The goblins don't bother with the hassle of traveling like humans. They simply swim across, and the blue-skinned goblins can breathe underwater without any worries. It doesn't matter if the green-skinned goblins die. After establishing a stronghold, they can slowly expand, and it's only a matter of time before the blue-skinned goblins fill the entire maze. Listening to the rain while sleeping is very pleasant for Lin Chen. However, when he opened his eyes, he saw Daisy and Vila nearby. Daisy was handling official business, and despite Muru Town being small, there were quite a few stacks of documents. Vila sat next to Lin Chen, holding a child in her arms, and her fox tail swayed continuously. Ning. Lin Chen casually took Vila's big tail and used it as a pillow. He stretched lazily on the recliner. What are you doing so seriously? I'm helping you manage the town issues with the residences of different races, population statistics and management, arranging Muru Academy students, calculating the town's profitability, conflicts between different races. Stop. Don't list anymore. You go ahead, I support you. Daisy rolled her eyes at Lin Chen. By the way, I have something to tell you. What is it? Can you bring my family over? Oh, Well, after all, ordinary families won't have magicians. Let's discuss the situation. Well, my family does business selling poison in Mun Town. We don't have many members, just my parents and a few brothers. My father's generation became wealthy, but we don't have a noble surname. We're just a small family. How do you want to arrange it? I want to bring them over to do business. With them, expanding the business of the purple dragon potion won't be a problem. Daisy cautiously promoted her family to Lin Chen. Just that? We can directly bring your family over and set up a finance department. What's with the hesitation? Do I need to use nepotism if I don't have any close relatives? And Vila will arrange her family members to the high ranks of the defense department. Is it okay to not avoid suspicion? Avoid what suspicion? Power is built on absolute force. We firmly hold the power, so who dares to make a sound? If there are any problems, we'll crush them and stuff them into their stomachs. But all those people are watching from below. If we show favoritism, won't there be any problems? No, if we completely block the channels, there won't be any problems. Strictly limiting upward mobility will also prevent major issues. Just like the adventure town you introduced to me earlier, if I hadn't come into contact with Ulsk, I wouldn't have known about the complex power struggles behind it. Commoners don't know what hierarchy is, and we currently don't know the more accurate division of power. Even the continuous heavy rain in the Gila region must have its reasons, but we just don't have the corresponding information. There is an information gap between the upper and lower classes. If we don't provide a promotion channel, just like those nobles, the commoners won't have a clue. As long as we provide them with food and prevent them from starving, they won't resist. We can open an academy for them, and then I can create a class and openly give the students in my class higher status and better jobs. What will happen then? Excellent people will compete to be in my class. Their focus will be on how to get into my class. They will gradually assume that the best people are in my class, and they should have good jobs. They will focus on competing with each other. With their limited perspective, they can only see limited resources in front of them and cannot see the problems with the distribution system. Moreover, in a situation of unequal power, the only thing they can do is to secure a spot in my class. Those who come under my name will become my core group and actively maintain the system I have established. As the core group grows, this system will become more rigid. Resentment will grow, but in front of us who possess absolute power, they can only keep striving and even feel grateful to me for giving them the opportunity. Although it is indeed me who gave them the opportunity. This situation is quite common, it has always existed throughout history, and it seems that only rapid development or violence can alleviate this situation. I wrote this just for fun, please don't take it seriously. Daisy listened to Lin Chen's words and was deeply moved. She smiled and said, okay, I will call them later. They have been rooted in Monty Town for a long time, and I believe they can help improve our industry. But let me make it clear, we can definitely give them good treatment. I don't mind if they are incompetent. I only have one requirement, and that is complete loyalty to me. If they can't do that, even if they are your family, their fate won't be pleasant. Of course, I am much better at handling things than you. Thunder is quite rare in the Gila region, but rare doesn't mean it doesn't exist. Just like today, black and white thunder flashed in the sky above the 4 major cities for a long time. What's the big deal, old man? Such an important meeting naturally needs some style. Do you guys understand? Come on, last time you messed up in the Rama plane and almost got killed by the will of that plane. An old man wearing a blue robe and white hair descended from the sky and landed steadily on the ground, accompanied by 3 other strange individuals. Alright, let's talk about the Gila maze next. The man wearing a white wolf mask spoke up as a peacemaker. The Gila maze is now at the crucial stage of advancing from the 3rd to the 4th level. Based on the experience gained from the Earth maze and the Spiral maze, a not-so-serious war is necessary. The previous minor conflicts need to be upgraded. A priest dressed in bright attire said, indeed, the maze is a node in the Gonda's world, and our efforts will definitely be rewarded. Even if we fail to help her advance, the benefits will be enormous. A muscular man wearing only red shorts said, the 4 major cities were established for this purpose from the beginning. With the developments so far, we have a total of over 1 billion people. In the next 90 years, we should send at least 3 to 4 billion people there. Unfortunately, we can't directly bring over the slaves from the other dimension. The contribution assessment can only be applied to the local population. Sigh, enough with the sighing. There's no point in shedding crocodile tears. But what about the choice for the host this time? The old man in the blue robe interrupted everyone and raised a new question. The other 3 people stared at him as if they had already discussed it. Are you all ready to take advantage of me? No. Our family's crass, as the heir of the Qingyu sect, has already accumulated a certain amount of prestige. But this operation is of great significance. Yes, our holy son Red also needs this kind of tempering. Well, although Bailina. Stop, any one of you 3 could easily overpower the current 3rd level maze. Why do you have to compete with my little Ophinas? You are mistaken. Although Ophinas is only 20 years old, she already possesses the destructive power of a city level. Forget it, all 3 of you are over 1,000 years old. Who doesn't have the destructive power of a star level? Let's get on with it. A torrential rain thunder spirit. Deal. Oh well. In the rain, a young girl was practicing swordsmanship. She had long blue hair, wearing a water blue glass long dress, with a celestial-like face, lips as red as waves, and skin as smooth as jade. Her voluptuous figure, which couldn't be concealed even by the long dress, revealed a small patch of fair skin on her chest. The hem of the dress just reached her knees, exposing a pair of slender and beautiful legs. It doesn't seem to meet my expectations. I'll change it later if there's something more suitable. Every time she swung her sword, it cut through the continuous rain, and her flowing blue hair danced like a startled swan, resembling a wandering dragon, shining like autumn chrysanthemums and flourishing like spring pines. She was exerting all her strength in wielding the sword, completely unaware that an old man in a blue robe had arrived in her courtyard. The old man didn't stop her, he just stood there quietly, watching the girl unleash each sword strike. Unconsciously, it was already evening, and the girl put away her sword. Grandpa, why are you here? Can't Grandpa come and see you? That's not what I meant. As Ophinas spoke, she went forward and supported her grandfather, walking towards the hall. Cough, cough, speaking of which, I really do have something to discuss with you. That's why I brought you to the hall. After all, every time you come, you bring me some trouble. Cough, it's nothing. This time, it's a battle for the honor of our Storm Rain family. It's the supreme glory. But you say that every time. The old man's demeanor suddenly changed, and he put on a serious face. The Avia Elf Federation and the Orc Kingdom are itching for a fight, wanting to challenge the dignity of our four major families. After negotiations between the two sides, we have decided to hold a grand duel in the Gila Maze. No city level or higher combat power is allowed to participate. The victory or defeat will be determined by the combat power below the city level in the Gila Maze. After intense discussions among our four families, we have decided to entrust you with the leadership role. Upon hearing the blue-robed old man's words, Ophinas' expression also became serious. Are you saying that I will soon lead representatives from our Gila Empire and the other two countries into war? No, Ophinas, it's the Storm family leading the army to duel with them. It's not that formal, just treat it as a game. A game. Yes, don't worry too much, it's just a game, of course it's best to win. A game. Comfortably lying on the recliner, Lin Chen's blood patterns were glowing red. He was gathering information inside the labyrinth. It had been 6 months since Lin Chen sent out the goblins, so the current time should be June in the magic calendar, year 114577. The situation at the center of the labyrinth had become quite unpredictable. Even the secret base established by Lin Xintian and the others was far from peaceful. It took Lin Chen 3 months to remotely control and select a temporary base in a remote corner to the west. But even there, more people started to gather. According to observations, these people were not adventurers, but more like deserters. And there were even stranger things happening. The situation in the labyrinth clearly indicated that a war was about to break out, yet adventurers from the four major cities continued to enter the labyrinth to hunt monsters and collect materials as usual. Meanwhile, ordinary soldiers were constantly gathering at the front lines. What did this mean? Lin Chen couldn't figure it out no matter how hard he tried. And on the Orc border, there was also a large gathering of cannon fodder from the Orc Kingdom half-orcs. However, their numbers were much smaller compared to the Gila Empire. The Orc Kingdom was a lackey of the Avia Elf Federation, so it was likely that the elves to the west were also taking action. It seems that a storm is coming. Sizzle, sizzle, sizzle. Vera, apply more pressure during the massage. Yes, that's just right. You really know how to enjoy yourself, while I've been busy all day. Seeing Lin Chen enjoying himself, Daisy complained. You enjoyed it too last night. By the way, you still haven't fulfilled what you promised last time. The whole labyrinth is about to undergo major upheaval, you can't postpone it anymore. And Vera, you should also fulfill your promise soon. We need a certain level of strength now to cover our retreat. Retreat? Is it that serious? A big war is about to start in the labyrinth. Even though we're in a remote location, we can't just mind our own business. We need to start preparing our escape route. Daisy and Vera were both surprised. But Daisy quickly reacted, why don't we find a place in the interior of the Gila Kingdom? Let's start having Stuant and the goblins develop a base there. The interior is not reliable. It's not easy to develop in a place like the Gila Empire, where rigidity is so severe. I think it's better to be near the mountains at the border between the Orc Kingdom and the Gila Empire. On one hand, we can still engage in slave trade, and on the other hand, the system in the Orc Kingdom is more primitive. As long as we support a spokesperson with sufficient strength, we can easily integrate, unlike the Gila Empire where connections are necessary. Alright, I'll take care of it. Wait, let's first improve the overall combat power of our town. No, Daisy hums softly. Didn't we say we would do it at night? Well, there's nothing else to do anyway, let's play together. It was already the second half of June, the rainy season. Webb was tending to his land as usual, while chatting with his neighbors. Did you hear? There was another fight at the city gate. It seems a half-orc and a human got into a fight, and it doesn't look good. That human seems to be from the finance department's family. He's usually so arrogant. And that half-orc seems to be from the defense department. This is going to be interesting. Be careful what you say, we shouldn't get involved in this. Let's stay away from it. We're just here to watch. Because, look, aren't there still few people who have died? Webb didn't want to get involved with those guys who were talking about that stuff. Because it's dangerous. Webb just quietly returned to his own field and took care of his land. But then two neighbors gathered together to chat. Webb was also helpless. He could hear all kinds of gossip while farming. Did you hear? John really made it. He survived and went to the Defense Department. That's really enviable. Maybe if we sign up, we can go there too. Forget it. Out of all the people who signed up, only 5 survived. We don't even know how they died. SSS, let's not talk about that. Do you know about the strange things happening in our town recently? What do you mean? There have been a lot of babies born in town recently, but I heard that some of them are deformed. Huh? It could be stillborn babies, isn't that common? No, it's not stillborn babies. Those babies are all lively, but they are all extremely ugly. It is said that they are born with sharp teeth and pointed ears, and without exception, they are all premature. Is it really that mysterious? Webb listened with great interest and couldn't help but interject. I heard the same thing. It is said that those deformed babies were all taken away by the people from the Defense Department. All right, Webb, how is your child doing? When they mentioned his child, Webb showed a happy smile. It's a girl, very healthy. Well, congratulations then. Boys are taken to the academy to become adventurers when they turn 10, it's tough. My biggest wish is for her to mix with the town mayor. It's not that easy, there are many newcomers every year. I heard that there are over 500 children in the Muyu Academy now, and only 30 of them can become the mayor's disciples. Wishes, why can't they come true? Even if they can, she might not want to. How is that possible? The town mayor specifically built a huge factory for his own land, and those disciples can make colossal machines like the collectors themselves. If she can really go there, how could she refuse? Well, that's indeed irresistible. So what's your daughter's name? Zamiya, how does it sound? In the northern part of the Muyu Academy, which used to be the residence of lizardmen, it has now been forcibly requisitioned by Lin Chen. A huge factory has been established, even connecting to the outer city wall, directly linking to Lin Chen's castle. This place can be said to be the century-long plan of Muyu Town. All kinds of tools in the future will rely on its production. At this moment, Lin Chen has transformed into an unscrupulous boss, leading 30 apprentices for an internship, the kind without any salary. Different flesh and blood require different treatments. For example, lizardmen have excessive water content, so they need to be dehydrated before handling the dark energy. Most of the meat from half-beast people is dry, so it's best to include water attribute magic when processing. As for humans, they are relatively moderate. You guys have to figure it out yourselves. After processing the flesh and blood, the next crucial step is assembly. You need to have a certain understanding of how to use each type of flesh and blood, and know where to add what kind of parts. Especially for monsters like lizardmen and minotaurs, there is a big difference between fresh and not fresh meat that contains magic. 1 kilogram of lizardman meat contains a magic coefficient of 10. When assembling, you must be careful. If it is combined with ordinary flesh and blood under the influence of dark energy, it will cause chaos. Lin Chen took out his leather book. Turn to the pages about the collectors and navigators. This is the first version of the formula I made, and now I'm sharing it with you. In the future, the entire maze will not be safe, and we urgently need to improve our strength. You will be the hope of Murane Town, Lin Chen said passionately, as if he wanted to take out his heart and offer it to Lin Chen. They all expressed their willingness to give everything for the town. Little did they know that Lin Chen had already implanted blood seeds in their bodies. Their lives and fortunes were all at the mercy of Lin Chen's thoughts. These people have no talent and can only control the dark energy thanks to Lin Chen. Lin Chen didn't expect them to bring any surprises to him. They just needed to be good screws in the factory and assemble the collectors and navigators. After inspecting for a while, Lin Chen silently walked to a corner and opened a secret passage. He arrived at a complex underground space. This is the other side of Murane Town. Half of this area is a prison, specifically for those who don't obey. They are strictly guarded by goblins, and their treatment is naturally not good. But Lin Chen still kept them alive, as they still had a greater purpose. They could be used for research and as a violent force. Most of the people here are humans and half-beasts, because these two races have the largest population in Murane Town. There are also historical issues, and many of them are hostile to each other. So they can only be treated as unstable elements and captured. When they come here, they can also be used for Lin Chen's research on racial fusion. Humans, half-beasts, and orcs have no reproductive isolation, which means that their ancestors must have some connection. In addition, when Lin Chen's bloodline erupted before, he vaguely saw an experiment in his mind. This made Lin Chen feel even more suspicious about this matter. Of course, the research on Lin Chen's own bloodline is even more important. The reproductive cells of those with blue skin and bloodlines can plunder some of the characteristics of the mother's body and directly give birth to individuals of the mother's race. Based on Lin Chen's statistical observations, it should be that the reproductive cells of the blue-skin goblins have both the characteristics of goblins and the ability to combine with the mother's reproductive cells. In other words, the reproductive cells of the blue-skin goblins can either combine with their own kind to generate embryos or combine with the mother's reproductive cells to generate embryos. Using this characteristic, Lin Chen secretly cultivated a new type of kobold and a new type of minotaur. Combined with the characteristics of Lin Qinhao and Lin Qinshi's growth process, it is not difficult to conclude that the offspring born in this way have the characteristics of the mother's race, as well as the rapid growth and special abilities of goblins. The growth cycle of the kobolds that were cultivated was shortened from 2 years to 4 months. Lin Qinhao's growth rate is also 5 times that of normal humans, and he is already similar to those teenagers this year. Normal lizardmen take 5 years to develop, but Lin Qinshi is already an adult. Using the goblin's characteristics, in fact, all the creatures in Murang Town can be goblinized. This is also one of the core purposes of Lin Chen's construction of the underground factory here, to create specialized troops. Goblinization can be controlled by Lin Chen's bloodline and has a fast growth cycle. The cost is only the amount of food and the endurance of the mother's body. Of course, compared to the benefits, these costs are negligible. Currently, the varieties that Lin Chen can stably produce are goblinized wolves and goblinized lizardmen. Although goblinized wolves can still breed offspring with ordinary wolves, Lin Chen feels that they are completely different species. The reason why lizardmen can be stably produced is that they lay eggs, have a large quantity, and are highly controllable. As for why goblinized humans are not mass-produced, because the human development cycle is too long, even if the goblin genes are shortened, they still need to develop for nearly 4 years. The combat power produced may not necessarily be higher than that of the blue-skinned goblins, so it is not worth it. Humans can only be considered as potential mothers. The same goes for half-beasts. The common characteristic of goblinization is that the body color changes to blue. This is also the biggest feature of the monsters in the Gillen Labyrinth. In addition to the identity of Lin Chen, son of the labyrinth, perhaps this goblinization can be called labyrinthization. So far, all the produced labyrinth wolves and lizardmen have been sent to the center of the labyrinth to serve. Unfortunately, goblin reproduction has a drawback: it can only produce males. The breeding related to the mother cannot be interrupted, otherwise those guys in the town will have no reason to exist. In this underground space, in addition to producing soldiers, there is another research project, the Purple Dragon Potion. After the trial in the Muyu town, because Lin Chen didn't know what the data of 1000 meant, there was no comparison. But Lin Chen can perceive that there are indeed newborns with some goblin genes. Of course, if there are more genes, there will be skin wrinkles, pointed ears, premature birth, and other phenomena. Lin Chen had anticipated these children and had already collected them all. Muyu Town has a total of 120 newborns with goblin genes, and only 2 of them have this condition. This probability is already acceptable. Although the Purple Dragon Potion can increase fertility, all the offspring produced are males. This is obviously not conducive to the population growth of Muyu Town, but it can be sold to other places, spreading Lin Chen's genes outside. Although the children born in this way do not have bloodlines and cannot provide power to Lin Chen remotely when necessary, when they are near Lin Chen, he can still dominate them. In a sense, they are indeed Lin Chen's offspring. The probability of having 2 out of 120 is not very low, but it is not very high either. For the Ganda's world with a high infant mortality rate, those deformed premature babies are definitely a divine punishment. They will probably be thrown away at that time. Now Lin Chen, who can enjoy the Purple Dragon Potion, controls those nobles who do not have extraordinary abilities and the limited nobles with extraordinary abilities. When the production volume increases, it will be distributed to every household. This will be Lin Chen's capital for hegemony. Miss, this is the distribution of forces between the Avia Elf Federation and the Orc Kingdom. Ophines reached out her snow-white hand and took the blueprint. This war will definitely be a war of attrition. I don't know how many civilians will die. Do you know why those adventurers cannot be mobilized? Adventurers belong to the adventurer headquarters, so naturally we cannot dispatch them. Forget it. If you don't want or can't tell me, then don't say it. I just want to know how many ordinary troops I can mobilize in this war, and how many rain guards the family can allocate to me. I'm sorry, miss, adventurers really cannot be dispatched. They still need to produce benefits for the 4 major cities. The rain guards sent by the family for training are 200,000 per year. The blueprint has specific markings, and the front line is divided into 3 sections. The southwest section is naval warfare, the northern section is the front line with the Orc Kingdom, and the western section is the front line with the elves. Miss, the Orc Kingdom is sending snake orcs to fight, and their main force is various half-beast cannon fodder. The elves' main force is tree spirits and fairies. Currently, the 2 groups on the border have gathered 10 million cannon fodder, which is much less than our number, but their individual combat capabilities are much better than ours. The people above want to protect those adventurers and develop resources. It's another strange request. They don't treat ordinary people as humans. I guess what they want is a border stalemate, forming a strange balance. Ophines took a deep breath. Then she gave the order, focus on attacking the elves. Miss, someone has established a small town on Harrow Island, southeast of the labyrinth, and they are planning to turn it into an adventure town. It is likely that the scattered deserters will gather there. As long as we keep people in the labyrinth, our mission will be complete. Is there no other way? This is already the greatest mercy we can show them, miss. War has begun. The entire labyrinth is in chaos, but it maintains a delicate balance. The only ones injured are the civilians who were pushed up, while the high-ranking officials of various countries and those who want to take advantage of the situation benefit. Coming out of meditation, Lin Chen started a new day. It was already August, and the construction in Muru Town had begun again. With the turmoil in the labyrinth, there were fewer people coming from the 4 major cities to Lin Chen's place. However, there were many who escaped from the center of the labyrinth and ended up here. Not only humans, but many half-beast people sought refuge with Lin Chen as well. Unconsciously, the town took on a half-human, half-beast appearance. The construction of the third ring had also begun, with the half-beast people and humans starting from opposite sides, clearly separated. There were minor frictions between them, but nothing serious. After all, one group had been oppressed by the orcs, while the other had been oppressed by the human high-ranking officials. Now they were all sheltered in Muru Town, with a total of over 6,000. The relationship was not so strained. Even the lizardmen and other races had a very low presence in front of humans and half-beast people. Lin Chen directly appointed Lin Qingshu as the manager of those humanoid races, who were now reproducing within the second ring near Muru Academy. The academies in the flesh factory were now able to produce some things. For example, the flesh and blood trucks currently in service on the construction site. It took Lin Chen a long time to figure out how to make them. The design was also modeled after Lin Chen's collector. The tires were made of lizardman's scaled skin, and the frame was made of white bones. It was equipped with 4 blood slime, a division of Vedum, to ensure power. However, they deserved praise. Under Lin Chen's guidance, they were able to independently assemble things after just over a year of learning. Lin Chen specially gathered the townspeople at the gate of the second ring to publicly praise them. With the arrival of the half-beast people seeking refuge and the completion of the backup base, Lin Chen had already chosen a location. It was a small town called Sherman Town, located on the border of the Orc Kingdom, with a population of only 10,000. Lin Chen dispatched a small-town merchant group to engage in trade and sell purple dragon potion. At the same time, he organized manpower to carry out plundering and release contaminated creatures from Muru Town during the blood moon. At a critical moment, people would come out to save the day, making it easy to take control of that small town. In addition to the escape route, Lin Chen also began to prepare some backup plans for himself. First, he established a crematorium in the western part of the third ring, ostensibly to collect various corpses and garbage. Collecting corpses could increase Lin Chen's blood reserves. So far, the flesh and blood he obtained through breeding and plundering had formed a pool of blood and flesh, which became Vedum's new home. Various types of garbage also had some uses and could be used to create some biochemical weapons. For example, mass-producing toxic slimes, through selection and cultivation, useful individuals would eventually appear. I have to say that slimes are really useful. Muru Town might not have developed so quickly without them. The formula for casting city walls has also been improved, and a special slime breeding pool for construction has been established. The related slimes are being optimized generation by generation. The radius of the third ring is 3,000 meters. Due to the previous batch of residents living in the second ring, the fields expanded outward to the third ring, resulting in a somewhat chaotic layout between the third and second rings for Lin Chen. These are all small problems. Now is the time for rapid development. We can do whatever we can to develop, and then reap the benefits in the name of rectification. Isn't it beautiful? Of course, what Lin Chen is most pleased with in the construction of the town is the road construction. With Lin Chen's strong advocacy, the road construction in Muyu Town is very good. First of all, there is Muyu Town Avenue, which starts from Lin Chen Castle and runs through the first, second, and third rings, and will continue to expand outward in the future. Secondly, there are 2 main roads, one directly leading to the Adventurers Association, providing a direct passage for adventurers to the outside of the town. The other one is built for Muyu Academy, directly connecting Muyu Academy, the crematorium, and the flesh factory, with one end connected to Muyu Town Avenue. The connection of these 3 buildings is to facilitate the incubation of related industries, which is a place that Lin Chen is quite optimistic about and takes relatively longer to build. There are also roads built by the townspeople themselves, giving rise to a series of commercial streets. The most surprising thing among them is the spontaneous road built by the people in the third ring. It has been laid out between the entire third and second rings, from the human habitat all the way to the crematorium. This shows that there is not only conflict but also mutual tolerance and development between humans and half-beast races. In the center of the maze, battles with such a large number of people will inevitably be bloody. Even if it's just gathering so many people, it can create a bunch of contaminated monsters when the blood moon comes. But at this time, on the front lines of the war, it seems that the 3 countries are unaware of this and are crazily sending people up. If you can overlook the entire battle line from high above, you will find that the scene is quite beautiful. On one side are densely packed soldiers, and on the other side are various tree spirits, with little fairies assisting in the battle on the tree spirits. Between the 2 is like a huge pattern, with its main color being blood red, plus some green. Perhaps it is because of the terrain of the maze that when you overlook it, you can see that the blood on the ground looks like it is flowing. Slowly. Flowing towards the center of the maze. I don't know if it's good or bad luck for Lin Chen, but this time Daisy and Vila's pregnancies are longer than before. It has been over 2 months before they started giving birth. Daisy's belly is much bigger than Vila's. Giving birth is definitely easier for Daisy, but that doesn't mean giving birth is easy. Bayu's skin gradually turned red. She exerted all her strength to give birth to the child. This time the child is similar to most humans. The last time they gave birth, they were all goblins, including Lin Xinhao's newborn, who was just as small as a goblin pup. This shows that the reproduction of blue-skinned goblins has different situations. One is giving birth in 7 days, just like ordinary goblins. This is the most common situation, regardless of whether they give birth to goblins or the mother's race. In this case, there are usually multiple births in one litter, and there may be different races within one litter. This situation causes great harm to the mother's body, and under insufficient nutrition, both strength and potential will decline. When controlling the production of mixed-race armies, this is usually the chosen method, and the mother needs to be raised for at least 2 months. Lin Chen doesn't feel at ease unless Daisy and the others are raised for a year. The other situation is when the pregnancy is about 2 months. In this case, there is usually only one litter, but the size of the newborn is the same as that of the mother's race, just like Lin Xinson and the current situation of Daisy and Vila giving birth. This situation causes limited harm to the mother's body. The specific principle should be related to the combination of reproductive cells. Of course, at this moment, Lin Chen doesn't have time to think about it, because Vila is about to give birth. Just like last time, Vila exerted all her strength. Her skin turned red, but compared to last time, there are no anomalies this time. It was a bit tough, but in the end, they successfully gave birth. The next step was the headache-inducing task of choosing names. Lin Chen directly passed the ball to Daisy and Vila, asking them to each come up with a character. After thinking for a while, Daisy came up with Hong, while Vila came up with Sheng. So they named them Lin Xin Hong Daisy and Lin Xin Sheng Vila. Lin Xin Hong was born almost at the same time as his older brother, Lin Xinhao, but the location of their blood patterns was slightly different. Lin Xinhao's blood pattern was on the palm of his hand, while his was on the right side of his face. When they were young, they looked cute, but they would probably look cool when they grew up. The only difference between Lin Xin Sheng and his older brother was the color of their ears. His brother had black ears, while his were blood-colored. Lin Chen took care of them until they fell into a deep sleep before leaving the room. He slowly walked to the office. Although it was called Lin Chen's office, he was actually unfamiliar with it because Daisy had been handling things before. Lin Chen only set the general direction, but these days, Daisy was giving birth, so she couldn't handle government affairs. The piled-up documents were overwhelming. Seeing them made Lin Chen's head ache. It was impossible for Lin Chen to handle all the miscellaneous things piled on top. However, he could handle a few important matters. The most important matters were recorded on the highest-grade crocodile skin. Opening it, the first item was the conflict between humans and half-beasts. Well, this matter was not very relevant to Lin Chen as long as there was no conflict between his own humans and half-beasts. Lin Chen even hoped for more conflicts among the others below. On one hand, it would allow them to conflict with each other and focus their attention on each other instead of the government. On the other hand, it would allow Lin Chen to collect enough flesh and blood. It was a win-win situation. Humans and half-beasts would have an outlet for their frustrations, and Lin Chen would have materials, greatly increasing the stock of flesh and blood in the cemetery. Lin Chen couldn't understand why he had to solve this problem, and he didn't even think it was a problem. But he still had to show some concern, so Lin Chen thought of some official language to complete this event. Opening the second crocodile skin document, it showed the reform and construction of the Muyu Academy. Lin Chen remembered mentioning it to Daisy before, but he didn't expect her to take it so seriously. On the document, she designed a rough plan. The first provision stated that the Muyu Academy did not limit the race or status of students. However, all students must successfully register as adventurers before the age of 15, otherwise they would be expelled when they reached 15. The second plan was that the core departments of the Muyu Academy were divided into the Mage Department and the Adventurer Department. Currently, only Mayor Lin Chen and his 2 disciples offered courses in the Mage Department, with a maximum of 50 apprentices. Mayor Lin Chen would only accept 10 new apprentices each year, and they would be eliminated based on their ranking, which was determined by their physical and mental attributes. For the non-mage direction, it would be temporarily taught by various adventurers, with the teaching method being direct practice with the mentor. You don't say! Daisy clearly listened to what Lin Chen had said to her before and put it into practice. The elimination system at the end was a good thing, as it would constantly drive them to compete with each other. Unfortunately, the number of people with blood moon affinity was limited at the moment, but in a few years, the effects would be seen. I'm really looking forward to seeing the performance of the students at that time. The third plan, the capable come first. Anyone in the town with a unique skill can apply to become a teacher at the Muyu Academy. The academy has specifically set up a miscellaneous department. From nursing after piglet delivery to various plant cultivation techniques, you can come to the academy for certification. The academy will charge you for this knowledge, and in return, you will receive certification as a miscellaneous department teacher, allowing you to teach paid courses. Well, Daisy, who was born as a mage, still valued knowledge. Lin Chen looked at these 3 plans and thought they were quite good. He directly wrote the word approved on it. This thing doesn't seem to suit me, forget it. I'll continue piling it up here and see if I can find suitable personnel to help Daisy deal with these things in the future. The temperature gradually dropped, and the blood moon drew closer. It's no secret that this year's blood moon will be difficult, and it's likely to get even worse in the future. Fortunately, Ulsk brought good news. The adventurer qualification application for Murane Town has been approved. His superior directly said that they will come to invest and develop Murane Town. There must be something fishy about this, but for Lin Chen, the benefits definitely outweigh the drawbacks. It is expected that there will be another wave of adventurers before the blood moon arrives. In order to cope with the more violent blood moon tide, when arranging the construction of the 3rd ring, Lin Chen instructed to thicken and widen the city walls of the 3rd ring. Now that the 3rd ring is completed, Lin Chen stands on the city wall and surveys the entire Murane Town. Looking down from the height of the newly built 3rd ring city wall, even Lin Chen's castle seems a bit small at this moment. It seems that the development of the town is very rapid. In less than 3 years, the things that were initially built are already insufficient. Under the pouring rain, overlooking the entire Murane Town, Lin Chen can even see the commercial street in the 2nd ring still open for business from the 3rd ring city wall. The torrential rain cannot dampen the enthusiasm of the townspeople. There are still merchant caravans being inspected at the city gate. Overall, it looks prosperous. Be gentle, gentle-o, Hemia, don't pull daddy's beard. Webb and Hemia were having a warm interaction, but unfortunately, Webb's long beard was about to fall off again. Webb's wife followed behind and laughed heartily. This market under the pouring rain, who knows who initiated it? They insisted on opening the market at this time. The merchants also followed suit and joined in. As a result, the opening time of Murane Town's largest commercial street coincided with the start of the downpour. Most people were wearing simple raincoats as they walked and shopped on the street. Webb specifically bought a raincoat produced by a factory. Although he didn't know what material it was made of, it was highly waterproof. Hemia, do you see the raincoats we're wearing? These are factory made. You should strive to go there in the future, then you'll bring honor to our family. Hemia, who was over a year old, didn't understand what Webb was saying. She just curiously looked at the entire street, pointing at everything that fascinated her. Every time she pointed at something, Webb would give his comments beside her. Those are adventurers, they are all skilled, but I don't recommend you to become one in the future. That's where they sell discounted red poison fruits, don't ever touch those. There was a guy in the 3rd ring before, who rented a collector fresh from the factory, but when he opened it, he got high from inhaling the red poison fruit and ended up causing a lot of accidents on the road. In the end, he was taken away by the higher-ups. In short, never touch those things. As Webb spoke, he showed a frightened expression, which made his wife burst into laughter. The vendors were calling out their wares, pedestrians were picking and choosing, and the raindrops kept falling. Webb wandered around with Hemia for half a day without buying anything. His wife, on the other hand, bought a lot. Fortunately, Webb's house was not far from the market, otherwise, they would have been exhausted. So many new things. Yes, I heard that the people from the Ministry of Finance bought them from other places. Several new shops have also opened in the market recently, probably opened by people from other places. The quality is much better than what the people from Murane Town used to offer. Oh, I knew it. I've been encountering so many unfamiliar people in the 2nd ring before. Doesn't that mean that the nobles from Telii City or the 4 major cities will come here after all? Mrs. Webb was a little scared and tremblingly voiced her speculation. What are you afraid of? Let's be honest, there's no way those nobles coming to Muyu Town have anything to do with us. We just need to live our own lives well. It's those businessmen who used to do business that might suffer. They'll probably be ruthlessly suppressed by the outsiders. Who cares about them? We can only focus on ourselves. You're right. The news of Muyu Town becoming an adventure town had already reached the 4 major cities and Telii City. Adventurers from these regions had chosen to develop here, although there were relatively few adventurers from the 4 major cities, mainly from Telii City. Various guilds and nobles also got wind of the situation and many of them rushed to Muyu Town. As a newly certified adventure town, Muyu Town had only been established for less than 3 years. The markets related to adventurers were undoubtedly vacant. The acquisition of materials, the sale of potions, the forging of weapons and equipment, and so on. In the eyes of those noble merchant caravans, Muyu Town definitely had tremendous business opportunities. They didn't want to miss out on this chance. Of course, Lin Chen was very supportive of these people coming. The key was that today, a very troublesome guest had arrived at Lin Chen's place. You're the mayor here? Yes. The atmosphere was a bit cold, and Ulsk quickly stepped forward to mediate. Ahem, Mayor, this is my superior, the president of the Adventurer Association in Hailong City. He helped us obtain the qualification for the adventure town. He has come to visit today to inquire about something. Please speak. The big man brought by Ulsk was dressed very plainly, wearing the most basic adventurer's outfit issued by the Adventurer Association. He looked like he could handle himself in a fight. He took a deep breath and then asked Lin Chen, "It's not easy to apply for an adventure town. You've gained a big advantage, but it's not without its conditions. I've also looked at the structure here, and she's not satisfied with your acceptance of non-human races. It's up to you to handle it. I have nothing more to say." After saying that, the man turned and left. His words were somewhat cryptic, but Lin Chen roughly understood that someone higher up needed an adventure town located within the GOBLIN maze. Combined with the personal visit of the president of the Adventurer Association in Hailong City, it was no wonder that there had been an increasing number of deserters fleeing to Lin Chen recently. It was probably deliberate. The superior of the Muyu Town Adventurer Association was the Hailong City Adventurer Association. This meant that a portion of the profits from the adventure industry here would be shared with the adventurers from Hailong City. With the absorption of refugees, this income would gradually increase. However, for the Adventurer Association, this income was probably insignificant. Therefore, the behind-the-scenes help for Muyu Town must be from other nobles in Hailong City, or it could be the Rainstorm family that controlled Hailong City. It made sense. Those who were sent to the maze for battle were selected from the 4 major cities. Hailong City helped Muyu Town become an adventure town and guided a large number of deserters from the 4 major cities to flee to Muyu Town, which was closer to Hailong City. This indicated that the people from Hailong City clearly wanted to absorb this group of people to strengthen their influence in Hailong City. It must be like this. Countless people were sent into the maze, and Muyu Town couldn't possibly absorb all of them. It was only reasonable to consider this place as a transit station for transporting them to Hailong City. Fantastic! Lin Chen gradually understood everything. The person who helped Muyu Town obtain the qualification for adventurers definitely didn't do it out of charity. Could it be that she also wanted to rescue those who had been sent to their deaths? Obviously impossible. This is undoubtedly a great opportunity for Lin Chen Tian. There are too many places to manipulate in between. It can be foreseen that this number must be huge. The population limit that Murane Town and the upcoming Sherman Town can absorb is insignificant compared to the Deserters Brigade in the future. How much profit can be extracted from this remains to be seen how Lin Chen operates. It can be foreseen that the slave industry in Murane Town will definitely gather and develop in the future. Lin Chen has already deployed these in advance. After the central stronghold of the maze, there are other things to do. The blood pattern on Lin Chen's body began to turn red, which is what the blood pattern emits when transmitting messages. In a certain place in the northwest of the central continent of GOBLIN maze, Lin Qingtian and Lin Qingchuan were originally eating well. The blood pattern on their bodies changed. Looks like we're going to work. I hope it's not to cooperate with those so-called adventurers to establish a stronghold. I'm so bored. Indeed, there are so many interesting things in the maze now. I hope we don't get called back. Collect humans, store them properly, and wait for orders. When they heard the message transmitted by Lin Chen, they were stunned for a moment. Then they both grinned. Haha, we can have fun now. I can't wait to see so much food over there every day. Indeed, we can collect materials on a large scale. By the way, how is the thing you made before? It's finished, just wait. The show is about to begin. Hurry, I can't wait. In the beginning, Lin Chen asked the two of them to establish a stronghold for the adventurers and take care of them a little bit. So they directly found a relatively remote place by the sea, and swept the surrounding creatures. Then let the lizardmen brought by Lin Qingchuan establish a stronghold. After that, they let the adventurers who came take over the place, and they built it quite well. It already has the appearance of a port. Lin Qingchuan often goes there to observe the navigators and collect experimental materials and blood essence slimes from the agreed place. Now there are already 3 navigators. The scale of adventurers has also increased. The order they received was to stay still and guard this stronghold. In order to avoid conflicts with those uninformed adventurers, they moved their temporary resting place farther and farther away. Now they finally received a mission and got rid of the boring daily routine. After such a long time, the goblins they have accumulated here have exceeded 3,000, and there are nearly 10 big goblins. In addition to Lin Qingchuan, there are 2 goblin priests, plus the 300 maze wolves and 100 maze lizardmen brought from Murane Town during this period. This combat power is already considerable. When tens of thousands of scattered human soldiers encounter this configuration, they can only wait to die. Moreover, they also have the great weapon created by Lin Qingchuan. Lin Qingchuan is a goblin priest and a natural spellcaster. After seeing the collectors and navigators made by Lin Chen, he also saw the light and made breakthroughs. He is also working hard on research on the central island of the maze. Every month when the adventurers change shifts, he will bring a few freshly made first-generation blood essence slimes. This thing is absolutely crucial, and only the effect of splitting by Vetum is good. The offspring splitting is getting worse and worse. Now that the last 2 required blood essence slimes are in hand, Lin Qingchuan's work is finally about to be completed. Don't expect the goblin stronghold to be like a place where people live. The air here is filled with rotting flesh and blood. It's even dirtier and messier than where Lin Chen was born. You can't even imagine how dirty it would be here without the washing of rainwater. Of course, although the smell here is unpleasant, the scenery is still good. Because most of the creatures in the Gila maze are water-based, their skin is mostly blue. Some even have blue blood. So the whole scene here is basically various shades of blue flesh and rot, accompanied by white bones and blue and red blood. Anyway, Lin Qingtian and Lin Qingchuan find this scene very beautiful. Back at the base, Lin Qingchuan couldn't wait to go to his own experimental site. Her experimental site is a bit different from River Daisy Linchen's. It's outdoors, doing experiments in the rain. Although it's not very rigorous, it's very goblin-like. When you enter his experimental pit, you will find a huge creature. It's a bit difficult to describe this thing specifically. In simple terms, this thing is a stitched monster. Lin Qingchuan stitched everything together. In the end, this monster was created. The overall image doesn't reveal whether it's a crawling beast or a bipedal creature. It has numerous sharp teeth and bones on its back. It stands at a height of 6 meters, with a length of about 7 meters and a width of 4 meters. Most of its body is blue, with some red flesh taken from the surroundings. It definitely consumes a lot of energy, especially with the 2 blood slime creatures installed in Lin Qingchuan's head this time. There are already 30 newly split blood slime creatures inside this stitched monster. Gagaga, let's start. With Lin Qingchuan's command, the water level in the blood pool where the stitched monster is immersed begins to drop, and the water level in the entire base's blood pool also decreases accordingly. After the 30 engines are well fed, the stitched monster starts to move. However, it is puzzling that this thing neither walks upright nor crawls. It moves more like a wriggling motion. It seems that Lin Qingchuan did not adopt a structure similar to Linchen's, but directly combined bones, flesh, and blood slime in their natural state. This is unreasonable but very goblin-like. Although this way of moving renders the designed limbs meaningless, it is undeniably more terrifying. It is believed to be very effective in harvesting those fleeing humans. In the 114,577th year of the magical calendar, as expected by Linchen, the Sea Dragon City or the Storm family must have some ulterior motive for the population scattered in the maze. After the arrival of the Sea Dragon City Adventurer Association president, a member of the Storm Church also arrived. He looked young and didn't give Linchen a strong impression. He was probably here to build his resume. Are you Mayor Muru Town? My name is Wells, and I am a member of the Storm Church sent here. We want to build a Storm Church in your town. What do you think? Does that mean I have the right to refuse? Linchen silently complained in his heart. Naturally, there is no problem. The kindness of the Storm Church should be spread to every Gila citizen. Mayor, you're joking. The town you built is also the hope of countless people. Not at all. It's nothing compared to the blessings bestowed by the church. After some mutual flattery, Linchen saw Wells off. Linchen had anticipated the arrival of the church, but he didn't expect it to come so soon. Fortunately, there was no conflict, as they didn't have much objection to collectors and navigators. But then again, not every church is so benevolent. Just like in the Gila region, most sects are related to rain. The doctrines of these sects are basically blind worship of various rain gods. Essentially, it is a worship of the strong. The arrival of the Storm Church naturally harms Linchen's interests, but fortunately, Linchen had made arrangements in advance in the maze. He could earn a lot from the first commission. It's not a problem for the church to take a share in Muru Town. Now, Muru Academy is no longer the only way to advance in the town, as there is also the church. But the Muyu Academy is casting a wide net. There are no thresholds, as long as you reach the age. Due to the credibility of the church, those newcomers will definitely believe in the church more. However, when they see that the Muyu Academy can effectively help the common people improve their status, their trust in the academy will also greatly increase. We must never let the church have absolute ideological authority. Afterwards, we need to support our party members to promote Muyu Town supremacy in the town. Of course, these are some things that will happen in the future. At this time, Lin Chen needs to consider the arrival of the Blood Moon next month. The food accumulated in Muyu Town is enough for the refugees who will come this time to survive the Blood Moon. But as time goes on, the number of refugees coming to Muyu Town will inevitably increase exponentially. By then, it may not be enough. And as the quantity increases, it is also impossible to provide them with food for free. We must provide relief through labor. Those who come after July will all have to work harder and provide food according to their workload. The rain kept falling, landing on the townspeople working in Muyu Town. Lin Chen stood on the city wall, inspecting everything, with Daisy and Vila standing beside him, patrolling with him. Daisy was dressed in standard secretary attire, her tight-fitting clothes outlining her attractive figure, while Vila volunteered to dress as a maid to serve Lin Chen. Because of the arrival of the church, some of the labor force had to be allocated to help them establish the church. That guy Wells will also choose a location. He directly built the Storm Church not far from the third ring gate, facing Lin Chen's mansion from a distance. It is estimated that after it is built, it will be a very grand building. This is a determined attempt to gain attention. It seems that the gates on both sides of the town should be open more. The elevation of humans in Muyu Town is unavoidable. It is necessary to open a passage on the east and west sides of the town wall. We cannot let them pass by the church every time they enter or leave the town. The level of exploitation should also be increased. If everyone can get by easily, then the opportunity to study at Muyu Academy for free will not be cherished enough. We need to let those people struggle in the quagmire of life, so that they can understand the importance of knowledge. Currently, the commercial center of the town is in the second ring, and we must firmly grasp it. An officially certified commercial district should be directly established there. Let's directly stipulate that the area between the second ring and the first ring, east of the Adventurer Association, is all a commercial district. After the East Gate is built, it will also facilitate direct communication with foreign business associations, and most importantly, it will be convenient for Linshan to control. Next year, a large number of merchants from the 4 great cities in the Treilai City area will flock in, which will definitely be a blow to the current shop owners in the town. But for most people, it is a good thing. It can improve their quality of life as well as the wealth gap. Of course, this has little to do with Lin Chen. He just needs to live a good life with Daisy and Vila, and improve himself. The blood moon arrives as scheduled. Just like the annual appointment with Gon does, it always comes at that time. For the majority of people, the blood moon is a disaster. But for Muyu Town, every blood moon is an opportunity. For those apprentices, it is an opportunity to become stronger, and for the ordinary people at the bottom, it is an opportunity for promotion. For Lin Chen, it is naked wealth. The guard team is recruiting manpower just like last year. But this time, not everyone who signs up will be selected. If you carefully analyze the list, you will find that many of the people selected this time have friendly relationships with those who signed up and survived before. This year, the guard team has set up a total of 100 teams, with nearly 100 people in each team. Humans make up the majority, with a few half-orcs, and no other races at all. In addition to these forces, the Storm Church has also dispatched some people to resist the blood moon from a distance. All those people were wearing blue robes made by the church. It was impossible to see the people inside clearly. They held identical long knives with unique blue patterns engraved on the blades. They exuded a solemn and murderous aura. Lin Chen estimated that these were the rain guards of the Storm Church. They looked quite impressive. It was said that the only criterion for becoming a rain guard was whether one was devout enough. Lin Chen didn't quite believe this. On one hand, these things were mass-produced soldiers, so if there were strict religious restrictions, wouldn't it be easy to run out of soldiers during wartime? On the other hand, not all church members believed in their god, as the clergy often had the clearest minds. Moreover, the ruler of the Storm Church was the Storm family, and they should be well aware that the essence of a god was a person who was powerful to a certain degree. The arguments they put forth were probably meant to convince the public. Or maybe this faith was really effective, just like the concept of karma in the novels Lin Chen had read in his previous life. These things were still a bit far from Lin Chen. The next thing Lin Chen had to do was to test his new invention. Lin Chen had long coveted the fire-breathing ability of the dog-headed people. After more than a year of research and development, Lin Chen and Daisy had initially deciphered the natural warlock inside the dog-headed people's fire-breathing organs. Although they didn't fully understand it, they had already figured out the key structure. The current captain of the guard, who was also one of the surviving members of the previous batch of guards, had been equipped with the first version of the jet weapon developed by Lin Chen Ao Quan. The appearance and usage of this thing designed by Lin Chen were similar to firearms from his previous life. Press the bone trigger and shoot a water arrow. The original fire-breathing organ of the dog-headed people converted the internal energy into flames and sprayed it out. Those dog-headed people were obviously new to the Gila region, where fire-breathing was considered inferior due to the constant rain. Lin Chen made changes to the relevant structure. The provided energy was changed to blood and chi, provided by the blood and chi slimes. The thing sprayed out was changed to water arrows. During the spraying process, venom from the venom slime was added. So the magazine was equipped with two things, one was the blood and chi slime, and the other was the venom slime. Lin Chen chose relatively small slimes. The blood and chi slime used the 5th generation split body of Vedum, so the size matched the blood and chi supply just right. The magazine was not inserted directly into the corresponding groove like a rifle. It was inserted from the back of the gun as a whole. The power had been tested before and was able to explode individuals with a physique of 50. The level system should be level 14, purely based on physique. By the way, according to the grading system, Lin Chen was now at level 24, with 320 points of physique and 180 points of spirit. Ao Quan was a lightweight weapon after all, so the requirements couldn't be too high. One magazine could shoot 20 rounds, and the bullets were renewable. It was very environmentally friendly and energy-saving. Although the levels of the 5 captains of the guard were around level 8, they were more than capable of using Ao Quan. At this moment, all the guard captains were eager to go. Lin Chen had just issued a large number of hunting tasks, and killing those contaminated creatures not only earned them high rewards but also promoted them. Most of the guard captains couldn't resist this temptation. After all, they had joined for the purpose of promotion. As for the informal residents who were led by the guard, they either followed the orders or ran away on their own. With Lin Chen's command, the guard began to divide into 5 groups and spread out evenly near the 3rd ring wall. They were all praying that those contaminated creatures would come to the places they were guarding. Those were not just ferocious beasts, but wealth. Wealth that led to heaven. It had to be said that those foreign merchants had indeed brought great convenience, such as the maid outfit that Vila was wearing now. Vila, who was already petite and cute, became even more charming in the maid outfit. Lin Chen comfortably reclined on the lounge chair and listened to the rain. Vila used her red and black tail to help massage Lin Chen. Lin Chen really likes this feeling. Usually after a while, it would evolve into Lin Chen holding Vila in his arms and stroking her beast ears. Vila weakly massages Lin Chen with her tail. After a while, Vila would collapse in Lin Chen's arms under his touch. But today's plot is slightly different. Instead of picking up Vila, Lin Chen asked her a question. Vila, the storm church has settled in our town, and with a large number of deserters from the humans running towards us, the status of humans will continue to rise. What do you think we should do with the half-beast people in town? Vila continues to serve Lin Chen with her tail. You can arrange it. I have no objections. Really? Now there are probably over 10,000 humans in the town, and less than 5,000 half-beast people. Next year, there will definitely be tens of thousands of humans coming, and the half-beast people will be too scared to come to Muyu Town. It's only a matter of time before the half-beast people in Muyu Town are submerged. Vila just wagged her tail faster and massaged Lin Chen's body. Her eyes were so teary. Whoa, I really don't know. Alright, if you don't know, then listen to my arrangement. I've already placed a lot of contaminated creatures in Shimin Town. It won't be able to hold up. When the time comes, let Lin Qin-song go there with some subordinates and directly come to the rescue with divine weapons. The half-beast people there will be moved to tears. Then, let the guard department, which is your tribe, be responsible for receiving the half-beast people who escape here. That place will soon become our new stronghold. According to the Orc Kingdom's system, when the time comes, let Lin Qin-song choose the chieftain there, and we will be the emperors of that place. Vila was clearly shocked by Lin Chen's words. Can Sunger really do that? Can our tribe really? Lin Chen didn't let Vila continue speaking, but directly picked her up and walked towards the bedroom. The usually obedient little Vila also became proactive. She took the initiative to kiss Lin Chen. With her blushing skin, adorable fox ears, and a maid outfit, who could resist? Lin Chen certainly couldn't, and he immediately began his performance. After a passionate session, Vila's whole body was so hot that it could cook an egg. She curled up in the fur blanket, breathing heavily. From time to time, she would be stroked by Lin Chen. While reminiscing, Lin Chen also complained about the quality of the fur blanket. He must replace it with a bigger and softer one. Just as the two were indulging in their memories, Daisy walked in. Lin Chen was completely shameless and didn't know what embarrassment was. Daisy, on the other hand, blushed and lightly scolded him. You should put away your abilities first. It's broad daylight. According to the information we collected, there are a large number of cannon fodder from the Snake Beastman clan's frontline in the maze that have scattered. Should we go and take advantage of the situation? I was just discussing this with Vila earlier, and we have roughly finalized the plan. As long as you have a plan, then I won't disturb you. What do you mean? How can your presence be considered a disturbance? Lin Chen quickly pushed Daisy next to Vila, and Vila shyly curled up under the blanket. By the way, have you arranged the business on your side? It's been arranged. They have contacted many small nobles who have previously cooperated with us. They are easy to control and will form a commercial alliance under our leadership. What are you doing? The sound of clothes tearing could be heard. You're all doing great. Today, let's reward you properly. Oh, by the way, remember to give me the list later. Relax for now. The Gila Empire, the Avia Elf Federation, and the Orc Kingdom continue to send ordinary troops to the Gila Maze. If no prevention and control measures are taken, it is not surprising that various types of contaminated organisms will emerge in the center of the maze. It can be foreseen that individuals like Grady, who believed in the Blood Moon, will also go there to take advantage of the situation. But now the Rain Church has settled in the town of Murain. Even if the sky falls, there is someone tall enough to hold it up. Moreover, the Blood Moon followers may not be enemies to Lin Chen, and there may even be a possibility of incorporating them. Lin Chen is not very worried about these issues. He is currently standing outside the Stone Gate town in the deep mountains with Vila and Lin Qin-song. Lin Qin-song is the core of this operation, and Vila is worried about him and insists on coming along. Father, please let me take the lead in this war. I have already mastered the method of creating contaminated monsters that you taught me. The recipients you brought are all Blood Moon friendly and have been cultivated for multiple generations. Since you want to do it, I'll leave it to you. Lin Qin-song's face showed a pleased expression. I will not let you down, father. After saying that, he walked towards the cage where the rabbits were brought. It was different from the fur that the professor gave to his apprentices. Lin Chen taught his own son the real stuff, everything from the previous Blood Moon scriptures. Lin Qin-chuan's results, Lin Chen didn't want to comment on. Next, Lin Chen wanted to see Lin Qin-song's performance. He first took out 2 rabbits and wrapped them together with blood slime. Then the 3rd, 4th, all the way to the 10th. This is the synthesis method of the Blood Moon scripture's blood giant. But Lin Qin-sun's performance was not over yet. The 10 rabbits were tightly entangled by several blood slimes, forming the overall shape of a quadruped animal. Lin Qin-sang then took out the head of a dog-headed person, which was specially made. The appearance looked like a dog's head, but inside it had wolf fangs and the skin was the scales of a cold soul lizard person. It retained the shape of a dog's head and the internal flame-throwing organ. After assembling it, Lin Qin-sun made the final adjustments. Insert a few bull horns, attach 3 fox half-beast tails, and lay the lizard person's scales on top. Stick these things together with blood slime. It took him more than 2 hours to complete all of this. The next step is the final one. Use the method in the blood moon scriptures to communicate with the blood moon. Completely corrupt what is in front of you. Lin Qin-sun used his own black energy to wrap around the semi-finished product in front of him. At the same time, he communicated with the blood moon in the sky. In an instant, the blood moon emitted a bright red light. Lin Qin standing next to him seemed to feel the loneliness of that blood-colored world. Vila next to him couldn't hold on any longer, but fortunately, Lin Qin quickly picked her up. The black energy around the semi-finished product continued to accumulate, and the semi-finished product kept expanding. The various components of the body were rapidly expanding, contaminating, and spreading. The blood slime that connected the various tissues turned into thick blood vessels. The 10 rabbits gradually melted and recombined. In the end, only their rabbit skins and distorted eyes remained. Each rabbit's eyes were contaminated and turned into a huge blood eye. 10 blood eyes were distributed on this contaminated creature, and the 3 foxtails became huge and elegant, with a color tone of blood red and black. The dog head in front began to be contaminated and distorted, revealing ferocious fangs. The skin made of cold soul lizard scales also began to change, as if a jade helmet had been put on the dog's head. The final product had rabbit skin on its body, ice jade skin derived from the head, lizard scales, and fox skin derived from the tails. There were also exposed and ferocious blood vessels composed of blood slime. There were several places where ferocious horn blades were connected. After being fed with food madly, it successfully grew into a contaminated giant beast. Its body grew to 10 meters long, with a height of 6 meters and a width of over 5 meters. It was filled with black energy and blood energy all over. I have to say, the things produced by the methods in blood moon scriptures are indeed extraordinary. Unfortunately, they can only be summoned during the blood moon period. After the blood moon ends, the things that are summoned have to return to the embrace of the blood moon. So, we can only reluctantly retrieve them after the performance. It's really good, so let's start our script. Shout song, be careful. Don't worry, dealing with the small town of Sherman is a piece of cake. Ha ha ha. Lin Qin-sun laughed confidently, bringing along the contaminated creatures and the extras from the tribe to start performing the script. Viola looked closely in the direction of Sherman town, not knowing what she was thinking. What's wrong? Do you feel sorry for those half-beast people? No, I'm just worried about Shaosong. After all, this is the territory of the Orc Kingdom. Sherman town definitely has a certain level of defense. Ha, he has the bloodline and brought so many people with him. There shouldn't be any problems. Besides, I'm here too, right? Let's go and take a look. Lin Qin carried Viola and walked toward Sherman town. For the residents of Sherman town, this day was particularly significant. As usual, most of the residents of Sherman town would stay indoors during the blood moon period. Although they were guarded by the city walls and the town's defenders, the uncertainties of the blood moon still made them afraid to go out. They could only pray for the blood moon to pass quickly. Unfortunately, their wishes could not be fulfilled. Boom! The sound of the earth shaking appeared in Sherman town, and this sound was gradually getting louder. It seemed that sound was coming towards them. The snake-like half-beast people on the city walls couldn't remain calm either. They all looked in panic towards the source of the sound. A terrifying monster gradually came into their view. They couldn't simply describe it. That thing seemed to be stitched together from various things. It was almost as tall as the city walls of Sherman town. The stone gate that gave the town its name seemed like a joke in front of it. The half-beast people saw it and felt fear at first sight, and then only despair remained. The monster, mixed with blood and black energy, rushed towards Sherman town. Boom! The city walls were directly crushed. Along with the snake-like half-beast people standing on it, they were all shattered by the tremendous impact. It didn't stop at all and rushed straight towards the sanctuary of Sherman town. Lin Chan and the others had studied the attack before. The ruling class of Sherman town all resided in the fortress at the center of the town, where the highest defense force of the entire Sherman town was located, a marsh dragon. Although the name had the word dragon, it was actually a snake, just a very large one. According to the information provided by the half-beast people of Muyu town, the snake-like half-beast people had the habit of raising giant snakes, and the giant snake was their confidence to be one of the 3 major families of the Orc Kingdom. The residents of Sherman town were mainly snake-like half-beast people, and it was said that the founder of Sherman town was a half-beast person born of a snake-like half-beast person and a human. That snake-like half-beast person gave him a marsh dragon as protection. Now, this marsh dragon had been receiving offerings from the entire Sherman town for over 100 years. The specific strength would have to be seen in the upcoming battle. The marsh dragon was very sensitive and had been adjusting its state and arranging the surroundings after sensing such a big commotion. By the time the contaminated giant beast arrived, it had turned the area around the castle into a marsh. The contaminated giant beast didn't have much rationality and just wanted to tear apart any living creature it saw. Feeling that its opponent was not simple, it unleashed a barrage of skills. Blood-red light shot out from its body, intertwined with black energy. Its body was covered in ice, and it spewed out a massive flame from its mouth. Its limbs burst with tremendous power as it charged towards the marsh dragon. When it rushed out, it was like an arrow leaving the bowstring, producing a loud sonic boom. It directly pushed aside the water in the marsh along the way. Zalone saw this situation and immediately went crazy, spinning in the water, quickly forming a waterspout to resist and avoid the damage caused by the polluted behemoth. Unfortunately, the waterspout could only withstand the flames and rays emitted by the behemoth. Under the impact of the polluted behemoth, the waterspout shattered. Zalone and the polluted behemoth directly engaged in a fight. Zalone was also provoked and disregarded the blade horns and blood eyes on the behemoth's body. He directly entangled it and then contracted his body madly. The polluted behemoth also fought back, biting with its mouth and stabbing Zalone with its tail turned into a blade. Blood splattered everywhere, and the water that Zalone had prepared turned blood red. While the two were locked in a stalemate, the powerful individuals in Sherman Town who had been watching finally began to prepare to help Zalone. On the sidelines, Vila was a little worried. Can it handle this? Based on this situation, it indeed can't, but with Lin Qinsong's blessing, it might be different. Let's wait and see. The snake half-beasts began to attack the polluted behemoth with various weapons. Countless snake venom shot towards the behemoth, mainly targeting its blood eyes. The snake venom could also heal Zalone's injuries. As the blood and black aura lingering around the polluted behemoth gradually dissipated, the situation gradually shifted towards Zalone. The blood vessels formed by the blood slime gradually burst open. The fight gradually turned into a struggle until there was complete silence. Is it over? Did we win? That thing was terrifying. The blood moon is really dangerous. This is definitely the most dangerous blood moon in Sherman Town. The residents of Sherman Town felt a sense of surviving a disaster. At this moment, the mayor, who arrived late, solemnly announced to the residents, "Dear townspeople, we have gone through the most difficult time together. As long as you firmly obey the orders of the mayor, we can easily overcome any difficulties, just like this polluted behemoth." Although no one knew where the mayor, who usually exploited the townspeople, had been or if he had even shown up, at this moment, no one would belittle him. They all cheered and celebrated. The mayor of Sherman Town stood against the backdrop of Zalone, facing the cheers of the townspeople. In his heart, he was thinking about whether he should invite the tax officials to his house to compensate for his losses. As he closed his eyes and enjoyed everything, he heard the cheers getting smaller and smaller. When he angrily opened his eyes, he saw that the townspeople were no longer cheering. Their eyes were filled with fear and despair. Those who reacted quickly had already started frantically running away. The mayor of Sherman Town widened his eyes and slowly turned his head to look behind him. The polluted behemoth, which should have been dead, was gradually emitting a red light. Strange patterns were gradually being traced on its body. The blood bursting out of its blood vessels flowed in a regular pattern on its body, gradually forming a strange pattern. All the drifting blood in Sherman Town was converging towards the polluted behemoth. The mayor collapsed on the ground. He no longer had the desire to escape. Zalone, seeing this situation, also wanted to escape, but he gradually realized that he couldn't move at all. The blood tracing the patterns flowed into his body through his wounds. Gradually, he lost consciousness as the blood washed away his senses. Roar! The polluted behemoth successfully entered its second stage. It no longer paid any attention to the snake dragon and directly attacked the townspeople. Its first target was the mayor, suffocating him. See, nothing happened. Everything went as expected. Vera breathed a sigh of relief when she saw the scene. She was curious and asked Lin Chen, "Why does the blood pattern on the contaminated behemoth's body look so similar to the one on Xiaocang's body?" Haven't you noticed that it's also similar to yours?" "Ha!" Lin Chen smiled at Vera's dumbfounded expression. "The blood pattern of your bloodline has the function of detonation. That's why the contaminated behemoth entered its second stage. So, does that mean I can enhance my own strength?" Vera asked excitedly. "The cost of detonation is enormous. First of all, the target must give their consent to be detonated, which can be achieved through various means. The object being detonated will experience a tremendous boost, but it will come at the cost of potential, lifespan, and even life itself." So, doesn't that mean the contaminated behemoth is about to die? It will follow the script until its last breath, and even in death, it will bring us great benefits. Run away! Oh my god, why is this happening? The entire Sherman Town was now in ruins, with debris everywhere. According to the script, the savior was about to make an appearance. Kill that monster. A group of fox-eared half-beasts rushed into Sherman Town. After a long battle with the monster, under the gaze of the indigenous people, the leader unleashed all his power and narrowly defeated the monster. Today, the half-beasts of Sherman Town truly experienced great ups and downs. But the newcomer seemed incredibly powerful. The days ahead would surely become better under his leadership. Isn't this fun? It's quite an interesting performance. Vera didn't respond to Lin Chen's words, she just watched as Lin Song, who was being praised by everyone, let out a sigh of relief. It's impressive. Xiaosong is fine, and our territory has expanded. Let's go. Next, let's allow the great hero to establish his prestige and take over here. Lin Chen picked up Vera and set off back to Murain town. Along the way, Vera's foxtail kept wagging. The blood moon passed like this, and nothing major happened in Murain town. There were 73 surviving members of the guard squad. Although gaining higher positions and titles was tempting, everyone valued their lives more. But with more survivors, a careful selection process was necessary. Last time, 20-something people were chosen out of 5, but this time, only 20 people would be selected. The captain had the authority to recommend one person with outstanding achievements. The rest would have to be chosen through martial arts competitions. Lin Chen briefly understood these minor matters and stopped paying attention to them. At this moment, Lin Chen had more important things to do. He needed to thoroughly study the components of the contaminated behemoth he had obtained earlier. After the contaminated behemoth that completed his mission died, several components were extracted: 8 blood eyes and 2 damaged blood eyes, 5 enhanced blade-shaped bull horns, 3 huge blood-colored foxtails, a valuable head containing a complete enhanced flamethrower organ, and a giant blood vessel transformed from blood slime. Among these components, Lin Chen particularly liked the blood vessels transformed from slime. As long as he mastered this method, he could assemble the behemoth he desired without any worries. The blood eyes could convert blood energy into lasers. The value of the bull horns and fox tails was still unknown. In any case, this was a fruitful harvest. To cope with the upcoming complex situation, it was necessary to enhance his strength. For Lin Chen, there were 2 ways to do so: diligently improving his magic or physique, and developing his tribe. Unlike before, slave trading had also begun in the small town. Finding high-quality mothers was no longer a problem. The key now is to find mothers of different races, because Lin Chen found that combining with partners of different races can produce different abilities of bloodlines. With Vila, it is detonation, and with Daisy, it is enhancement. It's similar to the move used against Grighty before. Different offspring unlock different branches, such as Lin Qingtian, who has pure physical and strength enhancement, Lin Qingzhuan, who has speed and strength enhancement, and Lin Qingchuan, who has mental power and magic enhancement. Lin Chen can use the abilities derived from offspring. Now thinking back, Lin Chen's transformation during the fight with Grighty was caused by this. Lin Qingchuan obtained the ability of Frost Scale Armor from the Frost Lizard Man. In the offspring of the Goblin and Minotaur, Lin Chen also gained the abilities of Flame and Earthquake. And Lin Chen himself has the ability of Resonance, which can mobilize the power of individuals with bloodlines. Lin Chen, who has some knowledge, no longer has no understanding of the bloodlines on his body, as if he had just crossed over. Bloodlines should be a very powerful natural spell. Extract and transform the abilities of other races through blood relations, and then condense corresponding special bloodlines. For example, Vila is a fox half-beast, and the innate inherited skill in their race is inspiration, and detonation should be derived from inspiration. The abilities derived from the lizardmen, goblins, and minotaurs also support this speculation. So for Lin Chen, collecting different races seems to be a shortcut to enhance his strength. The slave industry in the town needs further development. The price of exotic slaves needs to be raised to let those merchants and slave-catching teams know how much profit there is. The adventurer industry and the slave trade industry also intersect and can promote each other's development. These are the plans for future development. Now, Lin Chen is conducting an experiment related to bloodlines. So far, all bloodlines have been applied to individual organisms. Lin Chen is trying to apply bloodlines to objects. Let's see if this can create magic items like those magicians. Since it is the first attempt, Lin Chen didn't expect to make anything good. His goal is to create a book that can judge the affinity of dark energy. He selected 50 pieces of rabbit skin with different affinities to dark energy. The expected result is to engrave the castrated resonance inscription, so that this book can have the ability to resonate with dark energy and determine the affinity of the other party. Unfortunately, Lin Chen overestimated himself a bit. Obviously, the resonance on his body belongs to the highest specification and is the origin of all bloodlines. Even though Lin Chen can easily activate and use it now, he cannot fully understand it or simplify it. It is a gift from the labyrinth. There is no way, he can't give up halfway. Resonance is constantly flowing, and it is impossible to achieve a one-to-one match. He can only randomly add enhancement to it. When the last stroke was drawn on the rabbit skin book with rabbit blood, the entire rabbit skin book began to change. The rabbit skin started to grow, and the flesh under the skin increased while the fur on the skin grew longer. In the end, the volume of the rabbit skin book became more than 10 times its original size. Lin Chen couldn't even tell that it was originally a book. After studying it carefully for a while, Lin Chen found that this thing seemed to be meaningless. Lin Chen then conducted many experiments and gradually summarized some rules. Bloodlines can only affect flesh or bones, and drawing them on other things is useless. Bloodlines can only be drawn with blood. If bloodlines are drawn on individuals other than Lin Chen's offspring or partners, the objects will undergo uncontrollable distortions, except for bloodlines like detonation. In short, it's quite mysterious. The more Lin Chen tries to understand it, the less he understands it. The town is developing in an orderly manner. In the blink of an eye, it's already June. Webb is cultivating his fields as usual, although the system of freely cultivating fields in the town has not changed. There is no place within the second ring road where land can be cultivated. A large amount of land has been bought up by incoming merchants. Even Webb's land has been bought up. Many shops in the original market have also been acquired. The entire eastern part of the second ring road is under construction. Various types of stone materials from other places have been used in the construction of this area. In just 6 months, 2 commercial streets have been built and put into use in the commercial district of the entire town. It is truly a rapidly changing place now, giving Webb a feeling that things are different every day. His house and land are becoming out of place. Fortunately, life can still go on. The money earned from selling the harvest can be used to buy bread and clothing on the street. Webb finally had some free time to rest after a busy planting season. He went to a honey shop he often visited. "Hey, Webb, here to buy honey again?" There are fewer familiar faces on this street lately. That's true. Merchants from the 4 great cities and Telei City have been buying land in our second ring road to build houses. The prices they offer are really high. Why don't you buy some then? I have a feeling that I want to become one of the merchants here. This place will definitely not be ordinary in the future. Well, good luck to you then. After paying, the shop owner skillfully packed the corresponding amount of honey for Webb. Normally, Webb should have headed home at this point, but today was different. He continued to stroll along this renovated street. It was pleasant to feel the rain during the rainy season. Looking at this completely different street, Webb felt a bit melancholic. Unknowingly, it's been over 3 years here. Webb walked along the street. Along the way, he saw many new things. Between shops selling weapons and potions, adventurers carefully compared prices. In front of steam-filled restaurants, diners discussed and debated. About half of the pedestrians on the street were adventurers, and there were also some ordinary townspeople. In addition to them, there were also some half-orcs and many foreign merchants. But the further Webb walked, the more something felt off. It was indeed becoming more bustling inside, but the atmosphere was clearly not right. Unlike before, where small shops were lined up one after another, the next shops were all large establishments. Webb looked at the sign on one of the doors, Monty's Poison Shop. Monty Town. His first reaction was fear, but then he thought that it was impossible for the vast Monty Town to know about a small serf like him. He felt relieved. However, the scene around Monty's Poison Shop made him feel like he was back in Monty Town. The alley was filled with all sorts of crazy people, who didn't bother the people queuing to buy poison. Passers-by avoided them. The 3 groups of people seemed like they were from 3 different worlds. Across from Monty's Poison Shop was the Shrey Casino. Webb had heard of the name Shrey before, but only heard. Back then, Webb didn't dare to step out of his own little plot of land. Passing by the entrance of that shop, Webb could roughly see what the people inside were doing. Some were wealthy and obese, while others were thin and frail. There were even a few people Webb recognized. It had been a long time since he had seen them, and now they had become so weak. They shouted loudly about what they were gambling on, hoping to win everything. Webb couldn't bear to look at them anymore. From the moment they stepped into the casino, their fate was already sealed. Webb didn't want to continue walking, but he was pulled a few steps inside by a boldly dressed woman. The woman tried to bring Webb into the Worry Relief Pavilion. Although he didn't know what it was, Webb's sixth sense told him that this was definitely not a good place. There were more people here than in the previous 2 places, and although the people coming out of it all had a red glow on their faces, their footsteps were ethereal. This Worry Relief Pavilion was probably a place that devoured people without leaving a trace. After breaking free, Webb had no intention of leaving this place. He didn't dare to look deeper inside. Over in Teralai City, they built a Kuroyoshi Street near the second ring road. They've brought over their specialties. Should we do something in response? Daisy stood next to Lin Chen, holding the neatly organized documents, and asked for his instructions. "You handle it. I'm still studying this upgraded flamethrower organ." As long as it doesn't touch our fundamental interests, there's no problem cooperating with them. Daisy took out her prepared plan. In Teralai City, they're involved in some black entertainment industries. The profits are quite high, but the people in our small town don't have enough money to spend like the adventurers in the 4 major cities. What suits our situation are lower-end things, like the low-quality poisons we sell at home. Arrange it as you see fit. If we can really capture the market, we shouldn't make them anxious. Alright, based on our on-site investigation of Muru Town in recent years, we have confidence in invading the poison market. But what Teralai City brings over is not just poison, they also have a surplus of purple dragon elixir. It's a mutually beneficial arrangement. However, we might have to give up the gambling market to them. Kuroyoshi Street. I remember there's a small town called Kuroyoshi under Teralai City's jurisdiction. It seems to specialize in poisons. Indeed, it's officially responsible for poisons, but there's a bigger business there, human trafficking. They not only sell slaves, but also purchase babies born as a result of poisons, raise and select them, and then sell them to various places. Hearing this, Lin Chen put down his work and looked at Daisy. That's also the hottest market for our purple dragon elixir. The children born from the chickens in Kuroyoshi town are bought at a relatively high price, so the desire and demand for our purple dragon elixir, which can increase fertility, are high there. And the slave trade there is also very developed. For us, Kuroyoshi town is a very good partner. After considering for a while, Lin Chen nodded. See if we can collect some exotic slaves from them. It's important for us, right? Us? Are you sure it's not just you? Are the collected exotic slaves going to become your sisters? Viola, who had been by Lin Chen's side, innocently interjected. Speaking in an innocent tone to Daisy, she said, Viola doesn't mind, it's a good thing for the tribe. Lin Chen immediately picked up Viola and said to Daisy, that's right. Don't be embarrassed, everything is for us and the tribe. Besides, only those who meet my aesthetic standards will become your sisters. Those who don't will only serve as mothers. Daisy rolled her eyes and didn't feel like responding. As long as you're happy, I'm going to the office. That won't do. Since we're here, let's finish the job. What job? Sigh. Naturally, it was something she loved to do. Webb didn't walk to the end of Kuroyoshi Street. Standing there was the president of the Teralai Slave Traders Association. Today, Lin Chen received the president of the Teralai Slave Traders Association at the mayor's office. The president of the Teralai Slave Traders Association looked like a fat pig. Well, he really did, and Lin Chen could sense that he possessed extraordinary power. I don't know why he keeps this appearance. Hello, Mayor of the Rain Adventure Town, President Pig's Tray of the Tray Chamber of Commerce sends his regards. After some compliments and greetings, Pigs awkwardly performed a noble gesture. Lin Chen responded with a clumsy gesture and offered blessings and greetings. He, Mayor, let's not beat around the bush. I came here to talk to you about some matters regarding slave trade. Lin Chen didn't give a substantial answer, but waited for Pigs to continue. Ahem, Mayor, our demands are not high. We only want a 10% share of the slaves you bring back from the labyrinth. After we sell them through our channels, we'll give you a 40% cut. How does that sound? After Pigs finished speaking, he stared at Lin Chen. Lin Chen simply smiled. Your plan is too ambitious. It's impossible to get something for nothing. Haha, that's definitely impossible. It depends on your sincerity. Don't worry, not only are we offering something with absolute sincerity. You better be. Pigs took off a ring from his hand and handed it to Lin Chen. Mayor, you're joking. You might as well use your mental power to open this spatial ring and take a look. A spatial ring, I've read about it in novels in my past life. But instead of following Pig's instructions, Lin Chen returned the ring. Show it to me. Pig's expression didn't change, he maintained his standard smile. Alright, Mayor. Taking the spatial ring, Pigs waved his hand and a purple egg appeared in front of Lin Chen. I've heard that the mayor is collecting exotic creatures, and coincidentally, our town produces purple dragon elixir. I don't know if the mayor is satisfied with this purple dragon egg. Although the purple dragon is only known for its reproductive abilities among dragons, it's still hard to refuse. Purple dragons are known to be trash, and trying to exchange a 20% share for just one egg seems a bit too much. It's not certain if the Sea Dragon City will allow it. Mayor, you're mistaken. The share and how it's distributed is up to you. Getting a share that will satisfy us all is a piece of cake. And the purple dragon elixir from the Rain Town that increases fertility is in high demand in Trey City. It's a win-win situation for us. Compared to the Sea Dragon City and the Storm Church, what we get is just scraps. It's not worth paying attention to. Don't you agree? Ha. After an awkward laugh, Lin Chen called Daisy to finalize the contract. Slave trade is the main focus, but there are other aspects of cooperation that need to be negotiated. Lin Chen didn't want to argue about the rest, so he left it to Daisy. He just stood by as a signatory. In the Ganda's dragon species, there are many, but the number of purebred great dragons is very small. The purple dragon is one of the more famous dragon species, as it closely resembles a great dragon in appearance when it reaches adulthood. It has strong reproductive abilities and develops much faster than great dragons. However, its strength and magical abilities are much weaker than those of great dragons, and it doesn't look as majestic. Its scales are not even hard. However, overall, it is still quite excellent. Pigs is willing to give Lin Chen a purple dragon egg as a long-term trade idea. Normally, after purchasing a purple dragon, people would want to buy more to breed them. Unfortunately, it seems that Lin Chen doesn't need that trouble. As long as Lin Chen touches the egg, he will know the gender. Public speaking is quite troublesome. But if it's a female, I heard that dragons have the ability to transform when they grow into adult dragons. But Lin Chen thinks that if it's a dragon, it seems like a young dragon would work too. After sending Pigs away, Lin Chen hurriedly took Viola to the basement with the dragon egg. The exciting moment has arrived. Lin Chen held his breath and used his bloodline to touch the purple dragon egg, which is about the size of 3 human heads. The bloodline successfully spread onto the purple dragon egg. It worked. Looks like we're going to have another sister. But it takes 30 years for a purple dragon to reach its youth. Lin Chen happily held the dragon egg in his arms. As soon as he did, the entire purple dragon egg shattered, along with the bloodline that spread on it. Shattered. Inside, a cute little purple dragon emerged. The entire little purple dragon's body was translucent purple, with only the tail engraved with bloodlines. Just like humans, newborn dragons are much stronger. It is said that when a dragon is born, it automatically inherits the dragon's legacy in its mind. Does this mean that a purple dragon can speak from birth? The little purple dragon in Lin Chen's hand started nibbling on the eggshell as soon as it was born. This is her first meal in life, and it is an essential meal for all dragons. Dragon eggs contain substances that can help young dragons grow quickly or enhance their potential. That's why various dragon eggs are also hot-selling items in the market. Unfortunately, the hatching of the little purple dragon is not like other dragons that can break the top of the egg on their own. Her egg shattered directly, and many fragments fell to the ground. After finishing the one in Lin Chen's hand, she stared at him with her big eyes. "Daddy, eat." On the ground. Egg. A childish voice came out of her mouth, obviously mistaking Lin Chen for her father. Of course, that's not the point. Lin Chen smiled at her, hugged her in his arms, and squatted down to pick up the eggshells on the ground. After a clear inspection, he slowly fed them to her one by one. He. Ha ha ha. Lin Chen kept laughing strangely during the feeding process. "You're such a pervert. This little purple dragon has been raised by a lunatic. I can't stand it anymore. Let's go, Viola. I want to take care of the master, and the little purple dragon is also very cute. She will definitely be a cute little sister when she grows up. When she grows up, she'll be able to swallow you in one bite. By the way, what should we name her?" Daisy pondered for a moment. "Let's call her Elena?" The little purple dragon nodded cutely when she heard Daisy's chosen name. In a childish voice, she said, "Mommy, name me Elena. From now on, I'll be called Elena." "Miss, the adventure town has been established. Now we need to focus on winning this war." Ophinas took a deep breath. Let's start the full-scale war with the Avia Elf Federation. "Miss, we have gathered 4 armies of 200,000 troops each, stationed in the 4 directions of the front line. The elite troops have 3 million soldiers on the front line, and the remaining miscellaneous troops who have suffered casualties and escaped, combined with reinforcements from the rear, have a dynamic balance of about 10 million. They are evenly distributed on the front line and are spontaneously shifting eastward. Has the promotion system been formulated and implemented? According to your orders, those miscellaneous troops can be promoted to elite troops as long as they perform meritorious deeds, and the members of the elite troops can also enhance their strength through battle achievements and obtain things like battle chi." Ophinas frowned. "Is it really being implemented?" "Just as you ordered, miss." "That's good. Any news from the elves?" The butler took out a magic map and spread it out in front of Ophinas. "The elves have sent out tree spirit giant ships and launched a large-scale attack starting from the southernmost part of the front line. The Orc Kingdom has launched a large-scale attack on the northern front. They want to launch a pincer attack." "Who is commanding the elves and the orcs?" "The elves have sent Amaya Avia, the youngest daughter of the leader of the Avia Elven Federation. As for the Orc Kingdom, I heard it's a prince from the Snake Orc clan, but I don't know much about him." "Amaya, huh? That's very much like her style. Send a team of rain guards to guard the southern town, and the other 3 teams of rain guards will lead 2 million elite troops to attack directly from the west. Use the miscellaneous troops and the remaining elite troops to defend the north and south. Ultimately, the war is not their choice." "Understood, miss. Everything is progressing, especially the stronghold Lin Chen set up in the center of the labyrinth. Now is the time to make a fortune in war. The northern front. Soldiers die in large numbers on the front lines every day. New recruits are deployed to the battlefield every day. Many deserters are captured by the stronghold in the labyrinth. These people will more or less become nourishment for Lin Chen's forces. Since Lin Chen ordered Lin Xintian and Lin Xinchuan to be released, they have been having a great time every day. Lin Xinchuan is like a fish in water with his stitched-up monsters here. Even now, there are terrifying legends of twisted monsters circulating within both the Gila army and the Orc Kingdom army on the southern battlefield. The nearby monsters are killed or captured. The previous adventurer's stronghold has also been upgraded. It is now called Moru Port. After 2 years of polishing, the scale of the small stronghold has long been expanded. There are more ships coming and going. Various adventurers' small boats, large ships imported from other places, and so on, all dock at this port. Once ashore, you can see some high-end hotels. After obtaining the qualification of an adventurer town, adventurers from all over are rushing to Moru Town. Moru Port is the first opportunity outside of Moru Town, and the merchants who come here are also seizing various markets. Now you can see all kinds of stalls and cheap weapons everywhere. Various small merchants are trying to establish themselves here, but they can't compete with some of the major forces that have settled in Moru Town. To be honest, the cheap things bought here may not necessarily be of lower quality than those in Moru Town. Of course, it is also possible to buy inferior goods. If the quality of the things sold is too poor, then the peddler is in danger. There is no law here. It is chaotic but full of vitality. Any conflicts can be resolved here. You can argue as much as you want. No one will stop you. However, the Adventurer Service Center and the Port Management Center established here cannot be disturbed. Otherwise, you will truly end up in a sorry state. At this moment, Ulsk is handling official business at the Adventurer Service Center here. He is eager to leave. Damn it, Stuart, is this what you call an adventure? It's better than staying in Monty Town, right? In Monty Town, no one pays attention to me. I can go to work and go home freely every day. Even if I can't go on adventures, I still have enough freedom. No. The freedom in Monty Town and the lack of freedom as a member of the Adventurer Association in Muru Town are completely different. It's useless to be free there. Even if you're not free here, the experiences you gain here are countless times more than there. Like the Blood Moon last time, the excitement here is incomparable to Monty Town. And there are all kinds of strange facilities and buildings here, which are much better than in Monty Town. Stop complaining. Now I'm completely stuck. The president of the Muru Town Adventurer Association has tied me up. I have to work here at the Adventurer Service Center he established for at least 5 years before I can transfer ownership. I have to work overtime every day during this period. Overtime? What's the big deal? Overtime is a blessing. Look at the people in the mayor's class at Muraine Academy. They all work overtime every day, barely getting 5 hours of rest. But the first group of people who persevered have already become teachers at Muraine Academy, or foremen at Muraine Factory, and a few even became officials in Muraine Town. They have achieved a higher standard of living. So, working hard and overtime is a blessing. The mayor's disciples are all working hard too. Ulsk fell silent for a moment. Forget it, not everyone has the fate to work and study under the mayor. Let's focus on doing our own work. After a few more years of accumulation, I can pursue what I truly want to do. Oh, going on an adventure? No, that's too vague. I want to travel the world. Before I met my superiors, I thought there was only the Gila Empire and the Orc Kingdom in the world. I knew nothing about anything else. The only places I've been to are the northern regions of the Gila Empire. Now that I've learned about the wider world, who would want to stay in their original prison? At least, I don't want to. Ha, you're still the same. But those things are too far away for me. I don't even have such thoughts. I just want to live well in the present. So, how is the intelligence on the snake orcs coming along? It's a big task. It's almost done. But the scale of this war is truly shocking. The total forces on the northern front line alone exceed 10 million. The snake people and their subordinates have a scale of 6 to 7 million, while the humans have less than 4 million. Fortunately, we applied for an adventurer town, so we can rest easy and even save some humans. Is it possible that one of the roles of the adventurer town is to be a thorn in the enemy's side after that front line is breached? The civilization level of the Orc Kingdom is very limited. On one hand, they face suppression from the Avia Elf Federation and the Gila Empire. On the other hand, the orcs don't like to use their brains. They prefer to solve things with strength rather than thinking. They prefer plundering over developing things like agriculture, but unfortunately, the surrounding countries are stronger than them. Only the half-orcs in the kingdom engage in activities like herding. There is no environment for cultivation within the Orc Kingdom, so famine is common. However, their famine problem has been alleviated to some extent in the past 70 years. The reason for this is the appearance of the Gila Labyrinth. The resources in the third-tier labyrinth are insignificant to the Gila Empire and the Avia Elf Federation, but they are crucial for the Orc Kingdom. Therefore, the Orc Kingdom attaches more importance to this labyrinth war than the Gila Empire and the Avia Elf Federation. Of course, they don't actually know the true nature of this war. In a marshland, numerous buildings similar to those in Vera's previous tribe stood here. If there was any difference, it would be that most of the buildings here were made of the skin of marsh-dwelling reptiles like snakes. Report. Your Highness, the Elf Federation has ordered us to launch a full-scale attack. A snake orc with green scales coiled at the highest position in the Grand Hall. It was clear that he resembled a beast more than a human. So soon? Well, it's good. We've been unsatisfied with this place for a long time. Getting more resources at this time is indeed a great opportunity, but Your Highness, it seems that there is an adventurous town where we are heading. Can the adventurous town of the Gila Empire still control our Orc Kingdom? Since the superiors of the adventurous town allowed its establishment there, it means that the high-level members of the Adventurers Association in this area have tacitly approved this matter. If we dare to act against them, the entire Orc Kingdom will be in trouble. Your Highness, please think twice. The Snake Orc Prince, who was challenged, had a very unpleasant expression on his face. How could I not know? Take him away. Your Highness, please think twice. Nothing can be done. Restricted everywhere. This is the current situation of our Orc Kingdom, but it will change soon. Immediately, the Snake Prince's face turned dark. Go and call my half-orc sister to lead the troops south. Doesn't she like martial arts? Let her train well. Take those lowly half-orcs with her. Unconsciously, it was already August. The new construction period had arrived. The human defense line had been pushed forward, not far from the central stronghold in the maze of the Muyu town. Both Muyu town and the central stronghold were now crowded. a large number of human deserters flooded in, and the slave-catching teams didn't even need to go out anymore, as those people were eager to become slaves. The major slave trading companies in Muyu Town were also fully engaged in selling people to gain huge profits. However, the number of people was still overflowing at this time, with at least 50,000 people in Muyu Town. Outside the third ring of Muyu Town were various crude shacks. There were even more people at the stronghold, and at this time, it was estimated that less than half of the people who were originally fighting on the front lines remained. This won't do. It will take time for Muyu Town to absorb this batch, and even the next batch, of population. As long as the front line can be stabilized, the strength of Muyu Town will increase exponentially. Next, Lin Chen needed to intervene in this war. In fact, Lin Chen had long wanted to go out and fight, but his foundation was limited. In order to start the war, Lin Chen had been prepared for a long time. The improved AO dog had been mass-produced in the factory for more than 5 months. Currently, there were already 10,000 of them in stock. Moreover, most of the users had experienced the Blood Moon. Their combat power was much stronger than those forcibly conscripted soldiers. During these few months, Lin Chen also successfully used the blood pattern to create something good. Perhaps it was an obsession with not being able to successfully create a book before. After 5 months of debugging, Lin Chen used the leather book he had been recording experiments with to create the first magical item. Lin Chen used that leather book, along with a blood eye, as the main ingredient, and added enhancements, flames, and detonation. Finally, he created a magic book with its own consciousness. Yes, it had its own consciousness. Lin Chen discovered this when he experimented with a blood eye before. Currently, Lin Chen had no clue, so he could only attribute it to the power of the Blood Moon creations. The consciousness of this magic book seemed quite friendly towards Lin Chen, so he temporarily stopped thinking about these things. Sometimes, it's necessary to not seek full understanding. It's not something that can be known at this stage, and exploring it might not be a good thing either. In addition to these, Lin Chen had previously ordered his goblins to start producing weapons at full capacity. As of now, Lin Chen could sense that the number of blue-skin goblins had exceeded 30,000. The total number of goblins was estimated to be over 300,000. They already had the ability to influence the local war situation. Next, join the war. It's not just to buy time and develop Muyu Town, but also because Lin Chen couldn't hold back anymore. This kind of large-scale war is the most interesting thing. It's been over 4 years since he crossed over. Finally, he can have a big fight. Naturally, he couldn't directly bring his army to participate in the war. How can others distinguish whether you are a friend or foe like that? Lin Chen communicated with the Storm Church in Muyu Town in advance. It took more than a month of delay to finally obtain the approval. The efficiency during wartime is so impressive. I really don't know what the usual level is like. After obtaining the approval, Lin Chen recruited 50,000 people and went to the front line, with 10,000 of them being combatants and the others being used to transport food and various slimes. Muyu Town kept operating, transporting supplies to the stronghold, and then continuously using trucks to bring them to the front line. Although Gandas has a high acceptance of different species, it is still strange to directly bring goblins to support. If it is done like this, it looks more like an enemy than the army of the Orc Kingdom. As expected, the person in charge of the northern front line is a member of the Storm Church. After submitting the documents to him, he asked Lin Chen to guard the northeast direction. This is exactly what Lin Chen wanted. Without much communication with them, Lin Chen went to his own area. Is that person the mayor of Muyu Town? Just lucky, he happened to be there when Miss needed the adventurer town. Just a clown, not staying in the adventurer town to do things and coming here to die. Hee. Crossing the muddy swamp, Lin Chen arrived at an even muddier swamp. There were a large number of barracks stationed here. Obviously, this is the front line. It is estimated that it is only about 20 kilometers away from the stronghold. Since the outbreak of the war, the front line has been pushed forward a lot. According to this progress, it is estimated that it will reach the vicinity of Muyu Town within a week. Soldiers in armor were waving whips to drive away poorly dressed people and set up defenses. Lin Chen directly doubted that the possession rate of weapons on the front line was not very high. Stop! Who goes there? How dare you trespass the front line? Humph! You must have come back with those deserters to surrender. After saying that, the person waved his whip and lashed at Lin Chen. In an instant, blood splattered. The person's head was directly severed. Kill! Kill the officer! The entire camp fell into chaos. Who are you? How dare you kill an officer without authorization? Lin Chen didn't answer him and walked straight ahead. Ha! You guys have quite an attitude. Saying that, Lin Chen took out a letter of appointment from the Storm Church. When those people saw Lin Chen take out the book, they all knelt down instantly. They didn't care about the muddy ground and knocked their heads on the ground. We were blind and didn't recognize Mount Tai. We didn't know that you are the new commander. Please spare us, sir. We didn't know. We don't deserve to die. Alright. Who was your previous highest ranking officer? Reporting to the commander, there was none. Call him to see me. Ha? None? Yes, commander, there was none at all. Ha? It seems that your life and death are not really being cared about. But overall, it seems that the lives of the lower-class people in this area are not really being cared about. The entire front line is desolate. As long as the Orc Kingdom attacks, Lin Chen doesn't know how long they can hold on here. How many people can be mobilized here? Those people hesitated for a long time and couldn't come up with a reasonable answer. Alright, you don't need to stay here anymore. The commander will be appointed by me from now on. Now those people were really panicked, each showing fear on their faces. And you, whether you were forced to come here or not, I am taking over as the commander here, so you have to listen to me. Now, I issue the first order. Those who whipped you have been dismissed. Within an hour, whoever brings me their heads will receive the same status as them. Apart from the sound of rain, there was no other sound on the battlefield. The frontline soldiers forgot to act, and the previous officers forgot to escape. You have half an hour left. It was like igniting a barrel of explosives. Those soldiers crazily chased after the officers. The fleeing officers frantically tore at their clothes, praying to the church that those people wouldn't find them. Unfortunately, it was in vain. Oppression breeds resentment, and the effect of accumulated resentment that erupts after a period of time is quite remarkable. All the oppressors were driven out and killed without exception. 300 heads were piled up in front of Lin Chen. Alright, you 300 are promoted to squad leaders. I will appoint someone as a platoon leader, and she went. You will become a company commander. Assign each squad properly, restore the defensive structures according to the way of Nurain Town. After stabilizing, give me an accurate count of the number of people. Armed personnel go to the front line for vigilance, and the other 40,000 people start transporting supplies. Yes, sir. The whole crowd responded to Lin Chen, but those who were saved shouted particularly loudly. Under the torrential rain, the entire front line was busy. Although it was still constructing mechanical defensive fortifications, it was much more lively than before. A large number of slimes were transported here and built walls. A large number of slimes were placed outside the city gates to absorb water. Because the snake orcs obviously liked water, things like moats could only have a secondary effect. The arrival of food earned Lin Chen countless praises. Under the torrential rain, a 300,000-strong army quietly arrived at the concealed stronghold that Lin Chen had prepared in advance from the eastern waters. Why did they urgently transfer the goblins here? Because the half-orcs were about to launch an attack. Lin Chen had been constructing defensive fortifications here for nearly a month, and the enemy was not idle either, steadily mobilizing troops and supplies to advance. The Orc Kingdom's army camp was now less than 20 kilometers away from Lin Chen's location. They would definitely launch an attack before the blood moon. A quick look around showed that the defensive fortifications in other places were really limited in their effectiveness. It seemed that some special measures had to be taken. Princess 17, the supplies and troops are all in place. As long as you give the order, we can launch a new round of attacks. Soft and shiny hair was tied behind her head, the clean silk robe outlined her exaggerated figure, and her round arms were as white as lotus roots, while her delicate and weak fingers were holding a piece of bread and chewing it. With slightly parted lips, a hint of a pointed tongue and white teeth were visible as she swallowed the food crumbs. However, beneath the loose silk robe, there were unintentional movements that produced faint friction sounds, and the smooth snake scales reflected the incoming light, appearing particularly enchanting. This human thing is really not bad, but it's a pity it's plain. Have you observed anything unusual recently? I will report to you, Your Highness. The defenses on the eastern front have been reinforced. Scouts say that people from some adventurer town have settled there. Adventurer town? What exactly is that? My dear elder brother must have given me such great achievements just because of this adventurer town. The entire hall fell silent, with only Adelice continuously tapping the table with her index finger. Sigh. Never mind, regardless, pushing southward is necessary. I will personally oversee the Eastern Theater, and the others will proceed according to the original plan. We must advance another 20 kilometers before the blood moon arrives. Yes, Your Highness. After making up her mind, the entire hall did not defy her, and everyone silently withdrew to carry out each task according to her previous instructions. The Snake Half-Beast Legion began to mobilize, and various resources were called upon. This is why Adelice, a half-beast of humble birth, can be recognized as the princess of the Snake Beast tribe. In the eyes of all the snake half-beasts, she is beautiful and noble. Even among the snake beasts, she has a certain prestige. As they patrolled the city walls, venomous globules rained down from above, landing on the city defenses. The ordinary soldiers who were hit were instantly melted, not a drop of blood left behind. Perhaps not leaving any bloodshed on the battlefield was their final contribution. The venom, combined with the rainwater, spread in all directions, causing cries of pain from the city walls. The entire wall was slowly corroding. However, Lin Chen seemed oblivious to it all, continuing to watch the enemy from the wall. There were also a group of people on the wall holding AO dogs, wearing protective suits and supervising others. Those who couldn't bear it would be helped to find release. Those who wanted to escape would be liberated directly. The entire city defense was enveloped in a strange atmosphere. Just then, S.C. Vincent arrived by Lin's side. Master, the wall can hold for at most 3 days, and all our soldiers are in position. Continue mobilizing those soldiers, make sure they don't lose their composure when the time comes. Yes, Master. Your Highness, the enemy wall is about to collapse. Adelice did not respond, continuing to manipulate the sand table in front of her. Why do you think our scouts sent out earlier didn't bring back any useful information? Your Highness, our scouts encountered a group of labyrinth goblins. It was just bad luck. Their numbers were not small, so they should pose a greater threat to the humans. It's not a problem that they didn't bring back useful information, but it's very abnormal that none of those water snakes we sent out came back. The enemy must have a strong underwater force. Those humans haven't used them before, so it must be because of that adventurer town. Next, the army will advance together with the venomous war vehicles, and we will attack from a place far from the water. We'll temporarily ignore those goblins. The subordinate hesitated for a moment, then firmly replied, Yes, Your Highness. The snake half-beast army began its attack. The troops advanced with the war vehicles. Venomous shells were continuously fired along the way. After a slow march of 5 hours, the army arrived in front of the city wall. By this time, the entire wall had collapsed, and behind the wall were densely packed snake venom ponds created by the venomous shells. Strangely, there was no one around the entire defensive line. Cease fire and continue advancing. After another 5 kilometers, Adelice finally saw the enemy's army. Fire at will, kill with all our might. Adelice charged at the forefront of the army, not only confident in her own strength, but also concerned for the lives of her soldiers. Adelice was full of momentum, but Lin Chen's defense line was in a sorry state. The two armies clashed, and Lin Chen's line was immediately broken. The scene was filled with cries of pain. What was Lin Chen doing at this time? He was leading the goblins to occupy Adelice's previous stronghold. He also had Lin Qingtian and Lin Qingchuan push westward from their base, frantically harvesting resources and cutting off their supply lines. Yes, from the beginning, Lin Chen had no intention of caring about the lives and deaths of those humans. His goal was simply to stop the advance of the half-beast army. After the supply line was destroyed, no food or supplies could be transported. The delaying effect was naturally achieved, and it didn't necessarily require holding the front line. Furthermore, Lin Chen's defense line might not necessarily be unable to hold. On the front battlefield, Adelice felt like she was in a deserted place. Wherever the battle went, heads rolled. The wriggling snake scales were stained with blood. Along the way, she encountered a little trouble. These people actually had something that could shoot poisonous arrows. If it weren't for her talent, that toxin wouldn't have affected Adelice. She would have been in trouble. After driving away those humans, her deputy ran up to her and reported, Your Highness, there's a message from the rear. The goblins have occupied our stronghold. Adelice frowned. Why did those brainless goblins choose this moment? Thinking about the underwater defeat of the water snakes, she had a guess. The armored division and the 1st Legion stay behind. The rest of you come with me to defend. Just as she gave the order, there was a loud commotion in the center of the battlefield. It's not so easy to leave now. The flesh and blood of the dead on the battlefield floated towards the person speaking. Adelice looked in that direction and saw the person kneeling before a strange book. Strange blood-colored patterns were slowly appearing on his body. The surrounding blood was slowly converging towards him. Adelice didn't understand what this thing was, but it definitely wasn't advantageous for them. Attack, break that person. The nearest soldier stepped forward and swung his blade. Unfortunately, the blade stopped halfway. Blood spikes pierced through the person's body from the ground. The same thing happened to the other ordinary soldiers, and the area within tens of meters around Svent gradually turned into a dead zone. Anyone who stepped in would die. Witnessing all of this, Adelice quickly ordered, all ordinary soldiers retreat to the stronghold. No, wait, retreat to the central war zone. Let the venomous tanks cleanse that area. The previous stronghold was definitely not safe now. It would be more appropriate to move those ordinary troops to other war zones directly. The venom sprayed into the center of the battlefield. Svent, who was kneeling before the book, remained motionless. The gathered flesh and blood formed a huge protective umbrella, blocking the incoming venom. The blood gradually gathered into a storm, lifting Svent into the air. If one observed carefully, they would see that all the blood converged on the bloodshot eyes of the book. Any attack was blocked by the bloodstorm. The rain fell heavily. Adelice silently stared at the blood book. It was impossible for the army of 1.5 million to retreat completely. Adelice still had to help with the rear guard. After taking a deep breath, Adelice's snake pupils and the scales beneath her emitted a green light. Many followers behind her were in the same state. They were among the few snake half-beast people who had awakened the talent of petrification. After a moment of charging up, countless green lights covered the entire battlefield. Everything was petrified. Svent in the center of the battlefield was no exception. Regroup, immediately go to the central war zone. We'll settle the score after the blood moon. Adelice's subordinates were starting to speak up, urgently replying to her, Your Highness, those goblins are no match for us. Let's go back and kill them directly. Humph, you think. Before she could finish her sentence, there was a disturbance in the center of the battlefield. On top of the gray statue, blood-red patterns kept appearing, until they formed a complete blood pattern. This was the detonation. A large amount of blood energy overflowed from the blood pattern. Svent broke free from the petrification. He raised the strange book high, and blood energy spewed out from the bloodshot eyes, enveloping Svent, gradually forming a robe similar to that of a priest. He looked down at the half-orcs on the ground. My lord forbids you to move forward. The overwhelming bloodlust obeys the command. Drown them. You guys can leave. What's coming next doesn't seem like something you can participate in. After saying that, Adelice rushed towards Svent. A blue fighting spirit burst out directly from her body. This fighting spirit is a prerequisite for becoming a knight. It was originally researched by human mages, and ordinary people can awaken it through fighting spirit seeds. Of course, those who can obtain fighting spirit seeds are generally not ordinary. Another way is through self-awakening, which most knight families can do. For someone like Adelice, who has her status, obtaining fighting spirit is very simple. But it is difficult to train well. It requires training day and night. Obviously, Adelice is a very diligent and hard-working person. The blue fighting spirit shot towards Svent. A flash of blood. Bloodshot eyes emitted a hot beam of light, directly